Welcome to the Lounge Lizards podcast, best of 2023 episode. It's so good to have you here. It's a leisure and lifestyle podcast founded on our love of premium cigars, as well as whiskey, travel, food, work, and whatever else we feel like getting into. My name is Gizmo, and I'm joined by Rooster, Puba, Senator, Pagoda, Grinder, and Bam Bam. And our plan is always to smoke a cigar, drink a spirit, talk about life, and of course, have some laughs. So take this as yet another invitation to join us and become a card-carrying lounge lizard. Plan to meet us here once a week. We're going to go through some of our and your favorite clips from the last year. So sit back, get your favorite drink, light up a cigar, and enjoy as we review an amazing year of cigars and spirits from 2023. We began last year's best of with the origin of the lizard nicknames. And this year we begin by answering a listener email with the story of how we all met and how the lounge lizards were formed. We had a listener ask us, how did the lizards meet? We went on episode 3, Puba went through how we got the lizard names, but I don't know if we've ever gone through how we all met.
Yeah.
Can I start
We
this?
all met at one place.
Yeah.
We did, but it was all in stages. That's kind of the coolest part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the guys here who knew each other
First.
the longest would be...
I was there the longest. I joined that place right when they opened up,
Right.
maybe a month or two later. and then
1940s.
Bam was next.
I joined
Bam
when you
was
got back from the
next.
war.
You needed a smoke just to tell.
So
It's very
long.
rare we go in on Rooster, so I'm
Readjusting
enjoying
to-
it.
It's true.
readjusting to civilian life.
You rotated
you-
back to the world.
You and Bam would have met
Bam.
first
Yeah.
at that lounge.
I think
Right.
we've known each other the longest, I think.
And how did that happen, actually? I'm not even sure I know the full story. How did you guys meet at the lounge?
Well, can you imagine Bam walking in and you don't he's very
So dapper.
Got a
so
presence.
yeah, he's got a presence. He says hello to everyone, and
Very
me and him just hit
gregarious.
it off.
Oh, you
away.
mean to say
Very nice.
magnetic?
We,
yeah.
we
Right.
actually talked about recycling tires. That was the
That's
first.
true. That's
We
true.
almost went into business together.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
were going to do that.
Bam,
we were
Bam
also
was
gonna
Bam
do
was very well
a
loved
mobile.
at that lounge.
What was that? We
Thank
were going
you.
to do something.
Thank you.
Some
Thank
kind
you.
of a mobile van to to,
Yeah, I was we were
tailors.
gonna call it the mobile man.
mobile man.
You can have a cigar, get a haircut, and have a shirt made for
That's
you.
awesome.
Ooh.
Right in your driveway.
Wow.
Untuck it.
Yeah.
So,
So-
these were all great conversations that we had at that lounge over cigars, and
Right.
nothing happened.
Oh, they didn't fall in love.
Nothing
Ah.
panned.
So after
it was
you
cool.
guys met, then you would have met Grinder, right?
And then,
Yes.
Yeah.
Grinder next.
Then Grinder was there, and Grinder. The biggest thing with Grinder was he was like, "Who's sitting here?"
Yeah, he's got the laptop,
Grinder.
his equipment.
Whose laptop is that? That's Grinder's. So he would work at the lounge,
But
and
he
he
knew-
would spend the whole day there.
Yeah, but he knew how to spread out.
yeah,
and
but
take real
he
estate.
was working. He was on his call, and he was
Yes.
I was grinding.
he was
you were.
grinding. He was grinding away. Yeah, that was awesome. And I guess the next
I had
person
a
that-
lot of good conversations with Rooster. Late
yeah,
night
we did.
conversations with Rooster, which really for me, I'm a, I don't open up as easy, but in those moments, I think that
We
solidified
did.
my friendship with you.
Mhm.
It takes alcohol night. on a
I think
cigar.
I
There were some of those nights.
I forced my way into friendship with Grinder. I just jumped right into what you were
I have
doing.
layers.
So then you were next, right,
Senator
Senator?
was
Yeah,
next.
I met Rooster and Bam first, ironically, because Grinder was traveling a lot, as was I, but not as much as he was. And I met these two guys, and I still remember it was one of the two of you who I'm like sitting there smoking a Padron Exclusivo, my favorite stick, and one of these guys just goes, "Do you only smoke Padrones?"
I asked you that.
It was Bam.
I did.
He just
Because
literally-
every time I walked in, all he had in his hand was an Exclusiva.
yeah.
And honestly, if you have to start off, that's an excellent way to start off.
That's a good way to
Come on.
start.
Oh,
Good
I
way
just-
to finish.
I mean-
all these years later, it's still I love that cigar. And then would be Puba, who I first met at the lounge, I think before the full group. And I think similar career experience, talking a lot about marketing and advertising and cigars.
Didn't Puba and
well, yeah,
Gizmo kind
but
of joined the lounge at the same
I
time?
I feel like it's possible, but I feel like
I was
feel
about a
like
month or two
Gizman
after.
Yes.
That's
ki-
right.
was
That's
started
right.
to make his way in after.
I think you joined in
After
October.
that, I was
Huh?
very
Before?
I was very confused. Well, I connected with Senator immediately, and I was like, "This is an interesting guy," And we had similar careers, marketing, consulting, things like that. And I'm like, this is a smart guy, been around. He's interesting to talk to.
He's all right.
But there was this.
No one's asking you.
But there was.
I'll turn off my mic.
And then of course, Rooster was around a lot. Bam was, but not as much.
In fact,
at the time that
CUBA was a rumor for me for a little while.
You were a rumor for me for a long time.
And then I met you, and I met Puba.
Yeah.
After a little bit.
But there was the point I was getting at was there was a very so I'm feeling things out now. You got to, put yourself in the situation where it's like, at this point we're just acquaintances.
Yeah.
We're acquaintances.
We're not
too close acquaintances yet, and we're not friends yet.
We're just running into each other.
We're just doing a thing, right? So like, there's this odd juxtaposition of Senator and this other member that was so strange. And it took me, I'd say, a good 4 months to actually start to figure it out, where I'd get Senator alone and I'd say, hey, like, what is going on with this guy who was attached at his hip at all times. Now, as an outsider looking in, I'm thinking he's like best friends with this guy. At least that's outwardly from an outsider looking in. And I'm saying, I don't see how this relationship is possible, feasible, in any sort of reality.
My response was basically, this is the tolerated idiot at the lounge.
Right.
The village idiot.
Right.
And I think you were trying to save him in a way.
I mean, we all were. I mean, this was the problem. So we
called me an idiot?
It's
but as somebody looking in as just an acquaintance, it was very strange.
So this was the challenge. We had a difficult member at the lounge that not a lot of folks really connected with or got along with, and he was there a lot. And all of us would sit there kind of in frustration. And I think we finally realized, like, okay, if he's going to be here and is not going to be kicked out of here, the only way to make this better is to try to change him, to just kind of bring him into the fold, and maybe he'll become a lizard. Mold him. Exactly. I think we've obviously learned we failed at that, but that was that attempt started right when I met Puba. And so Puba's sitting there like,
he couldn't compute it.
How does this?
It wasn't.
How does this work?
Right. It was the same for me.
Yeah.
When I joined.
That's right.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. I'm sitting there having an awkward conversation with this guy, and Senator's also there. And I'm like, there's no way this guy is friends with Senator, the other guy. There's no way that this is working.
But right in your mind, you're saying that, but like outwardly, it's not what it's not.
Acceptance.
It's not what it appears to be. So that was confusing, but that got sorted. Thank God.
Yeah,
I remember when Gizmo joined.
I was about to say something.
I was the first to meet Gizmo.
I didn't meet him for a while, but what I liked about your demeanor, you didn't try to take over a conversation. You were very cool, casual, relaxed.
You were a great foil to that other guy we were talking about.
100%.
Yeah, you're the diametric opposite of that.
What I will say about Gizmo, so I was the first to meet Gizmo. I was there on an afternoon, and I would work there kind of like Grindr we were talking about would do the same. And Gizmo walks in, and my immediate take on Gizmo, this is one of the most polite, nicest people I've ever encountered. I was literally stunned, and no bullshit, no appearances, like very transparent. And Gizmo walks in like he just joins, and you have a cigar credit you get at this place.
Like an allotment type thing.
Exactly. And so Gizmo comes up with these cigars, and I'm sitting there smoking a Padron. And I said to Gizmo, like,
would you like a chocolate?
Thank God at that time he didn't do that. Honestly, that would have soured him for me a little bit.
I missed those chocolates. I missed the chocolate. I've had a few.
Thanks, Pam.
And so Gizmo sits down next to me. And
Bouchard era.
Bouchard era.
It was awesome.
And we start chatting a little bit. And I said, oh, what do you like? And what I really respected about him, like, he didn't make any allusions to start. He wasn't like, oh, well, I smoke a lot of cigars. This is what I smoke. He's like, honestly, I probably consider myself a novice cigar smoker. Like, here's what I got downstairs, what I normally smoke. And I said, have you had a Padron before? And he says, no. And I said, all right, just give me a second. And anyone that knows me, again, if I'm going to share a cigar, I think it's someone who's worth sharing something with. So I go to my locker, I bring him a Exclusivo, and Gizmo takes a few puffs of this cigar, And the look on his face, I'll never forget. It was just like the whole world was open to him. And
It was Opie. It was
Wait,
Opie.
did he not go downstairs and return?
Well,
what he
that's
got,
where I'm going.
and he
Yeah,
bought all
that's
that
where I'm
stuff?
going.
I
So-
just looked at him. I said, I think I fucked up.
Yeah. So literally, that's what he says to me. He's like, I think I fucked up.
I
He's like,
remember this.
after smoking this cigar, he's like, I don't want any of the stuff I just bought. I said, don't worry about it. Go downstairs.
They'll take it
Say,
back.
Senator gave you a Padron, and now you're hooked on Padron, and you want to exchange everything you bought.
That's
I
Or
right.
remember
Padrones,
that. I feel
even
like
if it
I was
costs
there
more.
for that.
You
I was
might have
there.
been. You might have
I
been.
was there for that. I
And so
remember
he
that.
literally goes downstairs, and this is how
Yeah.
I knew he was a lizard. Exchanges everything he just bought and just buys Padrones,
I
and we've
remember
been
this.
friends ever since.
Dude,
I remember
love
this.
it.
He came up with like he came up with the package. He came up
Yeah.
with
With the little
You
bag.
know,
the
that
bag.
was a graduation for you at that moment.
It's true.
Yeah.
I remember when before Gizmo joined, every time I would walk into the lounge, every single person would say, "You have to meet this guy, Gizmo.
Mm.
He is great. You're gonna love him." Every single person, every
Nice.
single member at the lounge said that about you.
That's the
which
first
is-
time I'm hearing it. This is new
paid-
information.
He paid them in
I did.
chocolates.
Bouchard chocolates with dividends.
For the listener, I'm not sure exactly when this started, but Gizmo would start coming into the lounge with this giant Costco bag of Bouchard chocolates that he liked to enjoy while he was smoking a cigar. And I mean, he'd be sitting there just tossing chocolates around like Willy Wonka. It was so funny to everybody in the lounge. So he very quickly ingratiated himself.
So the very interesting, the kind of interesting thing about this somewhat odd habit that he developed was that in reality, you were eating such copious amounts of chocolate while smoking cigars that it was part of your repertoire, but you would give them out and you'd go, sometimes you're like, sure, like I'll have a chocolate. Because one, you don't want to be rude, and it's also chocolate. I mean, it doesn't taste bad. It's good. So you taste the chocolate, and I go, I remember a couple times going, you know what? That actually pairs pretty well with the cigar. It does. It really does.
It
and
did.
It did. And so I guess there is some merit to chocolate in cigars. I think
Oh,
there's
yeah.
been some tastings, and I've seen stuff in
Raspberry
cigar
dark chocolate.
aficionado.
Yeah.
But it wasn't bad.
The funny thing
It wasn't bad having chocolate with cigars.
A
It was
lot
the
of-
amount of it was the
Yeah.
it was the copious amounts of
And
chocolate.
the frequency.
Oh,
the
yeah.
frequency,
I mean, he
yeah.
rolled in every day with this bag of chocolate. It was unbelievable. Now, the funny thing is, most of the members appreciated it. However, the proprietor of the
Oh,
lounge
no.
did not appreciate it.
Not at all.
And were very angry if they would see a Bouchard chocolate wrapper in an ashtray
That's
somewhere.
right.
So
So this
That's right.
became like a big rub.
Yep.
Oh yeah, they had a problem with everything.
Everything.
It couldn't
Tells you a lot
was-
about them.
There was problems with everything, and the preoccupation with the proprietor's behavior almost became. It became like too dominant, like in our
Sure.
lives. It was like control. It was like controlling our lives.
So
we were
it's
like,
safe-
I'm out.
It was
It's
like
safe to-
1984, like the Puppet Master.
It's safe to say the element of hospitality evaporated there.
Very
Completely
quickly.
agree.
Yeah,
Very
it
quickly.
evaporated.
Which then brings us,
especially as we all started collectively getting together. But
Yeah.
go ahead and
which then brings us to our last lizard that was brought into the fold. And I felt bad because this was right at the point at which
Yeah.
we started to have a very contentious relationship with management, as Puba likes to
That's
say.
right. Contentious is very mild.
And so enter Pagoda, who I think met Rooster first.
That's right.
that's true.
That's right. So I was at the lounge. I think it was an afternoon, maybe a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon. And we used to sit by that fireplace, right? So that's where all the members used to sit. And Pagoda was sitting in the corner. And I smoked a cigar. And when I'm done, I'm walking out the door. And I just look from the corner of my eye. I see this guy sitting there in the corner. I'm like, he looks Indian.
Really?
A good-looking Indian.
Oh, yeah.
Very attractive Indian
Good
gentleman.
looking, handsome Indian boy sitting alone.
Dare I say Bollywood material?
Indian boy.
So I introduced myself and we started chatting for a little bit. I said, where do you live? He goes, Richwood. I'm like, so how come you've never been here? It's like, I don't know. It just, I came one day and I've been thinking about joining a lounge. I said, yeah, you should join this lounge. It's right in town. It's a beautiful spot. And I think he might have even joined like the very same day.
Yeah,
and,
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I walked up and I saw Pagoda and I asked him if he was single. Kidding, I'm kidding. I joke.
It's a joke.
It's a joke. I kid.
And that British accent, I was like,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
in love. It was
Ooh, la la.
love at first sight.
The funny thing,
Very
with-
exotic.
Oh yeah.
the funny thing with-
Oh my lord. Oh my
He
lord.
looked at me and he goes, I said, are you single? He goes, as a matter of fact, I am.
Do you want some fish and chips?
The funny thing with Pagoda, so I was there when Rooster first met him. And so after they chatted, we started chatting a little bit. And we found out that like both of us lived in DC for a period of time. So we were connecting on that. And when I really knew Pagoda was a lizard was, let's say a few days later, Pagoda joins the lounge. He's at the lounge and he brings everything to make Manhattans.
Oh, cool. I wasn't there for that.
And
I
I was
missed that.
sitting there saying, that's a lizard move. Like, this isn't some bullshit
Yeah,
kit
he
to
had the
make
orange peel and everything. right?
everything to make a perfect
Very
Manhattan.
detailed.
And he's basically bartending. He's like, do you want a Manhattan? Do you want a drink? And I was like, this guy's going to fit in
Mhm.
perfectly here.
So I was the last to meet Pagoda. We met. Very nice. We were.
The
so
North-
what-
Very
yes.
Your imprint on me was at the North Lounge.
Yeah, the North Lounge.
If you guys remember, I think you were all there.
Oh, I know
Yep.
this.
Oh, dude. I was I'm exhausted. I think everyone was 4 or 5 cigars in. I just turned to him and say, "Are you done?" And what does he say? I'm never done.
I'm never done.
I'm never done.
I'm never done.
That is the quintessential lizard phrase right there.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
And I found my conversations. There were times that we hung out, like
Yeah.
because where I'd come to the lounge, and Pagoda would just be there. And sometimes you had a friend with you, one of your best friends. I forget his
Yeah, yeah.
name.
Danny.
Right, cool guy. And I remember sitting with Pagoda and just kind of like and just talking to him and asking him questions about where he grew up.
Bitcoin.
No. Like I was very interested in like where he grew up, about his life, and all this stuff. And I remember just walking away from these. We had great conversations. It was a great place to have a conversation.
was.
That
It
lounge.
was.
I remember the
Yeah.
one night, the three of us hung out and we drank so much. It was me, my buddy, and you.
Yeah.
And we talked about the city and every place. It was like the conversation with Senator's dad.
Yeah.
We had talked about every place and we had kind of been to the same places,
That's cool.
albeit me years later.
Well, right. And then we're thinking about how old.
I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, but it was also like it's like we were like, oh my God, we're so old now.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about like Angelo and Maxie's and Park Avalon and the Lemon
Park Avalon.
and all those
Oh.
places on Park Avenue South and all those
All of
joints,
them,
all
all
those joints, right? Yeah, the Union Bar and all that shit. And like, talking about it, I'm going, oh yeah, because it was kind of like pre-COVID, during COVID. It was pre-COVID.
In the beginning of COVID, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, that summer.
And we were just like kind of like lamenting the fact that everything was shut down, but it was very interesting. I remember walking
this was-
away from the conversation just saying, "This is an interesting guy."
Yeah.
This was back when we were smoking through our masks.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
Did you join after COVID?
No, after I joined.
Before,
No, I joined the late after the summer of 20. Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
So after
So
the
I joined
summer
it. So I think Puba joined in May or June of 20.
Mhm.
And
I
I
joined
joined-
in August of 20, and I
and he
think
joined after.
October.
Pagoda
Yeah,
joined
October
in
and November.
October.
So I was
or
wondering
somewhere
why,
around
like
November.
during COVID, when everything was shut down, these guys would come over to my place. And
Yeah.
he wasn't there.
Yeah,
so,
Pagoda, the same. even
that's
mine.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Because that's right.
we met
Because
after.
because the that's right, it's coming back to me. The I joined actually specifically because I was like, all the bars are shut down, everything is done, can't have a cigar anywhere. And I was only really looking for actually a place for me to go
Get out of
to
the
have a
house.
cigar and get out of the house and have a drink out of the house. Like
Same,
that's
yeah.
how desperate times it was, but ended up falling into
A
like
li-
this
a lizard
wonderful,
den.
this wonderful group of people.
Yeah.
And we were going there a lot because guess what? It was the only game in town.
It's all we did.
Yeah,
That's true.
I mean, this is when like literally like everything stopped. The kind of world shut down, and we're all sitting there like business owners, whatever we're doing, and like we don't know what's next. And so we had a lot of free time. I mean, honestly, like business grinded to a halt.
Yeah.
So we were at the lounge. Then when the lounge even closed for a bit, we were at Rooster's place, my place, and
Mhm.
we'd smoke cigars and just kind of, pass the time.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about the dynamic, I mean, this group kind of glued together really fast
Yep.
and almost unintentionally before there was a text chain, before any of that, certainly well before this podcast. But, what's interesting that I'd like to share with the listeners, the fact that the genesis for the podcast was the fact that we were having these conversations just without microphones and headphones.
Right.
Like we would sit down, we'd all probably smoke either the same cigar or similar, talk about it, and then interject these other conversations. We were doing this 3-4
Yeah,
times a week.
And we would dissect the cigars as a group, and that conversation was always enjoyable.
Absolutely.
Always.
Yeah, no
'Cause
matter
I would-
where we were.
Personally, I would learn a lot from the discussions, and I think we all learned from each other a little bit.
Of course.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and at that time too, which was interesting, I think all of us as collectively were exploring cigars outside of our comfort zone, and we were kind of like bringing different things to the table. Whether and it was there was mostly D4s and Monty 2s in terms of Cubans that were being smoked, but there was the group collectively as a group, we came together and it became this catalyst for and we were talking about this offline during the week, this catalyst for like sharing new cigars. And
Yeah.
it was a very quick acceleration of where it was like, I'm getting this box, I'm going to share it. I had this cigar, I'm going to share it. I sourced this Cuban, I'm going to share it. And we began, sharing things back and forth. And I mean, I remember examples. Oh, well, maybe Bolivar isn't my favorite or something like that. And it's like, well, you know what? Try this. And it was like, oh, well, you know what? Maybe my mind has been changed. And then going back and forth with these things and saying, and we were slowly gaining alignment around some of the things that we liked, particularly within the Habanos catalog. There was a huge exploration, like an archaeological fucking dig.
We all went
do you know
down.
what I mean?
We all went down the rabbit hole together.
Well, that
20,
well,
20,
well,
20.
that's, this is
Deep,
the funny thing.
very deep
This
down
is
the
the
rabbit
funny
hole.
thing.
It's true.
So lizards learn very quickly because I mean, Rooster, Bam, Grinder, and I knew each other for at least a year before I had met the rest of you guys.
Mhm.
And we had started toward the tail end, like right when these guys joined, we started ordering Cubans together.
It's so true.
And the
that's-
funny thing is,
Go ahead. I have
like
something to
I
say.
remember
Yeah.
when I met, like, I mean, all these, honestly, I mean, obviously, Giz was not even smoking New Worlds that I would normally smoke. And so
Right.
like, this was like a crazy acceleration with him. I remember even with Puba, he's like, well, where do you get real Cubans? And so I was telling him some of the sites that we were using. The funny thing is the pandemic hits and everybody's got a lot more time. And I would remember Puba would call me and he is down the YouTube vortex on
Yeah.
Cubans like you couldn't
YouTube.
imagine.
Oh
Yeah.
But what was unbelievable, like in such a short amount of time,
It's so true.
like Puba's telling me about certain cigar. I'm like, I don't even know that existed. And it was just like the when I say lizards learn quickly,
yeah.
it was unbelievable. Gizmo, who hadn't been on the Padrones yet at that point,
Right.
and then you fast forward, he's starting to try Cubans, and now, I mean, Gizmo arguably has the best collection here. At least one of the
it's
best.
unbelievable.
It's got
Yeah.
6 cabs of
I mean,
Lucy's.
It's insane.
7.
8.
7.5.
And then it was like, Pagoda, who like was like, well, I don't really smoke Cubans. And then we get him down this Cuban rabbit hole. Now
Yeah.
he has a tower with Cubans full. Like,
So that was
it's unbelievable.
that was a pinnacle moment for a lot of us. For me personally, I didn't even that was the first time during that time period that I had an Exclusivo.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I was a Padron Family Reserve guy. And then Senator handed me the Exclusivo. It took me maybe a month and I gravitated away from that ultra full flavor Family Reserve line to the Exclusivo. And now that was for me a deep dive into Padron. But I refused at that time to smoke Cubans. And little by little, you would hand me a P2, Senator. Another guy in the lounge would hand me a Monty too. I think someone else. I think Rooster.
When Rooster got that box, can we just talk about this for a quick second?
One quote, one little thing. That's when my world opened regarding Cuban cigars dramatically.
Yeah.
And I really started to just listen to every word that all of you said. And that's where I learned a lot.
Do you remember? So this was before some of the guys had joined the lounge. But Rooster, when you got, and Bam, you might have bought this too. This is like one of my biggest regrets of not buying a box of cigars.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Do you remember that Monte Cristo 85th anniversary cigar?
Yes.
It came in a black lacquer box.
And a velvet case. And a velvet wrapping.
And Rooster bought a box of these, and he comes in the lounge, and he sits down next to me, and he's like, Senator, you got to try this cigar. It's really good. And I'm looking at it. It has a very light wrapper. I'm like, oh, it's probably too mild for me. I'm not going to enjoy that. And I lit that up with him, and oh my gosh, it just totally expanded my horizons. And I was smoking Cubans. I mean, my wedding cigar was a Partagas D4 many years before I met any of the guys here. I loved Cuban cigars, but my range in Cubans was not what it is now.
No.
And
for all of us, by the way.
That was amazing. I remember we all had a night. We went out to some restaurant and we were smoking that exact cigar. Ben was there. It was incredible.
It was fantastic.
Beirut.
No, but that's that's always been the idea of even all of us getting together, right? I think you got Gez into the exclusivo. Gez got me into the exclusivo.
Yeah, the exclusivo train continued.
And over a period of time, obviously we graduated Cubans, and I used to smoke Cubans in London years ago. And obviously sourcing was a problem here, so I never really even bothered with it. So I got into New World and I started enjoying the stronger flavors. But having said that, the idea really is that we are trying to do the same thing, right? We educated each other. We got everyone into the community. We are a community. We shared cigars. We learned through it. And now we want to bring it to the world because this is the only way we can try and impart, our experiences, the education about cigars, and the feeling and the enjoyment and the camaraderie that exists within the cigar community. You can go anywhere, any lounge in the world, and you're going to meet somebody and have a conversation.
Yeah,
it's great.
Very well said.
And
very well said.
Agreed. Totally. And I think the cool part of that journey was the exploration. Look, there are only so many cigars in the Habana Sase catalog. There's only so many. We've smoked a lot of cigars. We've smoked a lot of cigars, right? But that like discovering, like there were certain discoveries that were made along the way that were really awesome,
revolutionary
to me, like the E2s.
By the way, they're coming up in a few episodes.
They're coming up in a few episodes, but like there's certain cigars that are real standouts, and I don't want to kill the E2 episode, but I had those 2014s we smoked on my deck. Was that the best fucking E2 you've ever had in your life? Was it the best fucking E2 ever? Right? Like, there's certain times where everything kind of comes together, or when we're smoking the Liguori Cubanas that
don't forget
Rooster source. Like there's certain cigars that they cut, and you're
the Vegas Urbana Clásicos is an obvious one, which like Puba sitting in my lounge hands me one of these, and I'm so skeptical, and I'm like, this guy asked me a mere months ago where to get Cubans. And he's now handing me this cigar. And so I don't know what to expect. And it was life-changing.
Like a catalyst.
For this whole group.
The Vegas Urbana Clásicos was, I'm not even doing this because I happened to I fell into it, okay? Yeah. Let's face it. I got it in a sampler and said, I had a 5-pack, and I go, this is unbelievable. So you fall into it. In other words, this archaeological dig, right?
Yeah,
and you're like, oh my, like try this. You got to try this. But that was a big catalyst. But there's been many others too.
Yeah,
and I think that's cool.
I remember one night on Puba's deck. It was myself. This was a very late night. I think Rooster.
I remember this.
Yeah, Rooster.
I remember hearing about this.
Yeah, Rooster and Pagoda. Giz, you got to leave the room. You guys left, and there was the three of us, myself, Senator, and Puba brings out the box of Oyo double Coronas.
Okay,
no.
Let's tell the real story.
No.
Let's tell the real story.
That is the real story.
This is after the poker game, actually.
Yes, that night that we had a poker game in town. Yeah.
So didn't I source that box and you smoked it without me?
You probably did.
So that's the story I want to tell.
It's a crime, but we committed it. And
What, the Hoyo double Coronas?
No, I got that box, and then you guys smoked it without me.
He got a 50 cab and we split it.
yeah,
And then you guys smoked it without me on your deck.
yeah. So
He's
Puba
correct.
Puba brings out the double
correct.
Coronas.
I was very angry.
Dude, that was a quintessential night for me as a lizard because I really got to experience that Cubans. I've never had that cigar before. I knew
That was the
nothing about
same
it.
night that another cigar was smoked that is now a staple.
Half Corona.
The Upman Half Corona that I shared with Bam
Dude,
Bam, and
and he
he
bought them
bought them all.
Another fucking revelation. I'm telling you that that was an
Can
incredible
I just
night.
say something that for the listener who's hearing this right now? I think the important takeaway, the most important thing about this is that number one, clearly we don't pretend to be experts. We're not experts. We're just a little further along the journey maybe than you are, or maybe not. Maybe you're further along than us. But I think the most important thing here is that through this community, and we're seeing this with lizards on social, in the email, in our DMs on Instagram, people communicating with us, is just jumping into the rabbit hole with your group of friends, if you have them, or with us. Just starting to do this discovery process is such an eye-opening thing, and it changed everything about
What
our
it does,
experience.
it leaves an imprint. Those experiences for me left an imprint that I'll never forget
100%.
for the rest of my life.
And
Yes.
all it takes is one.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
amazing part of it. All it
Absolutely.
takes is
And
one.
think about this. So Puba found the Vegas Verbena Classico, gave it to you.
Yeah.
You guys turned Rooster onto it. I'm sitting at the lounge. I'll never forget the day. We talked about it on the Vegas Verbena Classico episode at the end of 22. Rooster walks in and gives it to me. That is the most monumental experience I've ever had with a cigar. And it's because of this latter experience through the lizards
Right.
that any group of lizards out there can
Right.
experience the same thing with these amazing cigars you
That's
find.
the whole point of all
That's
this.
the
And
whole point
that's the
of
whole
all
point.
of this.
Right.
Yeah, you know what else happened? When we had Rob Ayala on the pod,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah, from Friends of El
From
Habano.
FOH, Friends
Yep.
of Habanos.
Yep.
So he talked about a cigar. It was the SLR Double Corona,
Mhm.
box date AEP07.
Mm.
And I forgot about it. I'm like, there's no way I'll ever find that box, right?
And you
Maybe
probably had
I'm-
3 boxes and you
No,
didn't
no,
know.
no. So check this out. I mean, randomly, somebody on a group that Puba actually introduced to us, and we're all part of it. This guy reaches out to me. He goes, "I listened to the pod, and Rob Ayala mentioned this cigar. I'm gonna send you 5 sticks on me."
Wow.
Mm.
And that cigar is probably around like 60, 70
Incredible.
bucks a piece right now.
Yeah.
So he sent me those 5 cigars, and I had one. So I'm like, you know what? There's 7 of us on the pod. So I need 2 more. Can I buy them from you? So he reluctantly, I mean, he gave, and you guys smoked that one. So I ended up buying all of them from him
Right.
eventually, not right away.
Yeah.
He didn't want to part with it. So that's the generosity of the listeners, that they listen to the pod and they actually find the cigars that somebody else talked about and they want us to try it. Because
Yeah.
it's all by sharing, right?
It's also-
all by
yeah.
sharing that,
It's all about
that
Yeah.
experience
That's-
that he had, and he wanted to share with the lizards what that was like.
And that's the genesis of this hobby at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Generosity, friendship.
It can't
And
be smoked
conversation.
alone and
Yeah.
not be shared.
Absolutely.
It has to
Yes.
be shared.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
Pay it forward.
No, it has to be shared.
5 of us were fortunate to go to Cuba earlier this year, and we did a 4-episode Lizards in Cuba series. First up, the guys share their first impressions of Havana. So this is the group, the 5 of us. We were very fortunate. The Lagartos Cubanos, the Cuban Lizards. We were very fortunate to go to Havana.
Si, senor.
So Bam and I went in November, and we just got back about a week ago, the 5 of us. And we had a great time. What an awesome trip.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So what were your first impressions? What kind of definitive statements can you give about the trip, boys?
So my first impression was when you started saying, you guys have no idea what to expect. You don't know what to expect. I'm like, well, we have been to other islands. I think I kind of have an idea. And I think Senator kind of felt the same way. But when we got there, you were kind of right. I mean, we didn't know what to expect. I mean, first you get off the plane and your phone's not working. You got to get the SIM card. you don't know if the SIM card place is going to be open. And then everybody's phone was working except mine, which didn't work till like the next day.
Yep.
So make sure if you go to Cuba, very important, have your phones, if they're locked,
Get them unlocked.
get them
Yeah,
unlocked.
Carrier unlocked.
Carrier
Absolutely.
unlocked.
That's
it's
crucial.
it's a must.
And if you're going to Cuba, don't buy a phone within the first 60, like within 60 days of going to Cuba, because it's automatically carrier locked to prevent fraud.
Right.
Right.
Now, I went to my dealer and had them unlock the phone before the November trip.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that before.
Well,
It was on the list.
yeah.
It was.
It was on Gizmo's list.
The, the big summary of it, basically, if you buy your iPhone directly from Apple, it's already unlocked. You don't have to worry about any of this. If you buy direct from the carrier, Verizon, AT&T, whoever, then you need to get it unlocked because it's locked to that carrier.
That's exactly
yeah,
right.
luckily I was able to get it done the next day. And
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked out.
But Gizmo, your whole list, made us very prepared for the trip. All the stuff that we
Yeah.
bought. I mean, thankfully we didn't need antibiotics and all of that stuff, which we ended up giving it to the people there,
Mm-hmm.
which was great. So the SIM card, I mean, that thing was small issue.
Yep.
Cabs, taxi, getting to the casa. I mean, as a U.S. citizen, you cannot stay at a hotel. So you have to stay at an Airbnb, basically. Which
Casa Particular.
Casa Particular, and that actually worked out great.
It was
We had a
fantastic.
beautiful place right on the Malecon,
Yeah.
right by the water,
Mhm.
a view off the water.
The staff there was wonderful.
Oh,
Staff was wonderful.
amazing.
7 bedrooms, 7 baths,
It's a palace.
It was,
and how cheap,
yeah, it was amazing.
you know.
That's the thing about
Incredible.
going to Havana. I mean, we'll get into it and helping the people and everything, but you can really, you can show up there with very little and do a lot.
Yeah.
Like it is a really, inexpensive way
Yeah.
to spend time, especially if you're interested. Let's put the cigars aside. If you're interested in the culture and the music and the art and helping people, I mean, it's just,
The food.
and the food.
And the food. Yeah.
and how safe it is. Like people have a misconception that maybe it's not safe. It's a very poor country. Maybe there's a lot of crime.
Yep.
There are no guns on the island. There's no drugs on the island.
No,
And we all felt very safe.
absolutely.
We saw people like even young girls like walking around at like midnight,
Yeah,
1 a.m. Just by themselves. I mean, they obviously felt safe to do that.
Yeah, I think the important thing to realize is the rest of the world does go to Cuba.
It's true.
It's only the Americans who don't. So it is a welcoming island for tourists.
Yeah.
And I think that helps you change the perspective.
So Pagoda, what was your first impression?
I think I was really impressed, by the way, because I think I might have gone, my view might have been skewed by obviously the conversations prior, but walking in, pleasantly surprised. Although I did feel like, I don't know whether you remember George from Seinfeld when he goes to the soup Nazi. When I was going through immigration, I was very strict, I was a bit nervous, trying to follow the rules. But yeah, meaning as soon as we got out, I think it's an island nation. And, by the time we got to the casa, saw the water, people are hanging out, beautiful old vintage cars driving around, some magnificent buildings, which I did not anticipate, right? I did not anticipate some high rises over there. I think overall, it felt like a city, and I certainly felt very comfortable.
I completely agree. For me, it way exceeded expectations. I think there's this whole mystique about Cuba, if you're an American, that it's this scary, forbidden place. I think for any listener that has spent any significant amount of time in the Caribbean, visiting any of those islands, island time is a thing. Cuba is no different. Things don't happen in an orderly fashion. You got to wait for things. Sometimes someone's there, sometimes they're not there. That's honestly everywhere in the Caribbean. So for me, I was pleasantly surprised. It didn't feel out of the norm for what that area is usually like. And then when I say exceed expectations, I mean, sort of like Pagoda was saying, I expected Cuba, particularly just kind of the infrastructure in some of these buildings and hotels that they would have, I expected most to be in disrepair. I mean, some of these hotels that we even just walked in, I was sitting there saying, this could be in New York City.
Yeah.
Like they were beautifully designed hotels that were well maintained. So
Hotel Central, yeah, that experience there.
yeah. I mean, even the Malia Cohiba was very nice.
Oh yeah.
Just so many of them. So I mean, obviously we'll get into some of the restaurants that we visited there, but even the experience, even just the aesthetic of some of them felt like they could be in a big major US city. So Cuba is further along than I had imagined before going there.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And there's wealth. You get in terms of the first impression, because I think I walked in with the idea that this could be a very, like, I don't know what to expect. I mean, although I've been to China, like in terms of a communist country, is it really poor, a poor island nation? Cars are from the 50s, but those cars were really well maintained, beautifully painted. Like everything. It was just very impressive.
We then went to the El Laguito factory, took an extensive tour, and learned a lot from Danilo, the production manager for COHIBA. It was our second BAM and my second visit. We were very fortunate to get connected in November with some of the folks there at Laguito.
That's right.
We made quick friends with the production manager, Danilo, who's become a very good friend of ours and mine. And we've had some really, really amazing moments. And I was happy that the five of us were able to go there and experience what we did and really get a tour of the finest, one of the finest cigar manufacturing facilities in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just have to say, I mean, obviously, for obvious reasons, we were excited to visit El Laguito. This is like the premier destination to experience how this product is made at its highest level. But beyond that, the time we spent with Danilo, I learned more about cigars from that one visit than cumulatively.
Yeah.
Every bit of knowledge or experience that's been shared with me throughout the cigar industry, that one visit surpassed it all combined.
Yeah, and he kind of debunked a lot of our original thoughts about how cigars are made, where flavors come from, how they buy their leaves. It was really eye-opening in many ways.
Yeah. And I think the overarching thing for me with Danilo is how transparent and interested in educating us he was. Forget the podcast. We didn't go there with that angle. That's not how we got in. That's not what we use. We don't push that. First off, I don't even think they care, because it's a communist nation of, they're just going to work every day.
Yeah, but they're also producing the #1 premier cigar on the planet.
Of course.
Right.
They're producing Cohiba
Sure.
and Trinidad and other brands there. But, his willingness and wanting to educate us and really answer the barrage of questions that we have about the process and what they do and how they do it.
Yeah.
That really struck me.
And I have to say, the November tour that we got, I think this tour, the most recent tour, pales in comparison. I mean, it was just so much more eye-opening, more information. It was much more detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about first impressions, just driving up to it's a beautiful, beautiful factory. It's not like a run of the bell. It's an excellent
It's a mansion.
location.
Yeah.
It feels like, you're going to really high-end corporate offices or something. It was
Feels-
excellent.
Feels like you're on just like a massive estate.
Yeah.
Like that
Like a French
beautiful-
vineyard.
Yeah, it's just like that beautiful main building. The architecture's
Yeah.
awesome, and this whole spread out campus that they kind of have, where in comparison to other places where it's
Right.
like one big main building that houses everything, there it's kind of dispersed and
So
just beautiful.
the main house is in like a chateau style, and the buildings in the back are a bit more industrial looking. They were probably built when, the Soviets were there, and those structures were built after that. Of course, that chateau was there. That chateau's been there forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those
It's a
buildings
very
in the
old
back,
mansion, correct?
they were,
I mean,
yeah, absolutely, and they were built after, of course, the chateau was built.
So did they move there, or was that the original Laguito factory?
I think that was the original Laguito factory. They took a mansion, and I think that's where they
Mm.
started in the chateau, and I think they expanded from there as things needed to be,
Right.
increased. But I
Right.
believe that was the original location
Mm.
that Castro
Sure.
had them start making Cohiba in the early 80s.
And in the rooms that they have, and they're very, they're smaller rooms, smaller number of rollers, highly supervised, unlike any other factory that you'll see, I think.
But even walking into it, remember the music playing, the DJ
there-
was
Yeah,
there.
There was a DJ.
Yeah.
There was a great atmosphere,
Yeah.
great weather. You had a beautiful place. Like, I don't know, Senator, you might have been to so many wineries. And might have done so-
Well, honestly, the music thing really threw me off. I was like so surprised. Like, you see these like beautiful buildings, and I don't know why. I think, especially because in my head I keep the Mecca of cigars. I'm here, and you just expect it to be like very quiet and serious, and then you just all of a sudden you're outside in this like big courtyard, and there's a DJ blasting music. You're like, what the hell? Like, am I at a rave or a cigar? Like the whole thing threw me off. But it's so funny. You talk to Danilo and understand what's going on there. It's like, it's not like here where we have speaker systems in a bunch of different buildings that can all play the same thing at the same time. They don't have that luxury. And this DJ's literally blaring music
For the
so that
torcedores.
the torcedores
Yeah,
across
absolutely.
the entire campus can hear it wherever they are.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, we started the whole day. We said hello to Danilo and his team, and then we started off on our fantastic tour, which started in the blending room and in the separating room of the different leaves, and they have maturation there. They ferment the leaves there as well in the barrels. So what were some of your Senator, you said you learned more in that moment
Sure.
than you'd had known about cigars
We
your
all did.
entire 15-year experience. I'd love to hear some of the things that you thought were really impactful.
I mean, you mentioned we're sitting in this room and there are barrels that this tobacco is being fermented in. And I was so surprised, like, as someone who appreciates spirits so much, which are what these barrels are all really used primarily to make, I'm sitting there saying, like, there are shortages of barrels everywhere. Like, there's a fight just within spirits and wine to get their hands on barrels to age that product in. And I'm sitting there looking at all these barrels and I'm like, where did they get these from? So I asked Danilo, I said, where do these come from? And, he said, little known secret, these barrels, most of them started in Kentucky. I mean, can you imagine? We're in Cuba, and he's telling me these barrels originated in America,
It's
in
insane.
Kentucky.
It's insane.
They were used to age bourbon.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they were sold. And this is why when I say there's a shortage, like, think of how many times these barrels get reused. That's how short we are on being able to produce this to meet the global demand for all the things that are aged or fermented in a wood barrel. Starting Kentucky, aged bourbon. They're sold to Scotland to then age single malt scotch. They're then sold to Cuba to age rum. They're then sold to Danilo and El Laguito to ferment tobacco leaves in.
It's a fourth
It's
transaction.
It's
It's insane.
unbelievable.
So I was doing the math. I don't know if I missed this, but what was the cumulative number of years that it seemed like those barrels? Were they 30, 40 years old?
I
some of
thought
those
they were
barrels?
20 years old.
I mean, they're not
Yeah.
10 years, 5 years old. They've had them for
Maybe
a long
older.
time.
Yeah, 20 years would be right.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking. Yeah.
Because a bourbon would be aged in there for just like a year or two,
Yep.
probably 2 years. A single malt scotch, 12 years.
Sure.
Right now we're talking 14. Rum, a year. And then fermenting all the tobacco. I mean, on average, probably 20 years,
Makes
those
sense.
barrels.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, is that where it ends, the journey of the barrel? And
That's
does
a
it
good
go
question.
beyond that?
El
Oh, no,
Laguito.
no. Then it goes to the New World factories.
Gets sold to Dominican and Honduras and Nicaragua.
Hey, don't
At
forget
a
even the
super
late,
premium.
even the late hour, isn't it? Kind of
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
said, leaves are fermented in one of these
Mhm.
barrels.
Yeah.
Ex-bourbon.
One thing I learned in that first room is I didn't realize, and we didn't learn this in November, they actually go out to the farm to buy their leaves. I had no idea that was the case.
Yeah,
and
they go shopping.
and we weren't told that
Yeah.
when we were there in November. So they pick the leaves that they want. They're actually curating their own product.
Yeah, my impression is
That
that
is very, very cool and unique.
Danilo or his production team and every factory manager, production manager and their team are going to fincas out in Pinar del Rio and are have the relationships with the farmers. They're purchasing the tobacco they want. They might have Premier, he might have access to Premier tobacco. He may have a larger budget. We don't know. But it's not some Habanos or Cuba tobacco import of here's your tobacco you're going to get. These guys are going and purchasing what they want.
But you got to think of the pressure that they have to do that. I
Yeah.
mean, I'd be terrified. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing. You really, really have to be on your game. You have to know what you're doing. That's high risk right there.
Yeah.
High risk activity.
The huge surprise there for me, so building off what Bam is saying, is just understanding through our conversations with Danilo how big of a process blending, how big of a role blending plays in producing each of these cigars. I think for us, the big mystery has been all of this tobacco is coming from Cuba, from the same climates roughly, the same Cuban seed. how does a Partagas taste like a Partagas
Mhm.
and a Ramon Ionis taste like a Ramon Ionis? They're all coming from roughly the same area. So what is accounting for that? And it's a mystery because you think of other regions like Nicaraguan tobacco. It doesn't matter if we're smoking Padron, some Nicaraguan Monte Cristo, some other Nicaraguan cigar. You know a Nicaraguan cigar as soon as you taste it,
Mhm.
right? There are differences, but generally speaking, you know what that means.
Sure.
Similarly with Cuban tobacco. So it's like, how do they suddenly differentiate these brands? And it was just amazing to hear that blending is at the heart of those distinctions. It's like, yes, like Bam's saying, they're going out and shopping for these different types of leaves, but the ratios of different leaves that they're using and choosing are what makes that Partagas profile or that Ramon profile or Monty or some other brand. And so for me, I don't know why, but I feel like, and feel free to disagree, I feel like in Cuban cigars, we talk so much about torcedores and rollers, and we don't talk much about blenders.
Yeah.
I feel like in New World cigars, we talk so much about blenders, and we don't talk so much about rollers.
He's absolutely right.
That is a huge point.
It's never been mentioned. They don't talk about it when we're there.
Yeah.
The first trip around, let's say.
Yeah.
like, we don't even know. I can't even name a Cuban blender.
No.
That's probably on purpose.
Right.
You know what? He's probably you're
That's
probably right.
very much on purpose.
It's got to
But
be
that's
coveted.
why
because
I
think about this.
It's
This
your
guy,
secret recipe.
Yeah, this guy
really.
is blending your Esplendidos, your Sigla 6s, your Cohiba Robustos, and he's monitoring the crop coming in and saying, okay, I need to make this taste as close to what a consumer who's paying $80 for a Cohiba Robusto or $60, I have to make it taste. It's like wine or scotch.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Rooster, it's just so complex
Yeah.
across
It's-
all the vitolas. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable how they do this.
Yeah, it was an eye opener to me because
Yeah.
all the tobacco is grown in the same region. It's the same soil,
That's exactly right.
basically the same plants,
Mhm.
but they're picking the tobacco. I mean, how much different can it be from one farm to another if they're going from the same soil?
Even that's important. The same region. I don't
Yeah.
think we were crystal clear before talking to Danilo. He's saying that all of it's coming from Pinar del Rio.
Yeah.
I think
Ah.
we assume that a lot of it's coming from there, but that a lot of it's
Yeah.
also coming from other parts of the island. He's saying, no. It's all
all
coming
from
from
there.
Pinar del Rio,
Yeah.
which makes it even more of a mystery. Well,
Yeah.
if it's
This
all
is
coming
true.
from the same part of the island, how does it taste different
Crazy.
across these brands?
We kind of had this conversation in November, and what you just said was echoed several times that it's not democratic. You're distributed a bunch of leaves, and you have to deal with it in your own way. That's what we were kind of told in November. Not
Yeah.
the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going and shopping.
That's
yeah, but
amazing.
how different each cigar can taste just by alternating the blend a little bit.
Yeah. A few grams
Yeah.
here or there
Yeah.
with different types of tobacco,
Right.
different
Yeah.
leaves.
And we
Yeah.
learned, of course, Cohiba has a special leaf that not any other market
Yeah, well,
has.
Bihique has Medio Tiempo.
Right.
which is
That's right. The Bahiki.
Only 15% of the plants produce that.
Sure.
It's the top of the plant.
Sure.
It's a very rare thing. Only Bihique out
Yeah.
of the entire
Right.
Habanos catalog. That's the only cigar that has
One other
Medio
cool
Tiempo.
detail is when he lit the leaves on fire at the table, just to show us the combustion of one leaf as compared to another, how one barely burns
Yep.
and another one essentially evaporates the moment you put a flame to it.
And
and
they
it-
use that to balance the burn time.
And going back to what Senator said, I think it's in that balance of combustion that provides that flavor. Because if you're burning through a leaf at a faster rate than another leaf, you've got to have different oils and flavor notes that are coming out at a different rate, and they're blending that. How complex is that?
It's pretty incredible.
It's
and,
mind-boggling.
and also think about how different a fresh tobacco leaf is. Just out of, what do they ferment? I think for 10 or 20 days, he was saying, in those barrels. It's not a long time.
Mm-mm.
Think about the blending decisions you're making with incredibly fresh tobacco, anticipating what that's going to taste like in 6 months when a consumer has it, or in 5 years when that same consumer has it.
Right.
You know, it's like, like scotch or wine, but the difference is it's constantly, because it's a natural handmade product sitting in a box, it's constantly changing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and,
You know?
and if you think about the price of Cohibas now,
Yeah.
but even back before the price, and like going back 3 to 4 years, Cohiba was always
The premier
much
brand.
premier
Yeah.
brand, and also it's sort of much higher price, almost like double or triple.
Yep.
So it's it's all the same tobacco in all the cigars, and all the Cuban cigars, basically the same thing, but the blend is a little different.
Sure.
So in Cohiba, we're paying for this special blend. I mean, is that what it is?
No,
Well,
I
two
also think
things.
it's multiple
I-
things.
I also
Two
think that
things.
he's able to go to the farms that I'm assuming that at Laguito, Cohiba gets the creme de la creme. They probably have specific farms that only they get. Maybe they have a farmer they really trust the process,
Maybe.
more diligent. There's got to be elements to that do differentiate, even though it's the same plant, same soil. There has to be farming elements that matter.
Yeah.
No,
There's
he
no
did
question
mention
there.
that.
But
Yeah,
there,
he did.
there's also like the brand, the flavor profile of each brand is so different.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's like this big adversarial, like we're all fighting for the same stuff. Like what Partagas wants their cigar to taste like and what Cohiba wants theirs to taste like are totally different.
Yep.
And so like naturally certain parts, certain plants, like what Cohiba is going for, Partagas like, well, we don't want all of that. That's not
Sure.
our profile. So for me, it just helped understand like it's so fascinating how the blending process is what I think drives
Absolutely.
like the Cohiba brand and all these other things. The other thing for me that I'll be honest, I've always viewed Cohiba, this is just my personal opinion, I have viewed it as like just a big marketing job. I'm just
Mhm.
going to be very blunt.
But
I-
now,
Well, this is the thing. It's not about the leaf for me that now. It's the experience at Cohiba is only rolled at El Laguito.
Mhm.
Nowhere else. That's
Well,
right, right?
I think
Yeah.
La Corona
there are a
is,
few Vitolas that are rolled at other factories.
But they're merging them all to Laguito.
To
that's-
Laguito.
that's
That's
true.
Danilo was
Yeah,
saying.
right.
It's only going to
Yeah,
be
they're
rolled there.
eventually
Yeah.
coming.
It's
Yes,
coming
that's
there.
right.
And the reason I say that now means something to me is because when you visit El Laguito, I mean the attention to detail, the commitment to quality. I mean, what they have going on there way exceeded any expectations I had for how this was all done. And you contrast it with if you visit another factory,
Sure.
Which
it's
we'll talk about
totally-
in a
right.
future episode.
It's
yeah.
kinda
It's
different.
totally different. And so for me now, as someone who was always the skeptic saying like Cohiba is really, tremendous marketing of like this ultra premium product that is the same leaves as everybody else has access to and probably rolled very much the same. And then you go there and you say, no, there is something different about the level of care that they take and that they assign to that brand and that product. So for me, it's finally helped me appreciate that there is something that justifies the premium that they charge.
So
Now-
someone's a converted Cohiba
No,
man.
no. Yeah, you spoke
Bam,
too
by the
soon.
way.
You spoke too soon.
For the
Now
listener,
the-
by the way, as Senator's talking, Bam's over there looking at me, pointing at Senator, going, "Wow, wow."
Now, the big but,
Yeah,
flavor is why we pursue cigars.
Yeah.
And so the Cohiba profile is
Mhm.
not my favorite. And that's why I still will not aggressively pursue Cohiba in the way I do Partagas or Upman or other
Yeah,
cigars.
honestly, I emulate that sentiment regarding the pursuit of Cohibas, except for one particular Vitola, which I love, which I had in November with you.
Yeah.
But it's hard to talk about Il Laguito without at least mentioning the other factory that I went to because they're so contrasting
yeah,
in the way they produce the product. You walk into El Laguito, and we mentioned this earlier, these are little boutique rooms.
yeah. 8 or 10 people.
Yeah, and they're supervised, and the level of control, it's just incredible. It's off the charts
Yeah.
compared to other factories.
Yeah, and like I said, in 2 weeks we're going to talk about Corona and our experience there.
Yeah,
That's the polar opposite.
Sure.
That is a machine.
yeah.
Corona is a machine
Yeah.
pumping out cigars. To me, and we'll have very complimentary things to say about Corona, but Laguito to me, and obviously we had a wonderful experience with Danilo. And what I love about our experience with him is it wasn't during festival time. When we were there in November, it was the Amigos de Partagas. I was there prior to you guys coming, where the Habanos Festival was there, which was craziness. We were there at a time that there was no expectation of visitors, tourists, tours, etc. We were getting the raw deal. And what I find with Laguito is that it's really a passionate group of people, artisans, really, really trying to make some amazing cigars.
Sure.
Yeah, like it's not smoke and mirrors. Like when I
Yeah.
say I was a skeptic, like I literally thought like we're gonna see some rooms that are for show and look how amazing this is, and then others where people are just making cigars like anywhere else. From start to finish, that entire operation is just I can't say I have visited a ton of these factories in other countries to compare,
Mhm.
but I've certainly at least seen enough online to have some understanding of what it looks like there.
On YouTube?
Yeah, on Rooster's favorite YouTube. And it's just so different. Like it's again, when I say I'm not pursuing Cohiba because the profiles doesn't meet what I'm always looking for, but I, for the first time, can say I understand why they ask this premium for Cohiba. There's something behind it. It's not all just a gimmick. Like the way they approach that product at Laguito is definitely different than every other product is.
But it's
approached.
also considered the premium brand there in Cuba.
Sure.
Oh yeah,
They
sure.
consider Cohiba as the premium brand.
Sure, and they're treating it as such.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to say the other thing that's interesting about Pinar del Rio, the tobacco, the resourcefulness. So when they started wanting to plant more tobacco, Pinar del Rio was not a very wanted area of Cuba. So they moved all the fincas there. I mean, it's kind of out of the way. It's what, 2.5 hours from Havana.
It wasn't as fertile. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't fertile. And
the
what's interesting,
soil is like red clay.
Yeah.
the soil is not rich. It's not nutrient. They do not have fertilizer. And Danilo said that's an absolute benefit to Cuban cigars because the plant has to work harder to get what it needs from the sun and oxygen.
Dude,
It's incredible.
and it's reflective of the community there and
Exactly.
how they live.
But
Exactly.
there's an even bigger story here. Forget just the Cuban people. When he said this, as a wine person,
Oh,
no, you have no.
I'm with
no,
you.
he's
No,
right.
I know,
He's
I know,
right.
I know,
this
you're
is
right.
meant to be
You're
a
right.
very serious
I know.
point.
I know.
This is like the genius that exists within that country. Because in wine, and Danilo said, he's like, it's the terroir, just like wine. And it's like my heart skipped a beat because for them with such little resources there and even just understanding of like these complex winemaking processes that are used around the world, there's no wine produced in Cuba, right?
Sure.
Like it's not like they have firsthand knowledge of how this is done. And what's amazing is talking about how hard that plant has to work in wine. When you have, especially like a really rich, intensive grape like Cab, those super, super hot summers where there's very little water, that plant has to work harder. It's not getting a ton of water. They're not irrigating it intentionally that much, just enough. And it's because it produces a richer grape that some of the best vintages of Cabernet Sauvignon and Napa are from some of the hottest summers. Like I always talk about 2016.
Yep.
That was a hot as hell summer in Napa, and the richness that was produced in those grapes without an aggressive bite to it produced brilliance. And for them to figure out in Cuba that it's not about making the plant's life easy all the time.
Making it hard.
Dude,
Harder
I'm getting
sometimes.
goosebumps right now.
I
am not
that's how
fucking
I
joking.
felt.
It's
That's
so-
how I felt.
It's exciting as hell because you're really learning about the process.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It was quite an education. And to think that this product, this hand-rolled, handmade, everything by hand product that we enjoy so much, that our listeners enjoy so much.
We take for granted too.
And we take it for granted.
Sure
Of
we
course
do.
we do. But it comes from an unwanted region of Cuba, an unfertilized, unsupported, nearly unsuccessful soil for anything else.
Don't make me cry. Because I'm gonna fucking burst out right now. You know, what the fuck are you doing?
But the fact that these plants thrive because everything else is wrong is just incredible.
It's awesome.
Wait, I have a question. So do you think the Cuban farmer, tobacco farmer, doesn't use pesticide because it's not available or because they don't want to use it?
Well, I think
not available.
Or is it a
pesticide
little
is
bit of both?
pesticide. Certainly,
Because-
they don't want bugs, but fertilizer.
Fertilizer.
That's a different story.
Yeah.
But they can access it if they wanted it. So maybe there's a reason why they don't want to
I don't think
use
they
it.
want to
wanna-
fertilize.
They want to keep it more organic.
Yeah.
That's true about the
I
fertilizer.
think
The
it's a great
pesticide,
point.
They would definitely use
pesticide.
if
They want to
could.
kill the bugs.
Yeah.
But
Because you just have to
fertilizer,
understand like how much this product is worth, right? Like if that crop gets destroyed
by bugs.
by bugs,
right?
they
So you
are
want to
screwed.
protect that.
They
Financially
wanna,
But as far as
decimated.
fertilizer goes, if you start feeding fertilizer into the soil, the first couple of crops are going to be great, but the plant is going to get dependent. The
It's
soil
gonna
gets
adapt.
dependent. And you're going to need more and more fertilizer.
And it's not
right.
working as hard.
Yeah.
right.
right.
And I
Right.
think they're using fertilizer. You know,
They're
Ukraine
using
is a big
organic fertilizer.
and Ukraine is a big provider for them of fertilizer, and I think they're using that for food crops.
Sure.
I don't think they're using that for tobacco
I think-
because of
yeah.
exactly
Yep,
everything we
that's
just
right.
talked
It's not Monsanto.
Yeah. Thank God.
Thank
Thank
God.
God.
Is right.
Can you imagine how this would taste with Monsanto in it?
This is
Monsanto
bastards. This is a GMO modified Ramona Jonas EL.
It's yellow in color. This is green in color.
But yeah, it really, as Senator said before we even had this discussion. I mean, we're only talking about the first or second room at Laguito that we've been through on this tour so far, but it was eye opening.
Yeah.
To the level of detail and education that we got on these things. It was pretty magical.
I can assure you, if we do it, not for you and I, it'll be you've been there more times. I don't know how many you've been there. What, 4 times now?
Yeah.
If we go again, it'll be my 3rd time. I'll learn something new that I didn't hear the previous 2
Yeah.
tours.
The other thing, how we're talking about, we always say cigars is a handmade product. I think until you actually see this up close, like you don't fully appreciate that. This goes back to my point.
Right.
When we're talking about handmade, what's the first thing that we think of? The roller, right? That's what we're always thinking about. The person rolling the cigar, the finished product. What you don't realize, all the stages before that, seeing that every bit of it, the tiniest thing is all done by hand. It's like, Gizmo's talking about removing the vein from the tobacco leaf. Obviously, in other countries and with companies that have way more resources than they have in Cuba, that could be removed by a machine in a split second.
That's true.
You wouldn't need a person to literally. We're watching a woman in El Laguito to pick up a leaf, remove the vein. She kind of twirls it around her arm. She puts it in another pile. Take another one and do that. There is not a machine present at any point in the process. It's not like these are mostly handmade or they're hand rolled.
Sure.
Literally every damn detail to putting the glue that is also natural and from a plant on a band.
Yeah.
Every single bit of it is happening with your hands.
That's right.
It's so
Hecho
cool.
en mano. Made by hand.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's on every box.
And you know what's funny is by the time it gets to the blender or the person stripping the vein out of the leaf and splitting them, to the person sorting them, weighing them to put that's probably the 25th person in the process that has touched that leaf. That by the time it gets to the torcedor, that may be the 30th person
Could be.
that has touched that single leaf. And then of course it gets sorted by color and banded and then boxed. I mean, we may be talking 40, 50 pairs of hands that are touching each of these cigars that we're
That's
we're
also a
smoking.
fascinating detail is the color sorting.
Yeah.
That whole process of sorting colors so that you have complete boxes of the same color. Can you imagine how daunting that would be?
Honestly,
it's incredible.
That part of the process frustrates me.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult.
Because what I don't like about the color sorting, so what we're talking about, and we're jumping around a little bit, but after the cigar is rolled, they're color sorted. And I think there's 30 something different shades of acceptable leaf color.
He said that, yeah.
What bothers me about that is that because of color being the focus, you may have a box of cigars that's rolled by 20 or 30 different people.
That's one of the big surprises also
Yes.
in this trip.
Yep.
What you just said right there.
Yep.
Honestly, I don't think any of us truly realized or appreciated that in any cigar box that we purchase, you open that box and you look at them and you say, wow, that's a beautiful box. We all get excited. We get a good box. They all look really well rolled. And you kind of just instinctively assume, well, man, I got so lucky. A great roller rolled this box.
Yep.
20 different people
Sure.
rolled those cigars. They're all from different hands.
Because it's sorted after they're rolled.
Yeah.
So that's why when we talk about the frustration of smoking Cuban cigars, that Hoyo we had a couple weeks ago, where 4 of us, didn't have a great experience. Bam, yours was the best, certainly. But
And I couldn't even smoke
you
mine.
couldn't even smoke. You put yours down.
Right. My
Christ.
roller should be fired.
Yes. I mean, you may
No.
have you may have one of those cigars rolled by someone who's been at the factory for 40 years, and you may have someone that rolled one of those cigars that was there for 40 days, but they're sorted into the same box because of the color.
Yeah.
Like that bums me out.
What's interesting about that individual that sorts the color, Danilo said specifically that's a very special person that's been trained for many years.
Oh yeah.
and it takes a unique eye to capture all those nuances in color. Very
Yeah.
difficult.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's that frustrates me because it's like we're the dumb American, European, Asian consumer, whatever you want to call it,
Oh,
who's looking at a box going, well, I hope the color is consistent. And what we've learned is the color honestly has nothing to do with it.
yeah.
I wish it was a box made by one roller, stamped with the roller or something, as opposed to the factory code, because what I'm
Sure.
learning is the factory code's completely irrelevant. You
Yeah.
know, it's like,
I can't speak for everyone in this room, but I've gained a tremendous respect for the product that we're holding right now.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
That's
Really.
honestly, I just can't emphasize enough. I genuinely hope for any listener that listens to this episode,
Sure.
like, A, you should visit Cuba. B, if you don't visit Cuba, I mean, Rooster's favorite source, honestly, like, just watch some of this on YouTube. I mean,
Big
it
YouTube guy.
literally almost
Big
made
YouTube
me.
guy. Big YouTube guy.
I mean, it literally.
He has YouTube Premium, so he doesn't have to watch commercials. He doesn't like commercials when he's watching all his videos.
But
on
serious,
YouTube.
this
I-
is a
no, no,
serious
I-
note,
but-
though.
but in
Serious.
all,
Yeah, it really
deadly
is.
serious. I
Yeah.
mean, it like
The
made me-
respect for the product.
it made me tear up just watching the process. And the reason I say that, you know, we live in a consumer culture. We consume a lot of different products. There is no product that any of us purchases or consumed. And I love watches, and a lot of those are handmade, but not even to the extent that this product is. You look at how many hands touch this product, and that a machine plays not one meaningful role in that process. There's nothing in our lives, period, that we purchase or consume that's the case. And then when you go there and see these people and you understand that they're making 30, 40, at most $50 a month doing that,
Yeah.
the level of appreciation you have, I will never, ever look at a cigar in the same way. I will never take a cigar for granted the
Right.
way that I did before this
Thank
trip.
you. Right.
And that's the magic of going and visiting one of these factories. I cannot recommend it enough.
It's magic.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of the listeners may never get a chance to go to Cuba, but they can listen to this recording and I think gain a lot of information.
Or go to
Yeah.
factories in
Yeah.
other countries too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
there's plenty of factories
That's
in
true.
Mexico, Dominican,
100%,
Nicaragua, Honduras.
100%, right.
So, I mean, it was one thing that really shocked me was I didn't realize. I thought, you know, they do have one machine that's the draw.
Yeah, the draw
machine,
machine.
right? That's the only machine in the whole factory that every single cigar goes through a draw machine.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that they take like a
Samples.
box, like
yeah.
a random sample out of one box, one cigar, and test that and assume that, okay, this is good, this passes inspection. But every single cigar
Sure.
at Laguito goes through that draw machine.
No, but this is for the premium cigars only, really, and I think that's why
I think even at the other
No, I
place,
think
at
they-
the other places.
Well,
So
they
La
did it
Corona.
both, but it's
Yes.
an interesting point because
It
let's be
is.
honest. Do we think that a small provincial factory is probably doing that?
Nope.
Probably
No,
not.
No.
And that's the magic of when you get the box code from Laguito or Corona or
Yeah.
one of the big, you know,
It's
big operations.
mind-boggling at La Corona to think about that.
Yeah.
The sheer volume to go
Yeah,
through
you're talking 5 million, 8 million cigars a year.
going through that machine.
That's crazy. But they can
It's
do it really
crazy.
fast,
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
and I love that they're actually like there's a metric to it. You know,
Sure.
I asked, I honestly it was a little facetious. I thought he was going to say like, yeah, it should be somewhere around here, but there's like a huge range. And this scale basically that it measures the resistance when the machine is basically trying to pull air through the cigar. And he's telling me that between I think
40
it was
and 80.
40 and 80 is what an optimal cigar is. And if it is outside of that range, they will send it back
Yeah.
to
To-
be re-rolled.
It goes back to that roller.
Well, what's interesting, so those cigars that go in the draw machine, that's pre-wrap.
Right. That's
so those
true.
are those cigars are only bound
Sure.
because they do not want to waste the wrapper. So what they do is they throw a bound cigar because they say that 90% of the draw issues come from a bound cigar, not involving the wrapper, not involving caps, come from a bound cigar. And what I love is they have these 10 count plastic or wooden, I guess, what would you call them? Cases or sheets that these cigars are laid out in. And each of them is tied to an individual roller. And if that roller doesn't hit the certain percentage that they require of successful draws, then they're going to have a conversation with this person, retrain them, whatever it may be, and it might affect their pay. You know?
Yeah, they've said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's it was nice to see that, and I'm hoping what we're seeing. I don't know if that's new because when we were there in November, Bam, there was nobody in that draw room,
No.
So I'm hoping that either that's a
at
new development or something.
La Corona, there was someone there, but at Laguito, there was no one there.
And Laguito this time, they were full. And
Oh, yeah.
they weren't trying to impress a Habanos festival group. Like we were just randomly there.
We are the lizards, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What else was cool about that factory? And I assume it's with all the factories that each roller has to roll a certain amount of cigars each day.
Yeah, based
So,
on the Vitola.
Based on the Vitola.
Yeah.
Right. So if they're supposed to roll, let's say 100 Siglo ones in a day, once that's done,
They can go home.
they can go home.
Sure.
So they're kind of giving them the flexibility
Yeah.
of,
And if they
If you don't
don't
finish,
let's
they
say
can
they
come
let's
back.
say they have to take their kid to a doctor's appointment or school or something, and they miss a Tuesday, no harm, no foul. You can come in on a Saturday and get it done.
Right.
You just have to meet your weekly allotment to make your pay.
That's great.
yeah.
So we kind of jumped ahead to
We
later
did.
in the manufacturing process. We started in the room with the barrels. Can we talk a little bit about the leaves that actually make these cigars?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
this was super,
Fascinating.
super illuminating.
Extraordinary.
I think one of the lizards earlier was talking about how certain leaves burn faster than others
Yeah,
and all
I
that.
mentioned that. Yeah.
And what was cool to understand from Danilo is one, the intentional placement of certain leaves in the construction of a cigar and how they're not only trying to, blend for and control for flavor, which obviously is most important, but also combustion and burn and time even a cigar takes to smoke, all of these different factors. And so I think two things that were really shocking. One, just learning that Volado, which burns the fastest, is on the outside of the outer portion of the inside of the cigar, essentially.
The bound cigar.
Right.
Yeah.
The binder and filler. Then Seco, and in the very middle, Ligero. And he was saying that Ligero burns the slowest, which is why when you're smoking your cigar and you ash it, you see like a
cone.
little cone in the
A-
middle.
Right. A tip.
And
Yep.
that's the Ligero that's burning much slower. And that's by design so that everything kind of keeps up and it holds the ash and builds as you're smoking, which again, these are things absent this tour we had. None of us are thinking about.
Really
as
no
we're
idea.
smoking. I mean, every
It's like,
time.
the flavors in the wrapper.
So that's interesting.
Well,
That was
that's the second one. I
That's
wanna
the
get-
second part.
That's
That
the
was-
second. I want to get to that.
totally debunked.
That's the only thing I was thinking ever
Yeah.
when I looked at a cigar. Beautiful wrapper, beautiful flavor.
Right.
Right.
And it's like now every time I ash my cigar, I look at that cone. I say,
Yeah.
there's that Ligero. I mean, these are things you just don't think of until you actually gain the knowledge and understanding that these guys have there and how intentional this whole process is. And we talk about sometimes we're smoking a cigar and we have issues with tunneling and all these other things. Well, guess what? A lot of the time that can happen because a cigar was not rolled properly.
right. It's in
The
the blend.
ratio was off in the
Mhm.
binder and filler.
Or
and-
what they're doing is they're taking the cigar in their hand and they're feeling it, and they're feeling weak spots or inconsistent spots, and they're shoveling more of different leaves that shouldn't be there into the
Sure.
to get a cigar that to be properly weighted, to be properly distributed. But what it does is it disrupts the blend.
100%.
Right.
So that was very shocking and interesting. And then the second one that we're now teeing up is Danilo saying that the wrapper is not where the flavor is.
Well,
Yeah.
before you go there, he did mention the fact that, the difference between using a whole leaf and partial leaves. A lot of marcas will use partial leaves in their cigars, which creates an uneven burn, but the full leaf that's used creates a very consistent burn.
And he
Yeah.
talked about it in the Siglios. He showed us that there were 3 leaves.
Yeah.
With the Ligero contributing the most to the flavor profile.
Mhm.
Right.
And that's the center.
Strongest.
And that's
Sure.
the center. And that's where a lot of the flavor comes from as opposed to the wrapper.
And it makes sense that it burns the slowest.
But that's the thing, like about the wrapper. When I think when you learn about New World cigars, you're kind of told that all the flavor comes from the wrapper. And I think for certain sticks that have, very dark Maduro wrappers or, basically darker leaves that actually have strength to them, right? Like the longer that leaf is exposed to sun, the more concentrated that flavor becomes. So it makes sense. Sure, in a Padron Maduro, yeah, there's a lot of flavor in the wrapper just
Sure.
as much as there is in the binder and filler. But for Habanos, to hear that the wrapper, what they're actually using is the least flavorful part of the plant.
Yeah.
That's not where the flavor, that it's
Sure.
really the ligero in the middle that's delivering most of that flavor.
That was
was
truly eye-opening.
Eye-opening. Because
Yeah.
it was, he said
Shocking.
the contribution was 10%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less
To
than
the flavor.
10 or less.
You know, and all of us in our cigar careers coming up, we were always told to wrap all the flavors in the wrapper.
And you know, for a Habanos, like, you know, we always talk about sometimes the wrapper's delicate, it's thin. You know, it certainly plays into that comment
Sure.
that it's not providing a lot of the flavor.
You know,
It's providing the beauty of the cigar.
one thing I noticed about the wrapper is how elastic it is.
Yeah.
If
Especially when they're rolling
when
it.
they deveined it, and you know, there were like 6 ladies in that one room that were doing nothing but deveining and then sorting them as far as the number of veins that they have. The elasticity of the vein was really, truly very cool to see.
It's true. And they're very wet at that part of the
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
process.
like-
they're like
Allows for that
purposely
elasticity.
humidified, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's very
how
cool,
how intoxicating was the smell
dude.
when he laid out like like the 4 different leaves?
Every fucking room we went into that factory was just the aroma, like a potpourri of like joy.
Yeah.
It was
I want
joy.
a car freshener of all of it.
By the way, this is going to be a new one. It's going to be a potpourri of joy.
And watching the tables where they had the whatever, I mean, they're rolling the Siglo number 4 or the 5. I mean,
Mm,
massive bundles
dude,
just laying there.
it was exciting.
What I think is cool too in Habanos, I'm assuming this is pretty, you know, worldwide, but you know, the torcedores who are actually rolling the cigars are not selecting their leaves. They walk up to their window and they get a bundle of cigars, and they're given the blend of what to blend and how to blend it, and they're told how many cigars to make, and they're given the specific distribution of each leaf to lay that out, and they put them on their desk and they get to the blend
Sure.
and they roll their cigars.
Sure.
I mean, that's the only way you can get the consistency of,
Yeah.
a Cohiba Robusto is going to get, that many of each leaf. So it's got to be consistent to that.
What would be really cool, not to go off topic, we haven't seen any of the farms. When we go back, if we get to see
we
the
gotta go
farm.
out
I would love to do that.
But what I would personally love is if we were able to go with someone like Danilo when he's shopping to see what he's looking for, just to see what his selection process is like. That would be spectacular.
You know, Bam, that's not a bad idea.
Spectacular.
Just him being there and explaining the whole process.
oh, dude,
of-
he's a savant. I mean,
his
there's
his
nothing
wife
that
is a
goes by him.
microbiologist.
Yeah.
We need her to join us too.
Very
So
illuminating.
key points. I mean, I never even, when you open a box, you never look at you look at the cap of the cigar that you're smoking, but you never look at all the caps of every single cigar and, to notice the variation. But now we will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a great teaching point. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want counterfeiters to be listening to our
That's true, Pagoda.
no, we
If
don't.
you're a counterfeiter, please tune out now.
right now.
It killed me when Danilo opened up that Bejique to show us.
Oh, he sliced it
he
open?
sliced it open.
Yeah.
He took a Bejique
Wow.
54 and sliced it right in front of us.
He said, "This is
270.
painful, but it's necessary." That's what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was showing us the media tiempo
Yeah.
leaf should be
Yeah.
right in the middle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It was very clever. He was saying how with fakes, this is like his third tell in kind of this process, right? Like color matching, the caps and imperfections, and then this. And he was saying when you slice that open, every leaf should be a long individual leaf
A
that
whole.
you could pick apart, a
Right.
whole
Yeah.
leaf.
Whole leaf,
Yeah.
right?
And he said what the best counterfeiters do, he's like, you may slice it open and you actually start to pick out the middle and you're saying, oh, wow, it's whole, it's real. But if you keep going, they
Yeah.
may at some point, it's a shorter
fill.
partial
Yeah.
leaf.
Yeah.
And they're brittle.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the tell. And he did that. in the
Actually, I'm
most-
actually gonna take when we go next time. I'm gonna take my fake box of Coros
Oh,
from
that's
Monte
cool.
Fortuna,
Great
and
idea.
I'm gonna give them to him
Great idea.
so that he can kind of.
wow.
I'd like to see him dissect that in front of us.
Well, just bring one.
Pick it up. No, I'm gonna bring the whole box.
Well, what's he going to do with the rest?
I'll give them to him.
Throw them in the garbage. They're fake.
I mean, Jesus.
I assume you've been compensated. For it.
So other things I think we saw after rolling, it was cool to see they have scales to actually weigh the cigars. I mean,
Yeah.
we talked about sometimes how heavily and densely packed they are.
Yeah, there's a range for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was helpful to see. I'm not sure how much that happens because I think we still get some sticks that are
Yep.
light, some sticks that are very heavy. But it was cool to see that they had kind of the measurements for the ring gauge that were
Mhm.
kind of all already imprinted and made that I guess they must measure to make sure that it's meeting the
Sure.
specifications, which was cool.
Yeah.
You know, and as they were rolling, they've got trays that they can. Each Vitola has its own tray, so they're using that tray as the form that
Yeah,
they're working. It's a
make
template.
sure they nail it.
Yeah, it's essentially a template. So when they're rolling, that they're not oversizing or undersizing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think Laguito goes into some extra
Sure.
precise details
That-
to make sure
Mhm.
that they come out consistent
Right.
with no draw issues, no
Right.
like weight variations. So that the end result is that's why they're
Sure.
able to charge
Sure,
what they
sure.
charge for a Cohiba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to go off topic, but the craft room is really cool.
That's where I was going next.
Dude,
Very
it's
cool.
awesome. I personally love that because, you know, going through college and we were, you know, building architectural models and using glue and creating, you know, images that you're putting on boxes and presenting and creating presentations. That was quite a beautiful room. It was pristinely clean. Only a few people were in there, and those are select people that know what they're doing. They've got a great eye and a steady hand. So they were producing beautiful boxes, works of art.
But it's like even that was happening by hand.
Dude.
Like, that was the crazy part.
Dude.
Like when I say it
The
was like
fucking-
literally emotional
the
to see
fucking
the process.
consistency is off the
Like,
charts.
you have to understand, when you see on a cigar box made by hand, you're thinking, okay, yes, the cigar is rolled by hand. That's amazing.
They import these boxes fully finished.
Exactly.
Yep.
And you're watching these women in this room literally like superimposing a Ramon Ionis logo
Yeah.
on like a dress box. Like, this
So
is crazy.
what's-
This is what machines would do anywhere else.
that's
They're doing it
exactly-
by hand.
Not in Havana.
Exactly right. And the artwork is perfectly centered on each side of every panel of every box. No deviations.
And the labels, you know.
Well, yeah, that's the artwork and labels are all perfectly placed.
So each one
even
of them
that-
puts up to 3,000 labels. Each, I don't know who the person is or what they're called,
Mm.
but the people labeling it have to label 3,000
Yeah,
labels.
it's nuts.
per day.
Yeah,
per day. of
I wrote
cigars,
down,
cigar
Danilo
bands.
said that each woman there labels 3,000 sticks
Sticks
per
per
day,
day.
like Pagoda's saying. Again, it's literally putting a label and some glue. This is
incredible.
something a
By
machine
hand.
could do instantly. And there are people doing this by hand. And again, we're talking about like the natural organic components of this process. It is not glue that they're putting on this. It's cellulose from
Yeah.
plants.
Yeah.
Natural organic material, even to adhere a label, a band on a cigar.
And each of those 3,000 cigars, they're picking the best side of that cigar to put
Yeah.
the band
So he called it
face up.
He called it the face of the cigar.
Yes.
So they picked the most beautiful face of the cigar to have that band showing.
Yep.
Right with the logo right center.
yeah, the hairy back goes on the bottom of the box.
Well, you're right.
Yeah, you almost find it in the bag, don't you?
Yeah, it
Spectacular.
was a really amazing
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. Honestly, it was enhanced by having you all you guys with us
Yeah, it
together.
did-
It really was.
It did add to it. The
Sure.
fact that you're putting aside the podcast, obviously that's where this was going to end up. All
Mhm.
this information, this education, but for us to be able, we're all kind of in lockstep with really wanting to absorb like
Sure.
sponges this information, like totally like hit us with it. Just
Yeah.
you know, asking as many questions as we can. Maybe it to an annoying level. I
Yeah.
don't know, but
Yeah.
No,
You know, God bless
they,
them,
I
but-
think they enjoyed our curiosity and our passion for cigars.
Yeah.
So it showed, like, even at the end when we were talking to the director in the room and Danilo was sitting there, we had a bunch of questions. They were very happy to
Yeah,
answer and oblige our questions.
Sure.
I mean, no
well,
doubt.
because our intent is education. And
Yeah.
you know, we're not
Absolutely.
asking for anything
But I
Yeah.
think
other
that's
than
what
time.
that's what was so cool. It's like we go on this tour, we're learning so much with this amazing experience, and we're telling Danilo and Oscar, the director general there, that we have this podcast. We want to be a vessel. We want to share this information
Right.
with our listeners, with the world, and how excited and happy they were about that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, well, we like to keep this stuff quiet. This is our it was like, no, the world should and needs to know this.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was really, really cool.
And
Yeah.
I think that the biggest thing I took from that really, again, and I said this earlier tonight, is separating the Habano sales and marketing thing from the production side and the manufacturing and the artisanship of the people who are actually producing these cigars.
Right.
Those are two separate worlds.
Mhm.
You know, and that was a big thing because we're sitting there with people who really give a damn
Yeah. And
about this thing.
the true
They're not making any more money
No.
because the
No, they're
prices
not.
have gone
No.
up.
no, not at all.
They really give a
Yeah.
damn.
Yeah, and the true eye-opening experience for me, the byproduct of that, I think we mentioned this earlier in the podcast, is really how much for granted we took these cigars and how much we've now come to really, truly appreciate how they're made, the passion that goes into it, the technology that they've created,
Yeah.
literally with nothing.
Yeah.
So it really elevates, I think, the love and appreciation of the
Yeah.
cigar.
I mean, I
Yeah.
wonder if the Bahique Torsador actually knows what that cigar sells for.
I don't know.
And how much
She'll have a heart
how
attack.
much
It's
how
true.
much is making
Yeah.
a month.
It
Yeah.
would be better if they didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
know?
kind of a tragedy, honestly.
It really is.
No, it is. It's
Yeah.
shocking to them. And
Yeah.
we had, we obviously met plenty of locals while we were there. I mean, I remember someone asking, like, how much do these things cost? Because we're
Yeah.
all smoking so many
Their
cigars.
jaw dropped.
I remember that.
And I mean, I said, like, 10 to 30 US a stick usually. And they couldn't believe
Shocked.
Yeah.
that
It's-
something that we would smoke and consume in an hour or two would be 10 to 30 US dollars. That's,
Right.
I mean, what they spend a month
times
trying
times
to
6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I-
Sometimes.
When I gave Yvonne, our host, I gave him a couple cigars, when we were leaving, just as a thank you, because he was so hospitable. He was like nearly emotional about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, these are cigars that are produced 10 minutes from his home.
Right.
And he's never had one.
Yeah.
He's never had a Romeo y Julieta Wide Churchill. He's never had an Esplendido. He's never had a Cohiba. Like, it's crazy to
mean,
me.
The same thing like we talked about on a prior episode about Cuba, the Tropicana show and how amazing it
Yes.
is. You go to the Tropicana show,
It's all tourists.
there's not a single Cuban there.
That's right. All tourists.
Which is a tragedy.
Yeah.
I mean, this
Yeah.
is their
Major
people
tragedy.
performing this the unbelievable skill level and talent, and their own people can't come see them.
But you know what's cool though? Also, the Torsadors are allowed. I'm not sure if it's all of them or
Yeah,
some
all
of
of
them.
them.
All of
Five
them.
a day.
Them allowed to take home 5 a day,
Yeah.
5 a day.
Yeah.
which is amazing.
So on the first trip in November, what I learned, and we learned this, every Cuban citizen does get an allotment of cigars, but the cigars that they get, Giz,
Machine rolled.
yeah, they're blue. They're these blue
Oh, yeah.
banded.
They're
They're probably all the
Toros.
scraps of
Exactly,
tobacco
and
that's
they're
on the
and
floor.
they're truly they're
rolling it.
all fully machine made, minimal hands. And from what everyone was telling us, they were awful. They're just awful cigars, and
they don't smoke them. You never.
No.
I very rarely saw a Cuban national
Oh,
in either of our trips. I've been there
ever smoking
20
a cigar?
days now.
That's true.
Ever smoking a cigar.
That's true.
You know what's also funny to me? The fact that there are so many rollers who are so skilled and have been doing this for so long and don't even smoke
They don't
cigars.
smoke cigars.
And the reason I say this is my parents, it's so funny. My dad, there's some Cuban restaurant in New York that my parents both love. And there's a guy there, this Cuban guy who will roll cigars there. And of course, my dad's become friendly with him over the years as he eats there. And I remember my dad saying to me, he was so confused. He goes, "This guy rolls cigars. And you know what he told me? He doesn't even smoke cigars.
Yeah.
How does he know how to roll cigars?"
That's strange.
And I have the same line of thinking. It's just like, if you haven't consumed this product, how would you know what an optimal cigar should be rolled like? But
Sure.
some of the best stuff we've smoked are from rollers who don't smoke
don't
a damn
smoke.
cigar in their life.
Yeah, you know
And
that
that amazes me.
it is amazing. It doesn't happen in the food industry. Every chef tastes what they
Constantly
make.
tasting. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And I would assume this is the same with winemakers.
I would think
Oh,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
But not
Yeah.
with cigars. Very, very unique.
So speaking of tasting cigars, we were able to sit at Laguito. So we finished our tour. We had an amazing experience. We were able to sit down and sit with Danilo and Oscar, the director, and we all had an incredible cigar from their private collection.
Mm-hmm.
I had an Esplendido. I think all of you guys had Bahiques, right?
Bahiques, yeah. 52.
And we had such an amazing
It was great.
conversation with these guys.
Oh yeah. Now
Amazing.
For the first time, Oscar let his guard down a little bit. In November,
He was not, yeah.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
truly serious, and he had a lot of pressure at the time. This time around, let his guard down, had a pretty good conversation.
Well, Oscar let his guard down.
I knew
But
I
he-
knew he was going
he-
there.
he
I
almost-
I knew he was going
He
there.
almost had an aneurysm a few times, rightfully so. I felt very vindicated because, just for the listener, imagine the comedy of this. You've probably, if
Hold
you've
on.
listened
What did
to
I
this-
do? Did
No,
I
no,
do
no,
something?
not you,
No,
not
me.
you. No,
It's
Oh,
me.
good.
if you've listened to this podcast, you've probably heard at some point, especially when we were recording at my lounge, you've probably heard at some point Giz very ambitiously smoking away as he's trying to
hand.
hold this, 2-inch
Oh,
ash
yes, I
on his
remember this.
cigar. And Giz, you think you need to ash that cigar. It's going to end up on my floor or all over you.
He's trying to impress the director.
And so we're sitting in El Laguito, the Mecca, on these actually beautiful leather chairs that they have in
Dark-
this like main room.
So dark blue leather with walnut grain ends. Beautiful. Beautiful chairs.
And so as we're sitting there, Oscar, who's a very, very serious guy to begin with,
Old school.
he's
Very
just
old
kind
school.
of, I could see he's just staring at Gizmo. And Gizmo doesn't speak much Spanish, so it's not like he's staring, he's about to speak in Spanish with him. He's just staring at him. I'm like, wow, this is strange. And he just looks at me, points, and he waves his finger, basically telling him not to ash his cigar on his chairs.
Right.
On the
Because
couch.
Gizmo on the couch, because Gizmo is just holding his
And
arm,
I'm talking with it.
talking with it right over the couch, where if the ash falls, it's just going to burn in this beautiful leather couch they have. And multiple times tells him that he needs to keep his arm off the couch, that he better not ash on his couch, or he's going to get very upset. I felt so vindicated. It was wonderful.
I got scolded. I did not ash on the couch, by the way. at
We know.
Laguito.
Well, we
Good
wouldn't
job.
have allowed that. We would never be invited back.
I don't
No,
know
we
if
wouldn't.
I don't know if I would be here right now if I did.
You wouldn't.
Yeah, he was not happy.
No eggs for you.
No eggs. But yeah, it was a magical day.
Yeah.
I will forever remember that day. I'm so glad we got to experience
Sure.
together.
I
It
think
was
it's
really
elevated
special.
our cigar game.
It has.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And those Bajiques, I will say, so again, I started this by saying, for me, Cohiba's been more marketing than substance. I've never had a Bajique before, primarily because I just assumed any Bajique I tried to source, the odds that are fake are so high, I'm not
That's
even
true.
going to take the chance.
It's probably one of the most fake cigars in the world.
Period.
Yeah.
And so to have a Bajique from El Laguito that obviously we know is real, and that being my first one, I'll smoke a cigar down, but I'm not one of these crazy guys that needs a roach clip at the end of the cigar. I don't smoke it that far down, but that Bajique,
You minister like Bam Bam.
like that, exactly.
I like my cigars.
But that Bajique, I smoked that thing down till my fingers burn. It was so creamy, so enjoyable. Just a special experience with those guys.
That's high praise, because most of the cigars, actually every cigar you'll get in Cuba, they're very young and usually over humidified.
I feel like what we got though was kind of a either aged or it was kept for a while.
I'm
from
sure.
Danilo.
Yeah.
I feel like we got some really.
That's
nice,
part of his private stock,
Yeah,
so they're
yeah.
kept well, I'm sure.
And I had an Esplendido and it was amazing.
I'm sure.
I just love a Churchill.
Yeah.
It was excellent.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm so glad we got to experience that. Next up, we visited the La Corona factory, the mass production facility for many brands. We also spent time with Osmar, the former factory manager. We were also fortunate during the week to go visit La Corona, which is, if we called El Laguito the artisan hub of Cuban cigars, La Corona is the mothership factory,
The volume
volume and production.
producer. Yeah.
That is
Of
it's an assembly line.
Yeah, multiple marcas.
Yeah, they make a ton
Throughout
of.
the
I
factory,
think they
yeah.
make every marca there almost.
Yeah, it's like the Amazon of Cuban cigars.
Yeah. I mean, literally.
Yeah, there were 8
Literally.
marcas
They have
on the
everything.
wall when we were in a
No,
conference room.
they roll
everything.
almost everything.
Everything.
Everything, even Cohibas.
yeah, they had Siglo 2s when we
Yeah,
were
a
there.
few in
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Cohibas they'll do.
I thought Cohiba was only rolled at El
Going
Laguito.
to be. It's
Yeah.
not
Going
yet.
to
It's
be.
going to be. They're working
Ah,
on
interesting.
transitioning
In
it
the
all
past,
to.
it has been rolled at other
Yeah,
factories.
that was
I see.
actually an interesting point of reference that we learned, that they're going to try to get all of their Cohiba Vitolas in one location, right back at
That makes sense.
home base. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
Then when they do that, they can justify it'll be 200.
Oh, exactly right.
Because they're only rolled in one place.
In small rooms.
That's right. With air conditioning.
So Corona, compared to Laguito, which has a fraction of production staff, team, and torcedores, La Corona has hundreds of rollers on the floor at any given time. Certainly, it's recovered now after COVID, but there's so many other parts and moving pieces to the factory that I think, like we did with Laguito 2 weeks ago, I think we should just kind of walk the listener through the tour that we did and take it all the way from the basement where we started, all the way up to the top floor where they're putting them in the
Yeah,
boxes.
we should actually talk about the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Just when you walk in.
that's a post-Soviet Union style structure, all concrete. It's very it's like it's got a machine-like quality from the street. So when you walk in, it's a true factory.
And it's several stories.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
like at El
three-
Laguito, most things are
yeah.
pretty flat, like 1 or 2 stories.
Yep.
Like this
is
thing's got
3.5 stories.
Okay.
If I remember.
It looks
And
even
it's-
bigger, honestly,
yeah.
outside.
The
It
mass
does,
of
it does look bigger
Yeah.
than that outside.
The
Outside,
mass
it
of
looks like a 5-story building.
Yeah.
I must say it's not ADA compliant.
Oh no.
There's no
Yeah, a lot of stairs.
Well, ADA doesn't exist there. ADA what?
Do they have building code there, Bam?
No. Wow. We talked about that the first year. Jeez.
lots of stairs.
Lots of stairs. So we started in the basement where they actually bring the tobacco into the building, and start sorting it and opening up the bales and start preparing it for distribution throughout the factory.
Do you remember that room we walked in down there? The aroma?
Intoxicating smell.
Oh my
Was,
God.
dude.
I want a car freshener scent just like it. It was incredible.
That's
I'm
a-
just gonna hang a tobacco leaf.
no. I like that idea. That's a great business idea, dude.
The lizard car freshener?
Yeah.
Look, as
All
we
right, we can do
discussed, we don't even need to do it. I want to help the Cuban people do it.
All right, for the listeners,
We
everything
talked
we
about-
say has a copyright on it.
We talked about, I mean, how inventive the Cuban people are. I want to make sure next time we go, we suggest this idea, and hopefully we come back and they figured out a way to make some car fresheners for us with little lizards on them.
Yeah, so we started downstairs and then we made our way upstairs to the sorting room where there were a ton of women at various standing tables separating the leaves for the various types of leaves to then be moved out. And that room was lively and energetic.
And
They were
It was full of
Yeah.
it was full of workers there.
Yeah.
Full of workers.
Yeah, go back to where they had the tobacco leaves. We saw barrels there too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess
For
for
fermenting.
fermentation.
yeah,
Yeah.
fermentation, yeah.
Yeah.
Similar to
Yeah.
Laguito.
Laguito,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I just forgot to ask. I mean, whether they were also from the U.S., like bourbon barrels or not.
It's a good
It
question.
sounds like they had to be because
Yeah.
I mean, their most recent journey would have been to make rum in Cuba, but it sounds like the origin of all of these basically was like an American oak barrel that then went to
Yep.
Europe and then came into Cuba.
Right.
But in terms of first impressions, I think El Laguito was like a 5-star hotel, whereas this was more like,
Like a
motel.
mess, yeah, a
Yeah.
hotel for the masses.
Oh,
it's like
sure.
an assembly line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a manufacturing facility.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Certainly there was nothing pretty about it.
No.
Like you said, Bam, it's just all cement.
Yeah, but it was compelling to walk through that
Oh,
building.
yeah. Just to see the amount of people in there, the amount of hands touching this tobacco. It's
Yeah,
pretty amazing.
and if you compare it to the Laguito, the tour, and where they separated the leaves, it was very mannered at the Palace of Cigars, whereas opposed to La Corona, there were maybe 12 women, and the other at La Laguito, maybe there were 8, and they were separated. And everything was neatly organized. At La Corona is a little looser, a little informal,
Definitely.
but in a very good way though. They get their work done.
Absolutely.
But more lively. I think El Laguito was more sophisticated. This was very lively.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
to Giz's point, when we went in that room where the women were sorting, I feel like we were all trying to be very quiet, very respectful, and they like wanted to hear from us. Like they wanted to chat. They were like, "Whoa, we were about to
Americano,
walk out."
Americano.
Yeah, they're like yelling out,
Take us to New York.
Yeah, it was so they just wanted to chat and have a fun time. It was cool to see.
Yeah, and a point I want to make to the listeners: we were not there during festival week. We were the only visitors in that factory at the time we were there. So it's not like they had an expectation that we were coming.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. But we really got the raw deal.
Yeah.
Kind of like we did at Laguito. So we, after the sorting room, where we had a fun time with the ladies in there, where they were separating out all the leaves that were coming in, and they had scales too. They were weighing the tobacco, to make sure that they're distributing the right amount of each leaf to the torsadors. And then we went across the hall and we went into the destemming room, which, like you talked about, Bam, at Laguito,
Yeah.
where they take the full leaf and they destem the middle of it.
Mhm.
They save that leaf to be sold
Right.
back to the farmers later,
Right.
and then they use those 2 leaves for whatever the application is going to be for each of them.
The process at La Corona was much, much faster than what we saw at El Laguito. There was just a higher paced, faster paced.
It was cool. I mean, you're
Yeah.
just sitting there and like there's
It's-
so many more people all doing the same thing at one time. I mean, it just feels
Dude.
like you're watching some kind of video.
It's
of,
an art watching them take that stem out without destroying the delicate leaf. It's amazing.
But it also felt like one big happy family
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
which is
Well, that's a testament to the director.
The rollers were happy.
Happy.
Yeah.
They were jovial. They were conversing with each other. They were talking to us.
Yep.
You know, they're walking around.
The energy
It
levels
seemed
were
like
very
a
high.
great atmosphere.
It's so funny you say that. I mean, I vividly remember as we're going on the tour and we're going up and down all these stairs, we're saying not being very ADA compliant. But as we're going up at one point, we saw like this whole group of workers sitting on the steps, chatting, having a good time, laughing. And I'll be honest, I mean, just my expectation going in, I mean, you kind of expect in a place like Cuba that some of these places are just
Like they were being
run.
handcuffs. Or something.
I mean, not that extreme, but not far from it. I mean, honestly, I just expected like you're to sit at that desk, do exactly what you're supposed to, leave and come back and do the same thing tomorrow. And I just couldn't believe how casually they were able to just sit there, have fun, just like we would at an office here.
Mhm.
And that was really cool to see that they were able to enjoy themselves, their company, being their colleagues at work. And it was kind of a special thing.
Sure.
But I think that also speaks to the overall experience of the Cuban people that we found there. Is that, listen,
content.
these folks don't have great lives.
No.
They don't have a lot. We're not sitting here saying that the Cuban government is doing a great job helping these people. They're doing the exact opposite of that. They're failing their people. It's an absolute shit show there economically. These people have difficulty getting food, clothing, shelter, transportation. It's all bad. However, that doesn't dismiss what we're seeing in that these people are making the very best of it. So what I don't want the listener to walk away from this conversation thinking that we're optimistic about Cuba and the government there.
No,
but
we're not.
But we're very high on the people.
we're very
Of
high
course.
on the people and their ability to be resilient.
Right. That's the
That's
key
I
word.
think it's
That's
the,
the key
level
word.
of contentment due to lack of any other choice.
Yes.
They've kind of adapted
Yeah.
to this culture that they know that they can't do anything
Sure.
else. So
Sure.
why not be happy in the moment and live in the moment and
And do their best.
make the best of it.
And I think Bam teed this up, and we'll talk a bit more about this, but a lot of it also stems from the leadership there and kind of
Yes.
how they
Mhm.
institutionalize that this is not a place to come to be miserable every day. This is a place that we want you to feel ownership of what you produce and help provide there. And you see it in all the people that we met, how happy they are to actually show up and work there and proud
Yeah.
to be there.
Yeah, and then during the tour, we were kind of pointed to an area where they told us like these are the trainees. They're
Yeah.
learning how to roll.
Yeah.
And I forget like how long the training
So the
period
program's
is.
in 9 months. So good tee up there, Rooster. So we leave the stemming room, we walk upstairs, and that's the floor of torcedores. That's where they all are. There's I mean, hundreds and hundreds of torcedores rolling, versus some of the pictures that we certainly saw during COVID, and you might have seen, listeners out there. There were really no empty benches. It was a full house.
Sure.
Maybe there were 20 or 30 empty from folks who had gone home or whatever, had finished what they had to do for the day. But to your point, on let's say the top left corner of that floor is where the students were who were being taught in their 9-month program how to successfully roll great cigars.
And what's cool, we didn't see that in our first round
We did not.
back in November. That was really interesting to see.
That was awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I'm like, you're sitting there and like a lot of them are pretty young that you
They
can
are.
see they're doing this. And you're like, this is the future of this business, right? I mean, these are literally the people that, 10 years from now are going to be the ones rolling the cigars we're smoking. So that was just really cool for me, and hearing kind of the vision of how they train them up. I think the director was explaining to us how they all get graded and they need to maintain a certain standard to get through the program and
Right.
ultimately be a torcedor.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not 100% success rate. Some of them fall out due to, it's just not working or stress, or maybe their dexterity's not there, their hand-eye coordination, whatever it may be to roll.
Sure.
And then on the flip side of that, I don't know if you remember what Danila told us at Laguito. They had a recent graduate who was almost a top-level torcedor
Yep.
coming out of that program.
Young
He was so talented.
and young.
And I think that, and he was very young.
Yeah.
And I think they put him right into the Bahique Saloon at Laguito to roll coming off the program. So
Wow.
he had a fast track to,
Sure.
So I
it's
wonder
pretty-
if
pretty
they,
hard to-
if they
pretty,
train them at La
good success.
Corona and maybe graduate them to Laguito.
it's a very good possibility. I'm not sure of that. It's possible.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if they have that program at Laguito.
Because Laguito did not have that many rollers to begin with. You know, I mean, like we're talking about 300 plus rollers at La Corona and the
Yeah.
amount of training that happens. So if you learn to roll one cigar, you can roll another one. It
Yep.
shouldn't, you know.
That's true.
So maybe
Yeah.
they do that.
Yeah, they very well may. So yeah, then you're on the floor of the Torcedores, and they're kind of grouped together based on the vitolas that they're rolling, based on their experience. The back corner, the back left corner, let's say, all the way down the hall. So we're talking, how big is this building, Bam? Square,
So
on a floor.
on that floor, to me, it looked like it was roughly 45 feet wide and probably 110 feet long, something like that.
About 5,000 square feet.
Per floor.
Per
Per
floor.
floor,
Yeah, that's a sizable building.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
it's what do you think? It's a 30,000 square foot building?
Well, I only remember 3 stories, really.
Yeah. Well,
There's
that's 6 floors, the 3 floors.
when you're inside. Correct me if I'm wrong. We went 1, 2, 3 stories. I don't know if there's an additional story.
About 15,000 square
four.
feet.
Yeah,
Or
maybe
plus
4
the-
floors
4 with the basement.
at the
right?
cellar, including this. But there wasn't much other action happening other than debaling the.
So it's
tobacco
15 to
down
20,000 square foot
there. I
building.
think so.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
the rooftop.
And the rooftop.
That's not a big building for what they're producing. The volume of cigars that they're making there, that is not a big structure.
Yeah.
At 5 million sticks or units per year, it's not a big building.
So in the back left corner on that same side is where actually the best of the best rollers are, including some of the folks that we were able to spend some time with. We actually got a demonstration of the top roller there,
Oh, yeah.
who's a good friend of ours now.
Lickety split. He was done with an impeccably rolled cigar.
Dude,
How do you do that?
this guy is like Michael Jordan of rolling cigars. Is he not?
Yes, yes.
He
I know.
is.
I know you laugh at me when I say that.
Well, they all laughed at you too.
Well, I especially laugh because you hate basketball so much.
That's
So I
true.
do love you using a basketball reference.
Well, he loves MJ.
I do love MJ. I love MJ's story, but yeah, it's amazing to see some of the folks that just what they're able to do with a couple tobacco leaves and some talented hands. It's really incredible what they're able to
Oh,
produce.
that's the other thing we didn't mention. So in that room, when you walk in on the right side, the burgundy shutters where they hand out what
Oh,
they're going to
yes.
be rolling. We should talk about that.
So yeah, so the way that I think we talked about this briefly in the
We
Laguito
did,
episode. Obviously, it's scaled up here at Corona, but so when the torcedores walk in, I think they get them 2 or 3 times a day, depending on how many cigars they're rolling. But they walk up to a window, and they're handed the bundle of tobacco that they're to use to make the cigars they need to every day. And the process is actually semi or completely anonymous in that they don't know who's handing them the tobacco from the other side. So they can't grease these people before or after work.
Mm.
It's they do that so that there's
Anonymity.
anonymity.
Yeah,
So you're not getting preferential treatment
Right.
in the distribution of tobacco.
And it's like for the listener, if you would imagine like a drive-through window, but you couldn't see the person's face that's actually
That's a
handing
good
you
way
the
to put
food.
it.
Yeah.
That's like literally what it looks like. There's just this window, just enough to put their arms through, hand them what they need to, but you don't actually see who's giving you what or what you're getting.
Yeah. We saw that in action, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. We were
Yeah.
actually there when a bunch of torcedores, I don't know if it was right after lunch.
No, they were going up to the window.
They're
and
going up
getting-
to the
yeah.
window. There were a lot of them there going up to get tobacco. And
Cool.
and somebody from our group, I don't remember who it was, actually walked up to get tobacco, made a joke of it. It was pretty funny. But
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting is that the rollers have no idea what brand they're rolling.
no
They
idea.
have no idea whether it's a punch or a quaba.
Yeah.
They're just given a formula, roll the cigar.
Mhm.
If you're rolling a Salomon, this is how many tobacco leaves you need. This is what you're doing. And then it goes and then it gets color, separated by color and then banded eventually.
Not
and
not to
boxed.
jump ahead, but the number of vitolas that are produced in that factory from those beautiful, elegant little cigars, like those little Cohiba, unusual shape, all the way to the Robustos and the Churchills, it's incredible. The variety of vitolas that they're rolling. And one torcedor going through several different vitolas, that's true skill.
Well, I
True
think it-
skill.
I think it's also encouraging. I mean, I would never have expected that to be the case, that they have no idea really what they're rolling every
Mm.
time.
Yeah.
And the fact that that is the case, it's very encouraging when you think about, like, we have these preconceived notions about certain brands, like certain brands we think are very high quality, other brands we probably think are low quality. And based on the system, how they actually produce these, there's not a meaningful difference in the rolling of a Partagas or an Upman at La Corona, or a COHIBA or a Punch or something else there. And that there's something nice about that, you know, if you don't like one of those cigars, it's because you don't like that blend.
It's a great point.
But it's not because it's you know, rolled in an inferior way, as if like there are only rollers that roll COHIBA versus Partagas versus something else. And that challenged everything I would have expected.
If this what he just said really pulls down the curtain on the Vitolas and the brands, right? And even in this room, we have preconceived notions of what a high quality cigar is and what a low quality cigar is. That's out the window now.
Well,
it truly is.
I think your point is
it's the taste. It's personal
it's all
taste.
about palate.
Absolutely.
Right? It's not about a quality in one brand versus another.
Yeah, yeah.
The only thing I think that's a difference maker that we need to point out is that corner that we're talking about where the best rollers are, they are given the special stuff.
Yeah, they're rolling the Solomons.
They're rolling. Well, no, like Alex is,
shapes,
you know,
109s.
Alex is rolling, you know, regional and limited releases, 109s. They do know they're giving those
That's
rollers
fair.
the
I mean
specific
more
stuff.
for standard production.
Most standard
stuff.
production.
Yeah,
absolutely. There's no discerning
it's true.
difference in quality in you know,
but it's the same tobacco going into every single cigar.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they have different tobacco, like kind of like from different farms going into different brands.
I think there's some of that. I do think there's some of that.
There must be, because what you're getting in a COHIBA, you're getting, I mean, I'm not getting anything like that in any other cigar. Not that that's a great cigar. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's bad or not.
But COHIBA for sure has, you know,
well, leaving
preferential
COHIBA
treatment
alone
when they're
because
getting
it's Laguito. It's a separate factory.
Sure.
They could have access to tobacco from a certain specific farm. So, you know, and also the fact that, you know, they're rolling. They're also rolling certain brands because that's what the orders that are coming in for.
This is true. You know, they're also rolling regionals in that cigar.
They are.
In that factory, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff comes out of Corona.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah. And no shortage of boxes right now.
Yeah, so when Bam and I came back in November, that's a good point. When we came back in November, there was a shortage of packing supplies where they had a lot of cigars ready to be packed and shipped out. And that's not the case anymore.
No.
They have plenty of all of it.
We kind of ended the tour, didn't we, in that craft room, let's call it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so
beautiful to see how they built the boxes and labeled them. It's really stunning.
That was awesome.
That's amazing.
That was awesome, man.
Yeah.
And all natural stuff.
Adhesives were all natural.
Yeah.
The craft in creating the box was truly elegant. The process in which they go through.
I was honestly surprised. I just, for some reason, assumed that they received the boxes already made and had all the emblems and things that are supposed to be on there. I didn't realize that at the factory that all this is being rolled, they actually have people like literally just with a wooden, you know, box that they have to adhere all these different decals and things to make the art of the
labels
box.
are all centered, beautifully cut. They have complete command on that chain of custody from creating the cigar to the box and getting it out.
But I don't think all the boxes are physically made in the factory. I think they get them from overseas too. They mentioned.
I think some of the higher end boxes, like the boxes that like
the
let's
varnish
say,
boxes,
that the Cohiba Lancero comes in, or the Esplendido, or the Sir Winston. Those boxes are certainly coming from overseas. But most of the regular production stuff, I mean, even some of the the Anahados the Senator had before we started this podcast today from H. Upman that we did a few weeks ago. That box was made in that factory at Upman.
That's a
hand.
That's a varnished box.
So
I don't know. It's a cardboard box.
It's a dress box.
I think Rooster's making a good point.
I'm telling you, I just opened it. But that's the thing. Like any dress box they make there easily.
The people who are manufacturing these cigars, they're trying to treat them well. Because like Osmar said in so many words, happy people make good cigars.
Yeah.
And I think that at his time in Laguito and his time in the other factories, I think he's worked at all the major factories, he said, except I don't remember if it was Upman or Partagas that he hadn't worked at, but he's run all these factories. And he spent 10 years at Laguito, and now he's been at Corona for 4 or 5, I believe. And he's trying to...
Which even that is so fascinating, right? I mean, I was sitting there when we first learned that, and you think of like, Laguito is like the Mecca. Like if you are the director general there, that's probably as good as it gets. Like that's the mountaintop for that job. And I was so confused. Well, why would he be moved to La Corona? Nothing against La Corona, but like it's hard to beat that job. And it was so cool to hear that he's so good at it. And essentially because they produce so much more at La Corona, his impact could be magnified in such a huge way by him sharing all of his knowledge and instilling his process in his way at the factory that produces more cigars than any.
Yeah, it's got to be like a 5 times the size of the enterprise at La Corona. You mentioned the amount of control that you need to have over that. It's astounding.
Yeah, and it also makes sense that he's been there like 4 to 5 years, and you see the production quality, getting like much better. Like I remember like 19s, 20, 21, 22s.
That's interesting.
Even
Yeah,
the
very
cigars
interesting.
are smoking better. I
Oh,
mean,
we've
we're
had-
having a 21 lens. I mean, although it wasn't rolled at
Right.
La Corona, but a lot of the younger stuff is smoking really great, and
we've talked about this,
they've been
yeah.
consistent.
It is.
We haven't really had many draw issues with the newer boxes.
Think about
true.
how much better the Monty 2s got,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
especially since 2018, 2019.
Exactly right.
And a lot of them are made at Corona.
Yeah.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Well, that's what was cool. So Gizmo, during this discussion with Osmar in Gizmo's broken Spanish, was
There's always a jab there, Bam. You hear that?
I heard that.
I'm
and
going
I
to
love
shut his mic off.
it. No, leave it on. Todo bien.
And so Gizmo was trying to say basically that we as the consumer notice a difference in just the last few years, like Rooster's saying. And it was cool to see Osmar's reaction. It was as if he hadn't really heard that before from an American consumer. And it's got to be really validating. It was just cool for us to be able to share that.
I
and
think he was being very modest,
Yeah.
Yeah.
very humble.
It's exciting, though, to have that thought of it, of what's happening there. It's really exciting. Gives me goosebumps,
Yeah.
honestly.
And mind you, like these guys, producing about 5 million cigars annually.
Yeah.
But considering his vision, where he nearly wants to double it up and go to
Mhm.
9 million by 2030,
That's
that's in
incredible.
the next 7 years. This is a guy who knows his stuff and wants to do it right.
So one of the other cool things during our discussion with Osmar and his team at La Corona, we were talking about, this was probably when we were in the boxing room where they were like assembling all the boxes. How many cigars are in a box? And right now, I think
Oh, yeah.
most of them we purchase are
That's
25
right.
count, in a box, whether it's a dress box or Semi Boy Nature, whatever the case may be. And he was talking about how it used to be the case that the King of Spain, and Spain is, I actually think to this day, they say like more Cuban cigars are sent to Spain than anywhere. There's some like stat like this.
Yeah, I think that came about when Gizmo asked him, why is there a certain times you open a box and there's like a wooden piece
A block.
on the lower
Yeah.
level.
Or
On the
cardboard
lower-
if it's a
cardboard,
dress
yeah,
box. Yeah.
and
On the
then-
lower level.
Then that was his answer.
Yeah. So he was saying that the King of Spain had wanted 26 cigars in a box. And then at some point that changed to 25. I think it was like easier to count or something like that, like everything just being
Multiples,
25,
yeah.
like to very
Mhm.
easily do the math. So they had to add that little cardboard piece if it's in a dress box or that little piece of wood.
Mhm.
And so apparently now, especially as they're having a shortage of boxes, I think both Giz and Bam, your first trip before we all went as a group, were talking about how they apparently have all these cigars on the island. They don't have boxes to get them out,
That's
at
true.
least allegedly. And if that's the case, it'd be better off for them to try to fit as many cigars per box as possible so that they have to use less boxes. So we were told that there is talk about in the future going back to 26 count boxes, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a big move.
In our final Cuba episode, we detailed our experience at a few Cuban retail shops. Most importantly, the famous Partagas LCDH. All right, so let's talk about some of the shops we went to, some of those experiences. I found those to be some really wonderful memories, sitting in some of the shops in Havana.
The very first day.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
first.
man.
You guys
Very
got
first
off the
afternoon.
First couple hours.
First couple of hours.
I mean,
you guys got off the plane and we were
Well, we had lunch.
right in it. Yep.
We got to the place, we checked in, left our luggage, got ready, went to that spot for lunch, which was really good. What was the name of the place again?
Mar Adentro.
Mar Adentro.
Yep.
And then from there, it was walking distance to Melia Cohiba,
Yeah.
which is a hotel.
in the sun, which
In the-
Bam was not so happy about.
That was great.
So I'll just take another
I
shower.
lost
when
10
get back.
pounds on the way over.
I mean, it was like
It was a half a mile.
not even. It was like a quarter of a mile. It was a quarter of a mile.
When I'm away,
Handing
I
out
wa-
balls on the way.
No physical activity, please.
That was an impressive.
We were handing out balls on the way, actually, to the
impressive,
kids.
impressive spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lounge was one of the better lounges that were in Cuba. I think it was quiet, and we were able to access that back room overlooking the Malecon.
Private room. Yeah.
And we tried you guys had the Santiago 20 rum.
Yeah, the one we did 2 weeks
We
ago.
had coffee. We had some espresso.
Yeah. Now that was your first taste of the Santiago 20.
It was incredible. I mean, if you could, we're on a plane. We're tired. I mean, we had a very early flight, and just the first cigar experience in Cuba is sitting there. I light up a D4, take a sip of Santiago 20, and I'm sitting there saying, "This is the best rum I've ever had in my life." I mean, I think it got 10s across the board when we reviewed it.
Yeah.
You have this amazing view Rooster's talking about, just like overlooking the water. And you're in a private room in Havana smoking a Cuban. And it's like it just doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah.
After his first sip, he said, "I'm moving here."
Yeah, that's right.
That's all it took.
So the second place that we went, which was very, very memorable, and I know for Senator was borderline, if not absolutely emotional,
Sure was.
It was absolutely emotional.
was the Partagas shop over by the Floridita,
Yes, sir.
where Hemingway used to hang out. The new Partagas shop over there. We had a magnificent time there at the Partagas shop.
Yep.
So it's right downtown in central Havana, very close to, a lot of the happenings.
Yep.
Like I said, right next to the Floridita. It's right near the Parque Central, which we'll talk about. But that is the heart and soul of Partagas for retail buyers,
Sure.
for people in Cuba who love Partagas. That is the place to be. The people there, Odalis, Herbierto, there's so many people there that are just Renee, who runs the place. Senator will tell a story
They're
about that.
spectacular.
It's just unbelievable service, and they are genuinely just so happy to see you every time.
They're also extremely hardworking.
Yes.
There's no dust collecting on anyone there. They're all active, stocking shelves, taking care of their customers. Renee walked in with a bottle of rum and just poured for everyone in our lounge where we were sitting. I mean, you can't beat that.
And not just for everyone. I mean, it was, I think we might have talked about, we met this amazing guy there, Roberto.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Oh,
This guy's
amazing guy.
just
We're going to have him on the podcast.
True Renaissance man.
Incredible.
Right?
Just a world traveler. The guy was in his
80s.
I mean, he didn't even look in his 80s. Crazy. Guy was a cardiologist, knows everyone in the cigar business in every country you can think of. And we just kind of hit it off. And the funny thing is, so we're sitting in the Partagas lounge, and Roberto's sitting to my left. And I just remember looking over at him, and he's lighting his cigar.
Oh, yeah.
And I just start saying to all the guys, I'm like, look at this. This guy's a lizard. And he's lighting his cigar with his watch. It was the craziest
That was
thing.
one of the most amazing
Honestly,
things I've
though,
ever seen.
it was bizarre a bit, but it was very cool,
It was.
too.
I'm just sitting there saying, like, only we would be stupid enough to do something like this. And the
We
fact that
found
there's
someone who's dumb.
I mean, it's like the fact that there's another person on this planet that would have like a watch lighter. I thought it was so cool.
It's also the way he was smoking his cigar.
That's
The
right.
cigar was in a pipe.
Yeah, yeah.
It
He had a
wasn't
special-
directly in
he
his
had-
mouth.
yeah, he had a
like
special pipe.
special pipe
That's
for
true.
a cigar.
For like petite Coronas or something.
But for a guy in his 80s to flip up his watch like James Bond and light a cigar,
It's amazing.
It's
that
cool.
it was just very cool. I
Yeah.
wish we caught a photo of that.
He was a lizard.
yeah,
he was pretty
big time,
badass.
Big time.
But I feel like, we really hit it off with him, and we were just talking about our passion for cigars and a little bit about the podcast. And he was telling us about all his kind of, global cigar travels.
He got emotional
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he
a
did.
moment or two there.
He did.
I think he was talking about Avo for some reason at
Yes.
that time.
He was very close
when
friends
he
with...
got emotional. I was trying to think,
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
what was he talking about that he got so emotional? I thought maybe it was when the floods like destroyed the crop, but I think it was about something about Avo.
Yeah, he was very close friends with Avo. Yeah.
He also owns his own factory
Yeah.
where he lives.
In
Argentina.
Argentina, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Really crazy. And then I feel like we kind of hit it off, and I think Renee knew him, and that sort of, I think, warmed Renee up to all of us. And like Bam said, he just walks in and he just points at everybody and goes, rum? And we're all just, yes. We all just nod quickly.
Can I just say something? If anyone would have said no, I would have punched that guy right in the face. I
I
would have
don't-
just punched him right in the face.
I don't think you would have had to. I think Renee would have. Renee is a no nonsense kind
Oh,
of guy.
absolutely.
And then he just comes back in the room with a bottle of rum and a bunch of glasses, and he pours some rum out on the floor. I think in honor of like Partagas.
Yeah.
And people
And,
people that have gone before us.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then he poured all of us a nice, very healthy pour, and we got to toast with him, which was really cool. And I think the best part of our experience with Renee is just he's sitting there starting to chat with us, and he talks about how he's always wanted there to be a guest book in the Partagas shop.
Oh, yeah.
And he finally went out and bought a book that he wanted people to sign. And he said it would be his honor to have us be the first to sign the guest book in the
Very
Partagas
cool.
shop. And so Roberto signs, and all of us got to write a message. And that's honestly where I got a little bit emotional, because I think for anyone who's listened to this podcast would know Partagas is my favorite cigar brand. And I wrote in my note to them, Partagas has been part of every single special moment in my life. It's my wedding cigar, my birth of my son, so many special memories. So it was so cool to be able to thank the people that make this all possible. And I mean, that book, I'm sure will live on for a very long time there.
True.
It's pretty cool. You'll
It's
see
true.
the lizards on page 1 and 2.
Yeah, we're right up front.
Yeah.
That was a very nice honor.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
Bam and I had spent some time with Renee in November. It was during the festival week for Partagas, so it was a little chaotic.
He was under pressure.
He was under a lot of pressure. There was a lot of people there, and certainly a lot of heavy hitters that go in there and buy, non-Americans who go in there and buy, dozens, if not hundreds of boxes
Yeah.
at a given time and take them home. So, for us, we don't do that because we can't. We can't take that much stuff home. So, it was
I
nice
love that
to.
Gizmo said, because we can't. He would happily take 400 boxes of Partagas home.
I would.
All Lucy's.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
By the way, how cool is it to sit in the Partagas shop and light up a Lusitania?
That was my first stick I
I
lit
know. You lit up a Lusitania. I lit up an 898.
I think I don't remember what I lit
I think
up.
you might have had a P2.
At a D4.
Possibly. A P2. Yeah,
Yeah.
possibly.
Yeah. What did you have, Rooster?
I think it was an 898.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
I think you and I had 898s. But to sit in that Partagas lounge, drinking rum with Renee, having this wonderful conversation
Yeah.
with Roberto,
Mm-hmm.
and smoking Partagas.
So back in
incredible.
November when we went, it was hustle and bustle. It was crowded. People from all over the world were there. Canada, Japan, Europe, you name it. So I didn't get emotional when I first walked in. I was just enamored.
It was almost overwhelming.
It was
just
overwhelming because
overstimulated.
you don't get a chance to walk into a cigar shop and it's full of Cuban cigars, and it's you're walking into the Partagas shop. It's a destination, and it was really it was very special. And honestly, coming back in the second time with the rest of the group, I just held back, and I wanted to hear their experience and see how they reacted to it. It was pretty cool.
I just liked how much more chill it was this time.
Oh yeah,
How much more relaxed.
Very laid back.
Everybody wasn't crazy.
very
That's the
laid
big
back.
thing for me. So honestly, as much as I wanted to visit the Partagas shop, my expectation was that it was going to be very crowded. So I was never even, I wanted to go, but I wasn't that excited because I thought it would just be mobbed, and that's not the experience I was looking for. And I remember the lounge, you kind of walk through the shop and it's tucked away in the back. And as soon as we got to the back and just looked around the corner into the lounge area, I couldn't believe there was one guy, Roberto, sitting there. And it's like the whole place was ours. It was amazing. So I can't think of honestly a better experience we could have had. And I think that's what allowed us to have like a really meaningful conversation with Roberto, what allowed us to chat more with Renee. And it just made the experience.
The coffee was great as well.
Yeah, they make
Yeah.
great coffee there.
Great coffee.
Yeah.
Even the woman who was serving there,
Sony.
she's so nice.
Amazing.
Just such a great job. Just everything there, start to finish. Like I just really appreciated how, I think because we know in Havana, sometimes the service is great. In other establishments, particularly if it's government owned, it's not. And it's just such a welcoming experience, like start to finish there, while a very intense one in that you can see everybody there takes tremendous pride in the work they do. They don't mess around. It was just cool to see.
Also what was cool was like all the transactions there were done in dollars, like for us, and we actually got change back in dollars, not in
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in Cuban
That's
peso.
true.
I didn't see that anywhere else.
No, only there.
Yeah, well, a lot of the other LCDHs are government owned,
Mhm.
like government run, government owned. So I think they make an exception for Partagas because there's so many Americans that go there. I don't know why that is because it's all operated by the same company, but for some reason they make it a little easier. They don't need you to use your the MLC card like they do at other places.
The other cool thing when you visit these shops, and we actually didn't see this at Malia Cohiba where we kind of started this conversation, is that they'll have a roller sitting there rolling cigars. And I forget who the roller is. Our friend who's been to Cuba many times had mentioned there's like a great roller at Malia Cohiba. Juanita, who was not there.
She was not there that week. You know why? Because I think the week prior, she probably was rolling so many cigars for the festival folks that she probably took some time off.
That makes sense. But it was great when we were at the Partagas shop. The famous La China was sitting right there, and for me it was very cool because I had just heard about her, and they have a mural like painted on the wall of her
right behind where she sits.
her, and it's just like I have these photos, and it just felt surreal. You're like looking at this person in the flesh, actually rolling cigars, people surrounding her, tons of tourists taking photos and videos, and then right on the wall behind her is this like beautiful mural of her. It's very cool to see.
What a great trip to Cuba, boys.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to go back and have many, many more of these stories.
I'm very happy to have experienced that with everyone in this room.
Yeah, I'm glad that we did it.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Couldn't have been better.
Brothers in arms, lizards in Cuba. You can't beat that. Great experience.
Yeah, and I think it just affirms, anyone who considers himself a lizard and listens to this podcast, you love Cuba. There's no other way to put it.
Yep.
And if you go with the right mentality, like we've talked about so many times, if you go down there not expecting lush, accommodations and
go in the spirit of giving.
Exactly.
You're golden.
Yep.
And you get back so much in return.
Yeah. Bam Bam's Accountability Hour turned into memes and recurring mentions after 2 episodes of absolute shock and awe. 4 words sum it up nicely. Bam, this is Bam. Listen, he's had it 9 months in his possession now.
Yeah.
He got it in, May?
I don't remember.
Where is it?
It's in my cellar.
Okay. You haven't...
I've wiped it out with distilled water.
Have you put the Cigar Oasis in?
No, I haven't.
Have you even bought the Cigar Oasis?
I have it all. I've got the LED tape, the light, the whole 9 yards, the weather strip.
All you have to do is plug it in.
I just
Bam
haven't
Jr.
Yeah, Bam Jr. is pretty good at that stuff. He could do that for me.
Right?
But what is it in the spot it's going to reside in?
Yes, it is. It's wiped out. I
don't
just got to
know
get to it.
I thought it was in your garage.
This is crazy.
It was in my
crate or
garage for a little
something.
while. No, it was there for a while, but it's downstairs.
This is lunacy.
You need to get this together, Bam. Seriously.
I will.
Bam Bam Accountability Hour.
I will.
It's a new year. It's time. The people want you to get your shit together.
We need to set a timeline. By next pod,
How many?
we want to see a picture with
Do you have
cigars.
cigar? Does he have cigars?
At the next pod.
Yeah, he has Tupperwares. For
How
you.
many? How many
has
listener
at least-
requests
a lot of
every
boxes.
week do we
Yeah.
get saying when is Bam going to get the humidor set up?
Here's what you do.
I'm
least
determined
2.
now.
But here's what you do.
You guys have put me on the spot. I'll get it done.
And
That's
the
called
listeners-
accountability.
Here's what you,
You
do.
got it. You got it.
take the Cigar Oasis, you install it. Then you take the drawers within the Tower of Power, and then you put distilled water on it, and you let them sit for a little while.
Yep.
That's
He's done
it.
that
I know.
already.
Then
He did that.
okay,
Well, no, I didn't get that far.
It doesn't
I
count.
wiped it out.
and then you wait a few days.
He did the
You
bottom
check it
shelf.
out, and then you put your cigars into the humidor,
You know,
and then you close the door.
I'm very
and turn on the
embarrassed.
Oasis and put some hydrometers in there, and you're done.
I
And
know
then-
what it is. He's waiting for the electrician to do the LED lighting in the tower.
The string lights.
The string lights.
No,
String lights.
that's not it.
This is for every
It's
podcast.
just strange.
It's a sin.
It'll get done.
This is a podcast sin. You're
And
committing.
here's the other.
Just put your cigars in it. What
so
are you
I-
afraid of?
I just have to find.
Do
I
you know
gotta
how
find
many
it.
people
It's
wanted
the
that
mental.
tower?
I gotta fit it in my brain. I
And
gotta
by the
get
way,
it done.
you'd be surprised at like how quickly the thing, because the cigars
So fast.
actually they contain some humidity, and then when you put the distilled and what's it called when you put there's a technical term for it when you put the distilled water on it, you just treat the cedar.
all the surfaces.
Seasoned?
You
Yeah,
wipe,
the-
yeah, you
Talk
wipe
about
it all out.
seasoning?
Seasoning. Thank you guys. When you season it, you'd be very surprised how quickly
All right, here's a
good things
question.
start to happen.
So here's a
within there.
question.
It's not that hard.
So I wiped out the entire interior of the tower maybe 5 weeks ago with distilled water. Do I have to do it again?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is,
Probably.
look, Ben,
you
this
gotta
is-
do that, like,
this is so fucking simple. I own the exact same tower.
Yes.
All you need to do, take a sponge, put distilled water,
I did
wring it
that.
out. Just wipe down every surface in the entire
I've already
thing.
done that,
That's
but
going to take you 10 minutes.
But I've got to do it
It's
again,
gonna ta-
apparently.
yes, it'll take 10 minutes.
Okay.
You're just wiping a sponge around cedar. This is the easiest thing
Get
you
the
can do.
Oasis.
I
in.
have to say,
And then
It's
look,
more like
you
7
just-
minutes.
Look,
Yeah.
thank you. And then you just are going to plug in the Cigar Oasis,
Put it in there.
put distilled water in the bottom of it with beads it comes with. You're going to like that part.
he might use it for different reasons.
And literally just set the humidity to what you want it to.
Yep.
And that's it. Leave it for a few days. And that thing is going to hold humidity beautifully. And
How
then you're going to
long-
fill it up.
How long should I wait before I start loading it up?
I would
Six
just
months.
Keep waiting.
Just-
A week?
I would just wait a week just to
Okay.
be
Bam,
extra
bam.
safe.
Bam.
Just do it, dude. Put the cigars in. Nothing's gonna
Put the
happen.
cigars in.
No, don't.
It's gonna happen, bro.
You're putting it. Put the whole boxes in there.
That's right.
I will.
You'd be surprised. I've run the Remington literally with nothing in it.
Mm.
And it sits at 62 because it's packed with cigars.
That's nice.
Something like it got a little dry. I took one of those big Bovida packs and
The
just
320s.
and just put one in the middle, and it just sits. It just sits. I don't do anything. I don't put any water
It's
in
a
there.
sealed cabinet, so
Yes.
it's gonna
Yes.
contain the humidity in it.
I've got to do the weather stripping around the door. I got to seal the outlet in the back.
Yeah, it's not sealed in the same way that yours are.
a little different.
It breathes more, which I prefer.
I agree.
It's
like
not
a
like
big humidor.
It's not
It's
like
like
a
a
wine door, where a wine door is
Yeah.
like literally like no air can
It's a
possibly flow
big
into anything.
desktop unit.
Yeah, but when you get a new toy, you want to set it up like right away.
Yeah.
You're
Honestly,
all, like,
you get it.
excited
It took
to do
so long
that.
to get. My enthusiasm waned by the time I got it.
So you
I moved
prefer
beyond it.
every day digging through Tupperware bins to find your cigars?
No,
Come
I
on.
actually hate
So-
that. I do hate
right.
that.
So that should be all the
I'll say,
motivation you
I
need.
hate it.
Not to pile on,
Oh, go ahead, please.
but the amount of cigar acumen you have. It's just shocking that we had to go through this process of telling you how to do this.
I think you just like busting my chops.
No, what it is we love you, Bam. We care about
We
you.
do
I love
love
you too.
you.
I love
This
you
is an
Dearly,
intervention.
This
I
is
love you
a
too.
needed intervention.
we want you to optimize this.
You
this
want me to
passion of
enjoy my
ours.
cigar passion?
Yeah.
What I hear is you don't care about the listener. That's what I'm hearing.
Oh,
Because
well,
they're
that's
counting on
a little.
us.
That's a little too
They're
much.
counting
is-
on us to provide information.
That's a definitive statement.
You know, I've got my tail between my legs now. It's a
It's a fixable.
hurt.
It's a
I'm very
fixable
hurt.
problem.
That
It's a
hurt. That's-
fixable problem.
well,
This
that
is what
hurts.
happens with the accountability hour. It's going to hurt for a couple
It hurts.
weeks, and then it's going to feel really, really good.
By next pod, he will have the tower
yes.
going with cigars in it.
Yep.
And
And I
you'll
do have
send-
a big shipment
you'll
of
send
cigars
us-
coming now, so
you'll
I've
send
got to
us
get it done.
pics.
Here's your deadline.
I've got to get it
Here's
done.
your deadline.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day. It needs to be up and running.
I'm going to work on it tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm home tomorrow.
You're gonna sheet pan gift yourself a
I'm
Yeah,
home.
and,
Yeah.
and by the way, you know what I
Cake.
do?
I
When
would like that.
When I reorganize my humidor, which isn't very often because
Mm.
I'm a little bit of a pig pen. I'm not like Senator.
I'm very
Who
anal
like
about
lines
my,
up
yeah.
the fucking bands and shit. And
The
on
bands.
on his singles, and they point in the same direction.
He's fastidious.
Have you guys ever seen American Psycho?
really?
Senator.
Is that, yeah. Yeah. My humidor is just like a Tetris kit. But anyway,
All plugged together.
yeah, all just what I can jam in. But anyway, but what I do actually, because I keep guitars and stuff too, acoustic guitars down in where I keep it. What I'll do is I have this thing called the Venta, VENTA, which is an air cleaner and a humidifier, but it's not like a fucking Vicks humidifier, like one of the tobacconists we know runs in his humidor that just you put like in a baby's room.
Oof.
It's not like from the 70s. It's not that. It actually recycles air, cleans it, and humidifies the air. They're made in Switzerland. They're really good. They're good for keeping instruments out of their case. What I do is I actually get the humidity up in that room. You guys have seen my little room.
Yeah.
I get the humidity up to about 52, which is good, perfect for instruments, right? So then when I open the humidor,
It's not a.
it's not a shit show
not
to
jarring.
get it. It's not like
Yeah.
shocking to it. So
Oh, cool.
I do that. So if you want to run, if it's in a small enough area,
No.
get it a little humid in there, so you're not fighting to like get the whole thing back
Yeah,
up,
I'm
because
not-
it's not going to take 2 seconds to do the loading.
Yeah, plus
So-
it's in the
and
cellar.
organize it.
It is
It's
in
in
a
the
cellar,
cellar,
but
so it's
Puba,
gonna
I
be
saw
more
his
humid.
room. He's got a cool setup. He's got his desk there. He's got all his guitars, and it's a separate room from the rest of the cellar level. That's kind of cool. I don't have that. I've got one
so
big
you're
room
gonna,
down
You're
there.
gonna build a separate room. That's what you're waiting for.
You gotta build it, man.
How would he be able to do that?
I get
Does
it.
he know how to do that?
I'm not,
He's
I
waiting
never
for
said
an
I'm doing
addition.
that.
He's putting an addition.
I am not doing that.
He would have to charge himself $77,000 to build the wall.
You could also
He's a contractor. He'd invoice himself. I'm sorry. Hi, Bam.
Honey,
this is Bam. I'm
yeah.
sorry. We're behind schedule and 40% overestimate. I can't get the humidor in. That's what he called himself. I'm sorry. I know the materials are there. It's just we're on other jobs. I can't install my own humidor.
Pagoda,
Bam, this is Bam.
I can't afford myself. I cannot afford
The
myself.
timeline's blown. He even, as a contractor, he even blew his own timeline.
Bam, this is Bam.
Pagoda,
Bam. Hi, this is Bam. I'm really sorry. I've blown my own timeline.
Pagoda, can you please rescue me, please?
Listen, the only thing I remember is I think we were supposed to order it at the same time I did. I've had the humidor
but I
running
had
for
a
over
delay.
a year. Right?
No.
We were at
It
Brick
took
House,
an
I think.
extra. It took an extra 6 months to get my humidor.
Shocking.
Because you didn't order
Karma's
it right
a bitch.
Yeah, kind of.
You know, since you have had the humidor, Pagoda's wife has like changed the hinges on it 5 times.
Can I just say,
What the fuck,
this
man?
is a fucking onslaught. This is abuse.
This is called
Abuse?
accountability.
What do you expect?
I'm gonna cry soon.
That's what we're going for.
Hi, hello.
At least you
hello.
have you got
Hello.
the-
This is hello. Hi. How you doing? Hi. This is no. This is Bam. No. I know that the job was supposed to be done.
Can you kill his mic, please?
The materials
Kill his
are
mic.
the materials are in. It's just getting it in the schedule right now is getting help is difficult.
Yeah.
It's been very tough right
Labor's
there.
not available.
Supply
There's
chains
no
are
labor.
a problem, and prices are going up.
Pooba,
He's
Pooba.
charging himself like more money.
Yeah.
Pooba, please. Leave Bam the Tupper man alone. Tupperware man alone.
I'm sorry.
All right.
It's
Okay.
too easy.
All right.
All right. So we're going to stop the pile on now.
Okay.
What we've processed this issue together.
Yes.
What takeaways? What's the delta? What takeaways do you have here? And what are your action items moving forward?
Well, I've realized I have no friends in the room.
He's gonna make a punch list and then do nothing. And never show up again.
He's missing the door.
I'm
Go to
sorry.
the Tower
This is too
Power.
easy. It's too easy.
Hold on.
All right. So what are your action items here? What are the takeaways?
Well, I gotta wipe the thing out, get my Oasis in, seal it up, and get my cigars in there. That's
All right.
it.
And what's your timeline?
2
Valentine's
days.
Day.
He said tomorrow.
Tomorrow. I'll
Okay.
get it done tomorrow.
All right. Good.
I got estimates to write. I got fuck it. I'm putting it all aside. I'm gonna do this tomorrow morning.
We have
Only thing that
listeners.
you need to seal up is
Tomorrow
the
morning.
electrical box in the back. You
And
have
the
to
door.
seal around it.
That means
And-
April.
And the weather stripping around the door. Yep.
That's it.
24.
Yes.
And on the weather stripping, like the thinnest kind you can possibly get,
Yeah, I've got that foam.
but super thin.
It's like an
if
eighth
it's
of an inch.
thick, it's not going to
Yeah,
close.
eighth of an inch.
So
Probably right.
for the listeners out there who've emailed us asking, what's the status?
No
here?
one's emailed you.
What's up with Bam?
No one has emailed.
Please keep the emails
no
coming.
one. I know.
I've seen.
No one has emailed you.
Join the accountability. Help us help Bam. So speaking of truth, we as the lizards,
Why are you looking at me?
we were, to put it lightly, we were tricked.
You are
flabbergasted.
Misled.
Giz, you are disavowed.
There's only one word to describe
Flabberga-
it.
I wasn't.
Bamboozled
bamboozled.
all of us. Bamboozled all of us.
We were bamboozled.
And how did I do that?
Okay, so let's go back.
Look at my
listener,
face. I'm starting to get scared.
to the
What are we
listeners-
talking about?
Stand by, Bam Bam.
I'm moving my mic.
To the listeners who didn't get a
Pipe
chance
down.
to listen to last week's episode, we did, as Grinder so eloquently called it, the Bam Bam Accountability Hour, where we really torched Bam on his 9-month escapade to move his tower 25 feet from his garage to inside his house.
It took 7 months to get to my house, by the
And
way.
then, okay. And I thought you moved your mic. And then not only season it, but also fill it with his cigars. So we did the Bam Bam Accountability Hour. We really rallied together. It was an intervention, really. I mean, would anybody disagree? And Bam Bam delivered.
Yes.
I'll be
But
honest.
Bam Bam delivered
Well, hold on.
He
Put it this way, folks.
over-delivered.
Over-delivered and delivered things that we had no idea he was capable of delivering when he sent a picture of his absolutely jam-packed
Yeah, but
full tower.
You have to go back,
But
a
it's
step,
not-
just a step back.
hold on.
When
You
he's,
hold on.
When he's,
I am not a
you're not
connoisseur
allowed
like
to
the
talk
connoisseur
yet. You're not
corner.
allowed to talk yet. Hold
Yeah,
on.
I'm going to cut your mic. You always say to cut mics. I'm cutting yours.
All right,
move
you
the
have to go back to the picture that he sent. It was 6 gallons of distilled water in the back seat.
By the way, he needed a quart.
ready
I know.
to
I know.
douse that tower down like he's gonna soak those fucking shelves
I
in the
did.
distilled water.
And I did do that. I did.
All right,
You should not do that.
I know.
you don't need 6. All right,
It was like he
anyway.
needs a quart.
You're gonna warp the wood.
So,
So-
I did have the tower in my basement a long time ago. I seasoned it and I just forgot about it. I admit
How did you
that.
forget about it? We're busting your balls
No,
about it. every
I just
week.
didn't. I didn't
Every
bother.
week.
You
We
know,
talked about it
I've
10
got
times.
these huge Tupperdoors full of boxes of cigars, and I had the tower there, and I was like, you know what, I'm good for now.
So
So, I just went on.
So for the listener out
Puba,
there,
I moved on with my life.
I wish I could pull clips and play it for how many times our friend Bam Bam. And what hurts the most about this is to be misled is one thing, but to be misled by one of our own,
Misled?
it really
Oh,
hurts.
yeah.
I want to know how I misled
Oh
you.
yeah.
When you how many times on the podcast, my friend, have you said, you know, you guys have way more than I
You
do?
do have more than I do.
That's a lie.
Really?
That's not-
That's a categorical lie.
I don't believe you.
Well, we got a picture,
Now,
listeners.
How many? Hold on. How many 50 cabs of Lucy do you have?
I've never denied it though.
You have
Guess
450
Bam,
Lucy's.
Bam. Guess how many
I have
have.
one.
And guess how many I have? One.
I
But
have
you
one.
make it sound like
There you go.
I and we all have so much more than you.
How many sharks do you have?
How many boxes?
1.75 boxes.
Yes.
That's more than I have.
I have
more than I
0.5.
I'm happy to share.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, now we hear those words. I'm happy to share.
I
He's
am
got
happy to
like
share.
Coronas Claros in there.
He's got everything. So
Everything
listen,
you
to
could
just
imagine.
to really
He's got
build
4
on what
boxes of D4s.
to just expound
3
on what Gizmo
PSP boxes.
All right, hold on. I want
to
let's
expound
finish
on what
this up.
Gizmo was saying there.
You'll get your opportunity to defend.
The point is, Bam,
Tomorrow.
for years now we have heard
Years?
years. I've known you for years. For years, we have heard, I don't have as many 6 as you guys have. You guys have these big full towers.
You guys know
I just
more than
have,
I
you know,
do.
desktop humidors and a Tupperware. I don't have the same collection you guys do, all this
Don't.
stuff. And so we're very nice and we've been very charitable and we give you a lot of these sticks thinking that you don't have them. All of a sudden, you send a photograph of your full to the brim tower saying, I have more I can't even fit in the tower. I'm now filling desktop humidors with my excess and I'm probably going to need Tupperware. And let me just recount a little of what's in the photo.
Okay.
In the photo, there is a box of Partagas E2, QD54, Partagas Maduro 1, Monty 2,
Fuck
Bellicosos
You have the
Finos,
photo open
Punch-
now?
No,
I do
no,
too.
You gave
I'm
us
pulling it
you
up
gave
too.
us
Oh, I
your
gave you
running
the
log.
inventory.
I'm reading your inventory. Punch, 3 boxes of D4s, Partagas P2, Boulevard Royal Corona, Boulevard Petite Corona, Juan Lopez #1.
By the way,
A 50, let me finish. A 50 cab of Partagas shorts, Upman half Corona, Upman Anahado, H. Upman Connoisseur A, H. Upman Mag 46. What? Short to punch, Mag 54, Upman #2, 3 boxes
Yeah,
of
but this
Upman
is-
#2.
but this is not anything
Monte
that-
Cristo
Come on.
Edmundo, Trinidad Colonialis, 2 fucking boxes of Trinidad Fundadores, Monte Linnea.
Fuck off!
Yeah, but
He
you
has-
have that, and
he
so
has,
do you.
He has more than a box of LGC #4, 1.25
Yeah,
boxes
but I have
in his
no.
thing.
Come on.
He has Vegas.
No,
Urbana-
no, come on.
No.
Thank you.
That's all courtesy of
Thank
Rooster.
you.
It's courtesy
Thank
of Rooster.
you.
Now, I can I
Here's
just
the
say,
setup.
And hold on.
Hold on, you'll get your opportunity.
The best for last. He has a 50 cab of Lucy's.
yes. Now,
Bam, this is Bam.
This is wait a minute. This is just the front row.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
This
don't
is
know
only
what's-
what we
I don't-
see.
We don't know what's behind it.
Can't
find it.
some of that stuff is Tetris like in there. You know,
So here's
I have to say something. I've been inspired by all of you.
Oh,
no,
here we
it's
go.
true. Look.
Don't humble
Clearly.
yourself.
I
Ben.
don't have Schwa Supreme. That's a cigar that I
Oh
love.
my God.
I need to get
Oh
this
my
cigar.
God. I'll give you my Schwa
I
Supreme
don't-
if you'll give me your fundies, Bam. Like
You
if you
got
want
it.
that. Like
I
that.
don't
Got your schwa right here, baby.
I have no 898 Partagas. I have
All right,
none.
hold on. All right,
poor
hold on.
you.
Primo.
Okay.
Poor you.
Listen, we could go through the whole catalog. Here's my point. Okay. My point is you have portrayed yourself as a man who's been left out of groups, as a man who's
Early
been-
on.
No,
early.
you still do
early
it.
No. Well, I like
As
the
a man who
you know
got-
what?
You still do it.
I like the cathartic nature of it. Okay.
Yeah, this is very
I do.
cathartic for
I
me.
do. It is
very,
cathartic.
I'm feeling very
I
cathartic
enjoy
right now.
the cathartic nature of it.
This is very cathartic. So you have put yourself out as a guy who doesn't know how to source, doesn't have the resources, doesn't have the time, doesn't have the energy. Certainly, I've never been offered boxes from Bam Bam. I don't know if any
I'm
of
gonna
you
offer
have.
you.
No.
I don't know if any
with
of you
your
have.
catalog that you have. I'm going to offer you.
Yeah, but
To me, I look at all of you.
Bam,
honestly,
you have as many
Hold on.
sticks as I do.
I don't know
yes,
about that.
That is true.
That's a fact.
No,
Bam, we both have the same tower, and both of them are full. We
I
have the
look
same
at,
sticks.
I do look at all of you as operating at a higher level in sourcing and in the selection of the cigars that you have, and I'm trying to aspire to that.
Yeah.
I
So
really
are
am.
these like all
Honestly.
20 boxes?
No.
No, I have some.
21
I do
box?
have
No.
some age stuff. Like I've got 24. My oldest cigar is the LGC 4s and 2s.
Well,
that-
yeah.
yeah.
Obviously.
But that's all courtesy of Rooster.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've got 2014 Upmans, and that's the oldest cigar.
I
that
know
I
that.
do not have 2014
I don't
Upmans.
have any.
Gizmo, do you?
I
don't
only
have
have.
I do.
I've got that jar.
I don't.
You do.
Oh, the Noellas.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I have
Noellas.
a jar of those.
A jar of
I
those.
thought you meant the
So
other two.
here-
Those are incredible.
To Bam's defense,
Well, thank you
couple-
for sharing those. I've never tried one.
I know, and I want to bring you one.
I've asked you for them.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have. You sent a photo of that jar.
I am
I said,
gonna-
well, I would
hold
like
on.
to try one of those. And
That
Bam,
is-
like, huh?
that cigar-
Sure.
I have only been asking for fundies for the last 6 months.
I have a few for you. Right. Hold on.
Okay.
I know. All right, Grinder, go
all
ahead.
All right. In Bam's defense, couple things. One,
For the listener.
couple
I am-
things.
I am,
Grinder.
I
Let him
am
defend
pulling
you.
out
Grinder.
for the listeners.
Couple things.
Grinder.
Let me just say.
Let
couple
Grinder
things.
be his defense attorney. He needs it. believe me.
One thing. At least one
I said
thing.
5.
So
Not gonna happen.
Fiver.
Not
can,
happening.
can we
We
all?
have a box and a half. All right.
Go ahead.
I mean, I felt so bad for you. I gave you like a selection of sticks for your birthday because I
dude.
actually that was beyond what
I
I'd
was-
give anyone else because I
Bro,
felt
I was blown
I
away.
didn't
felt
have
bad
anything.
because I felt
No,
like you didn't
but
have anything.
I'm learning. I was
trying.
when you gave me that sampler, dude, it was off the charts. Puba's sampler that he gave me.
Give it back.
because I
No,
felt bad.
no.
No, but I actually did it. My motivation, I was like, Bam Bam doesn't have like a ton of cigars, Cuban cigars. He's always complained he doesn't have a ton. So maybe I'll give him a sampler for his birthday. So I give him this like phenomenal aged sampler stick.
It was awesome.
And Senator's like, you're a lunatic. What do you, this is like, and I said, no.
Yeah, I'm like, what is he? What is he
but-
dying?
hold
I
on.
mean,
Like, what is he dying? But that's
I
what he
mean,
was
based
like.
on the selection, I'm like, this is like
yeah.
on someone's deathbed. What
All
you
right,
give
I'm
them.
looking
right,
right
so-
at Rooster.
so-
Rooster, when he gave me that sampler, I didn't have what I have now in my catalog. I don't. I've grown
What, did you
to
get it in the
learn.
last 3
I
weeks?
gave him a
I-
Vegas Rabina and an
Look,
LGO.
that was
What I've
Yeah,
learned for
that was
this, Bam,
phenomenal.
But
is
you
that
have LGO4s. You have boxes, apparently.
No,
of
I have
LGO
zero
of
of those.
LaGloria Cabana number 4s, and I'm gifting you this shit,
All right.
not even knowing that you fucking have them.
I am-
and,
The
I've got like 8 in my humidor.
I am pledging. I am making a pledge. I am happy to democratically distribute and share.
you know what I'm saying?
we've
Yes,
been
I'm
waiting
doing
years
this
to hear
thing.
these
The
words.
whole point of this, Bam.
It's
Let me
like-
just say the whole point.
Am I
of this-
wrong? Am I not?
Not
too
at
wrong?
all.
We're on the
Not
same
at all.
page.
We
Pagoda.
all got
He's
bamboozled.
got
That's
boxes
Pagoda.
of fucking LGO number 4s.
Pagoda, you
I've
have
got
to
8. I'm giving him 1.
Pagoda, you
I
and
know.
Pagoda, you and I are at the same level, right?
No,
We're-
he does not.
I don't have anything.
What planet are we living on?
How about this?
We're eye to eye.
Crazy.
I got a cab of Rasses, and he says, "Yeah, I'm willing to get some from you. How much of you want to give? 5, 10. I've given some to Dave. I got 1 cab, and I'm sharing it over here.
Well, it's
That's
a-
it. Now we got to be doing.
He does
barter.
not have a full tower.
business. It's a business exchange. That's fine.
Here's what I'm going to say. Let me just say this, okay?
It's unreal.
It's you have created a perception
I did not mean to
among the
deceive.
lizards.
Oh, you had to.
No.
You can't have that
Can
many
I-
cigars
can I
in
be
your
honest?
home.
Applying malice.
Hold on.
I am.
So,
I
here's
am.
one thing.
I'm taking this a step further.
No,
Your Honor.
Hold on. I have to interrupt. For the listener, I'll admit, I did not have the inspiration to set up my tower until these guys.
That's not what this
two
is
separate
about.
issues.
No, I
not
know
what this
that.
is about.
But it's I didn't actually know what I had.
This is
'cause
about having a stockpile.
I
Like
was
there's
just
going to be a
buying.
nuclear event.
No, I was
and
buying.
you pretending like you have nothing.
Can I just say, I was going to be.
It's like
I
he's
was
got,
going
he's got a closet full of hand sanitizer in the middle of the pandemic.
Yes.
And he's accepting hand
Thank
sanitizer.
you. Exactly.
I'm starting to feel attacked. I'm starting to resent the implication.
Let me just say,
We're feeling
I was,
attacked.
I was ready to come to your defense, and then you just literally pulled yourself up to the crucifixion, up to the cross.
What did I do?
Just the lunacy of this whole commentary.
Oh, I
comparing
agree.
yourself to Pagoda. We see the picture on the fucking
Tower.
tower.
It's full to the brim.
You've cornered the market, buddy.
No, I don't think so.
All right, so Bam Bam, here's the problem.
I don't. think so.
And let's go back to the accountability hour. The
All right.
Grinder so eloquently called out.
I-
Here we are. No. Hold on. Let's just listen.
I need some scotch.
Here,
We've got bourbon.
here we are.
It's really good.
Here we are,
Widow
the six
Jane.
of us. Let's ex-BAM. The six of us are sitting here last week going, we really need to help this guy put himself in a position that he can really start feel confident to start acquiring some boxes and really stop telling us how we're on a different level and we have more access or we have more resources
be-
and we
every
have
time
towers,
we're
Start an aging program.
aging programs,
See, I'm-
etc. And
Every time we're smoking, Bam saying,
Can
"Can
I
I have
just-
one of those?
hold
Can I have
on.
one of those? I don't have that. I don't have that."
Hold on. So the aging program literally just started this past week.
because
I
you just
just- I
fired
just
up your
loaded-
tower.
That's right.
But they've
This
been
is-
aging in the Tupperware because you didn't buy them this week, Bam Bam.
That's what I want to
I've had
say.
them for a while. I haven't. I don't actually.
Thank you.
Hold on. I didn't know what I had.
All right, let
I
your
didn't. Hold
attorney
on.
speak.
I really didn't know what I had until
Excuse me. Let me play your defense.
Thank you.
On behalf.
Let me
Please.
tell you this.
So
Let me just say he's doing a better job
This
than
is
you are.
this
I
is
need a
we
defense
have
attorney.
we have to reflect on the temporal nature of this discussion. When he bought those cigars, when you all bought a lot of cigars, we
Oh.
all bought a lot of cigars.
Connoisseur corner.
We had a good few months there where we were spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on cigars.
You
As
were.
was
And
he.
Bam, as we all were, but Bam's line of the party at that time was, "You guys got to help me. I can't do this," and everyone was helping, right?
But
Since
Grindr,
then, this
just
is a year and a half ago.
just a quick
He-
point of information there. Bam has been towing that line up until he set up that
I
tower.
know. I
know.
Not just a while ago, literally as recent as last week.
I'll be honest.
I'll be so here's
I didn't know what I had. I really didn't know what I had.
but that's where I'm coming. Like he,
I didn't know what I had.
the guy admits that he forgot it was in the fucking
I,
garage.
didn't, I really didn't know
I
what
wouldn't
I
be
had.
surprised if he forgot that he had these cigars.
So, counselor, are you pleading insanity on his behalf?
I'm just
Look
saying.
at Pooba.
I'm
He's
just
holding
saying.
his head in his hand. I don't like that.
I'm just saying. Let's have a little grace in the
Grace,
a little
really?
grace. A
Really?
little
Do you know
grace.
how many?
Do you know how much grace we
many-
showed?
Do you know how much grace I have shown this guy?
he has
More
You have.
grace. I've gotten him
I'm
more.
giving
All of us
boxes.
have.
I'm giving you fucking
You too.
cigars from a decade ago
No, I know.
for your birthday to try and get you moving in the right direction.
Pooba, Rooster, Gizmo. You had my back.
Meanwhile, you got boxes of these things
I didn't
stuck
know.
away.
I really didn't know.
So he is pleading insanity.
I didn't know.
So you belong to the same groups that we belong to. First of all, you know the
I-
same sites that we source the cigars from,
yes.
right? But still, I mean, we were kind of in the dark that you had this selection.
I will
That you
tell
had
you.
those-
And look, I will just say this is the last problem for me.
Problem.
Problem. Yes, this is a problem. This is a problem. If it hasn't been clear, this is a problem.
Pooba, this is actually a problem?
This is a problem.
This whole
This is a
conversation's
problem.
insane.
This is the last problem. You've set all of us here. So what's been established now at this point, you have literally the same amount of cigars I do. Maybe the same Rooster does.
No fucking
Probably the
way.
same-
Probably more.
No way.
He
There's
has
no
just a
way.
tower. He
All
has
right,
just
hold
a
on.
tower.
Come on.
Don't put
let's
Rooster
I
and I
think
in
that's
that
a little-
conversation.
let's
think
enter the realm of reality,
Okay,
please.
all right, hold on. I'll take Rooster
Gizmo,
out.
All right, hold on.
Rooster, and
I'll t-
Pooba. You got your
No, no,
catalogs
no,
are
no,
off
no,
the
no, no, no.
charts.
Hold
Come
on.
on. give
Pooba
me a
has
break.
a tower full. Is that correct?
I have one tower full, a lot of which
a lot
is
of age
aged
shit.
stuff.
Yes.
Right. So he has a tower full of sticks. You and I have a tower full of sticks.
Yes.
Pagoda has how much of a tower?
50%.
50% of a
50%.
tower.
Now,
Now hang
Grinder
on.
has
hang
a
on.
double wide.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Yeah, and it's
He
chock
does.
full. I know that.
I didn't mention Grinder in that.
All right.
Now, what I'm saying is, I think that you would sit here and say that Pooba and I have been very generous to you with cigars. Have
you
we
have.
not?
Yes. Now,
Would you say that you have reciprocated that?
are you saying that I haven't reciprocated? Is that true?
I think I am. Yes.
Yes.
I think I am.
What the F?
This is the Bam Bam Accountability Hour.
This is crazy.
Are you going to deny that?
He's reaching, by the way, for the listener. He's holding two Fundadores in his hands.
Trinidad's.
I asked for a $5. The ones that
Now
I
we
gave
weren't.
to him.
Look, no one was offended when we thought you had no cigars. But when you show a full tower with as great sticks as you
I'll be
have, I'm
honest.
sitting there saying, "Well,
So-
that's funny. No one's ever offered me anything in that
I'll be
tower."
honest.
Wait, Senator, you're
So hold
forgetting
on.
that he also
I will
has
be
2
honest.
desktops.
I've had you at my place. I've opened
Yeah,
a tower.
but-
Pick what
No,
you
no,
want.
no, no.
You take a
The
classic.
desktops are bullshit. I will tell you that I didn't know. I really didn't know everything that I had because I just threw everything in a Tupperware and I forgot about it. I did.
Here's what I'm going to say.
And I had my desktops. Let's go to that.
All right.
Do you have
desktop.
any more Tupperwares too, right?
No, I actually just made my tower. It's just perfect amount of stock. The one desktop is New Worlds, and one is from our trip to Cuba. All those really wet
Yeah,
Cubans that we got.
yeah.
And that's all I have.
All right. So here's
Outside the tower.
here's my question. Okay. My question is that you have had 6, 7, however many Tupperware containers sitting around.
Yeah.
I understand that you may not know every single
didn't know.
box that
I
you
really
have
did
in
not
there.
know.
But it's as if you forgot you had these containers of Tupperware the way that you operate.
I didn't know what I had. I'm going to be blunt. It's honest.
Insanity.
Yeah,
He's pleading insanity.
No, it's not. It's ignorance. It's
Yeah, a
not-
little
yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
honestly. So I just forgot about it because I was, I'm not going to give you
He
any
is-
excuses.
So, I guess.
I mean,
here,
he is a
just to-
manbo. I mean,
just to put a fine point on it. Just to put a fine point on what
I don't know what
Gizmo's
to
saying.
say, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, listen. What Gizmo's saying there is, okay, I'm willing to accept that you forgot. What just would have been nice is not for years hearing, I have nothing.
You guys
it's
have
like
so
one
much
thing
more
to
than
say,
I
like,
do.
I don't know what I have. That's
Okay.
one thing. But to actively tell us regularly,
Can I tell you what
I
it
have
was?
nothing. I have so little. You guys have. It's creating this perception
Do
that
you
you
know
have
how many
nothing. So
times-
we're sitting
He's
here
not
like
wrong.
a fucking
No,
charity.
We were bamboozled.
He's not
We
wrong.
were
We were
bamboozled.
Hold on.
we were
You know-
bamboozled.
You know what it was? I was intimidated by all
Oh,
you got.
Jesus.
You had the Lucy's, you had the 898s, you had the Schwa Supreme. These are cigars that for me seem unattainable.
I
And
just-
hold on.
Bullshit.
They're aged up in
This is
twos.
ridiculous.
I have 3 boxes of those, but they're like
You
20.
have 2014. I don't have
No,
2014.
no. They're
I-
2018s. Those 3 are 2018.
On the advice of counsel, I insist that you plead the fifth.
Okay. I am, ladies. So for the listener, I'm moving my mic away.
You're digging a fucking hole, man. It's hard.
I thought it was moved away.
Listen,
you have the same. So, thanks to this group, and thanks to the group that we belong to, and all of the all of the work that everybody collectively has done to be able to source Cuban cigars. You have all of those clearly as
I've learned.
exemplified by
I've learned.
your tower.
Dude,
And
I've learned a lot from you guys.
Right.
I have.
So I think that the ongoing narrative that Senator has pounded into the ground here, is something
With BAM, it needs to be pounded into the ground.
clearly
Pound Town.
that this is something that you have to take a hard look at yourself and look at this as an opportunity for improvement.
and
As
for
I
the
agree.
listener,
I agree.
again, I find
know,
this.
I mean,
This
I
is
don't know
hard.
what-
Bam. As Grinder
All right.
said last week, Bam Bam.
I'm
The same
on
way,
board.
if
I'm on
the-
board. I'm
And,
on
and the
board.
thing I'll say, if the
Cuba,
shoe was
thank
on
you.
the other foot, you'd feel similarly.
Well,
If I told you that I have
I
nothing
know.
and I sent you that photo with a full tower and you were giving me sticks because you felt bad, you would sit there and say, "What the? How does this guy have all
I
this?"
don't
they're
know
not even partial boxes.
I don't
Can
know.
I-
what-
can I raise a
I don't
question?
know what to say
Can I
anymore.
raise a point here?
Senator,
Bam,
they're
Bam.
not even partial boxes.
They're full boxes.
They're full boxes.
He's got extra singles, by the way. We're not even getting into that. He sent those pictures too. We got 6 pictures.
I
Grinder.
thought I would impress you guys. I've actually.
Oh,
Done
we
the
were
opposite.
impressed.
It is. It's
You
impressive.
incriminated yourself.
I'm trying to keep up with you guys. It feels.
So Grinder made a point last week as we were going through the Bam Bam Accountability Hour, and he made a point.
I can't believe that
I
this
don't
is
know
a
if I'm
thing.
gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna say. Well, I mean, how could it not be at this point? Okay, this is a sin. Grinder made a point that the Bam Bam Accountability Hour, accountability, it's going to hurt for a few weeks, and then it's going to really start
So
to feel better. You're going to feel better. So what you need to do is internalize this deep criticism
I have,
of your own habits.
and I am.
Really,
Yeah, I am.
you're on the defense.
No. You know what? I've internalized it, and
So-
I continue to do so.
What is your what is your client? Talk to us. Grinder.
There's a couple things again that I wanted to say. One, I think we should use this moment as a pivot
to use a common parlance of the day.
Thank you.
We're gonna pivot away from the past and look forward.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're a new man. You're
Thank you. I am.
You're so in it. You're going to fucking Cuba on a whim. You're smoking Cuban cigars for a week in Cuba. You're a Cuban aficionado, man.
Dude, honestly, that's exact. And I'm
So-
riding on the coattails of Gizmo.
Can
So
I say, by the way,
you've
riding
taken-
on my coattails, I was in Cuba for
No
a
doubt.
week with this guy. You would have thought that he's never seen a Cuban cigar before.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay,
why?
You would have never thought that
No
this guy
way.
had
Rooster.
I
I
don't-
walked
I don't
into a
believe it.
Partagas shop over there. I felt
Let me
like I
tell you,
was in
his
heaven.
tower has way
It
more
was
Partagas
heavenly.
than the Partagas shop has.
I don't know about that.
So you have bam. You have
100%.
you have the 2,500 sticks in the tower, in the season tower.
Mm.
You have a collection that is resoundingly phenomenal.
It's excellent.
It's wonderful. Cigars we all love and enjoy every day.
You have, I
And-
would say, more Cubans than Grinder does.
Absolutely. 100%.
I think Bond Roberts is gonna
100%
be
Fact.
Fact. Total fact. And I would say that at this moment, you're one of the most enlightened cigar aficionados
No.
in the Gen Pop,
I'm not-
as they say. In
no,
the Gen
no, no.
Pop.
I don't
in the
know.
Gen Pop.
This humility exercise ends today.
So you
Come on.
need to understand that you got it going on, man.
So I'm
Looking forward. You're all
it's easy
upside.
to
So
buy.
no more woe is me.
It's very difficult to understand what you're buying. And I'm trying to learn about what I'm buying.
Totally. I want some Coronas Claros. I want
You
a
got it.
Fundadores.
You got it.
I want a fucking LGO.
Okay.
This is bullshit. I fucking I mean, am I nuts?
no.
Uh,
No.
I
Can I just-
imagine, by
can
the
I
way, when I
echo?
got that picture, what I was imagining, Puba, was Bam Bam sitting there and saying, Bam, this is Bam.
Yeah.
We have way more stock than we expected.
It's true. It's
I-
true.
right.
And I wouldn't have done it if you guys didn't inspire
But
me
let's-
to do it.
this-
I would not have done it.
This podcast would not be the same without your malfeasance.
It's time. It's time.
Agreed.
My malfeasance.
It's time to reciprocate.
Okay, you got it.
The theme is when you have a lot, you share, as we all do.
Honestly, I think all of you are much more sophisticated buyers of Cuban cigars.
Enough of that.
Come on.
This is not
Get off the
about-
Hold on. Gizmo knows where I buy my cigars. There's two guys.
Yeah,
that
me.
No, you and two other guys at
Bam,
6'2", and that's
guess what? This has
They're in
nothing
this
to
room.
do with the source. We're
Well,
not
it
sitting here
does.
like,
It
you
does.
sourced
Oh,
from this
come
guy, we
on.
sourced from...
No,
No,
that's
Bam,
not true.
Bam,
Not
you've
true?
missed the point. You've missed the point.
All
This
right.
has nothing to do with, well, I sourced from this guy and you sourced
Well,
from that guy. It has to do with when you have a lot,
Listen,
you
I've
share.
learned. Okay.
That's what the moral of the
So,
story is.
Puba, I'm looking at you. I have learned a lesson tonight. I have learned a lesson.
When we talked about the Vegas Urbana Clásicos, right? When we talked about it, I actually listened to the episode.
You fucking guys have
I
boxes of that
actually-
shit. I
No.
have,
we don't.
no,
I have-
What
I
are you, a
have-
fucking
I have-
lunatic?
I have 3.
I have half a box, and I gave you your first one you ever
Yes, you
smoked.
did. Yes, you did, Senator.
All right,
That
so hold on.
Because
inspired
that's what
me.
a generous person
when we
does.
That
talk
inspired
about,
me.
So listen, I want you to walk away from this conversation with this notion. And if anyone disagrees, raise your hand. The smoking cigar, think about it. Smoking cigars and sharing cigars with people is part of the pastime and the hobby. It's actually intrinsic to it. So
Don't make me cry.
so think about that when we do a review of whatever it is, whether it's the Monte Cristo, whatever special cigars you have. All I can say is, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but all I'll say is every special cigar that I've ever sourced,
Yeah.
I've shared with the group.
Same here.
Same here.
Period.
Can I?
Every single special
Okay.
cigar that
All
I've
right.
ever sourced
Can
in
I?
my life, I've shared with the group.
Can
Spot
I-
on.
Can I say this?
Spot on.
My tower is your tower. All of you. And
Well,
I
that's
am,
how all of us think.
absolutely.
So I'm just
with
saying.
you. And I'm just getting my tower now.
You've had it for 9 months.
I know.
I
And
gave
you've- and
away.
you've-
I just wanna be
gave
clear.
away.
I've been
That
inspired-
Classicos was so good.
It was
I
incredible.
gave away more Classicos
Bro,
than I smoked.
can I tell you that
Am I
class-
wrong?
No.
I gave away more than I smoked
know
when
how
I
good it
first
was,
saw
Sam.
them because I said this cigar's so good. I can't just enjoy this alone.
That
I
fucking
must share it.
Classico, that
But that
Classico
goes
was the
for every
catalyst.
cigar.
Brother, that cigar was a catalyst to all of our Cuban
Okay,
experience.
fine. So,
And
so
and
what
the
I'm
opening
trying
of
to
the Cuban Vitola.
So
for
he's
us, the
saying
catalog
then
for
you
us.
should reciprocate is what he's saying.
in other words, that is the
Agreed.
the part of this hobby that is
100%.
actually integral to it. So in my mind, my mentality is well, what am I going to just smoke this in a vacuum? Am I just going to smoke this and enjoy that? Well, it's not enjoyable unless you share the experience with somebody else.
That's right.
So you gotta.
I
I
agree.
mean, when
Of course,
Rooster
of
comes,
course.
okay,
I know.
and
I
he
know.
goes, "Hey, everybody!" He brings not just 7. He brings the whole fucking box and goes, "Here, guys, pick the one. Pick one. Look at the foot and pick one that you like." He goes that far to do that. So what I'm saying is that this is the mentality I
Agreed.
think of the hobby,
I agree.
and that's what should be done.
I don't
Period.
disagree.
Hard stop.
I don't disagree. And my tower is all of your towers.
What does that mean?
That's a good question, Rooster.
Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. That's what should be done. That's
Agreed.
what we all do in this group.
That's true.
Like
now,
to Puba's point,
until-
nothing brings me more joy. We all, now we've established, you too, Bam, you have to be able to say this.
I am.
We all have tremendous collections. All of us. Literally,
do.
every person sitting here.
I can
Nothing
only
brings me more joy than when one of the guys here actually doesn't have something that I just happen to have.
right.
And that I can provide because we're all very hard to shop for. So as soon as like Rooster asked for fundies the other day, I said, I'm going to come here and watch football. And I finally have something that I can give Rooster that's going to make his afternoon. And I'm going to bring him a fundie. If Puba doesn't have something like remember you ran out of Classicos before you got the most recent box.
That's correct.
And it was your birthday coming up. And I was like, you know what I'm going to give him?
And
a
he gave me a
Classicos.
very special fucking
And so
sampler.
a 2011, a whole sampler, exactly. A H. Culebra, all this stuff. Like
right.
nothing brings me more joy. And every person here is the same way. So what we're saying is like, now that you have to accept, like you actually have a tremendous collection. If I say, hey, I've never had that before, I would hope that you would want to actually share something.
Of course.
So
and now that I've clearly defined my catalog, I don't know how it compares to yours, but honestly, I would love to share what
listen,
I have.
All right, here's
I would
the
love
one
to
thing.
share what I have.
This is we are at a moment now.
Yes.
We have accomplished what
Thank
we
you.
needed to accomplish.
Can we move on?
No,
I
we
just-
are not done.
I just
we are
want to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
The episode that we did the Classicos on, like a
Yes.
perfect example.
Right.
I brought what I had after we did the 2011. I also have the 2001, and you have the 2001s.
I have 3.
You think
One
you-
of yours is in my box.
All right, so that day
I have
you
2.
brought
Of course it is.
you brought the 2001 and you didn't have the 2011 for
Right.
the pod.
Mm.
And I said, well, that's why I brought extras so I can hand them out to whoever doesn't have one. I gave one
I
to
did the
Pagoda.
same.
That's right. And I did the same. I brought extras.
I
I
brought
brought
extras.
And I gave
3
one
or
to
4
you
with me.
I
because-
saw that, Puba. I
Because
saw
when
that.
you're potting, you want to be smoking the same cigar so you can have
Sure.
the same experience. So that's the point. Like if I smoke a cigar the first time alone, I can't wait to share that cigar with all the lizards. Whether we pot or not on it, I mean,
Right.
it's just you want to share, and hopefully other lizards have the same experience. And that's why
course.
that's what this hobby is
course.
all about.
Of course.
That's what cigars are all about.
Yeah, of
It's-
course.
It's about sharing.
And I haven't gotten into all of my cigars that I have. Like
Okay,
I've smoked
so-
all those cigars, but I haven't really I haven't delved into them.
How does that jar of Noella smoke?
You're gonna know soon.
Okay, so
So I
here's-
think you know.
all right,
You
so
will.
here's
They're great.
yeah.
Gizmo has a jar of those. We're gonna have those.
I've
as a
never
group.
opened. I
Yeah,
haven't
of course.
opened.
from
Gizmo.
Gizmo's jar.
From Gizmo.
No.
Jar. It's like you can't get out of this.
Are you serious? I'll bring the whole fucking
right, so-
jar and
all right,
put it on
okay.
that table.
Okay, all right. The dead horse.
The horse is dead.
Is officially beaten to the point that we needed to. Now,
Yes.
there's a few things that we need to do to wrap up the Bam Bam Accountability Hour.
There's
Okay?
more.
What is
There
not
is.
over yet?
And
To
this
the
is-
listener.
This
To the
is an
listener.
exercise.
Is
This
this where-
is clinical, guys.
This is
So-
an exercise.
Is this where he does
This
the blood
is-
oath?
This is crazy.
This is an exercise.
This is crazy.
Branding.
This is. I'm getting a brand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're getting the lizard brand.
This
Bam
is
Bam.
this is crazy.
Listen to me.
I mean, more and more where the Cuban prices are going, you're always looking for something.
Wow, that's true.
Something
It's funny you
gives
say
you
that.
satisfaction
I
out
was
of a new world cigar.
Standing in front of my tower, looking for a cigar to pick for tonight.
Your unlit tower, by the way.
Yeah, I don't.
We
have
just
my-
learned this today.
Oh,
Gizmo,
brother.
you
oh
missed
my
this.
god!
Can we avoid
What?
this
He has
topic?
not put the LED
Wait.
lights
We need
in
to talk
all
about
this
this.
time.
We need to
God.
talk about this.
Okay, come
We
on.
do?
You don't have the.
All right, hold on. We got to end the year. We started the year with the Bam Bam Accountability Hour.
So let's continue
this
the
is
hammer.
the final episode of 2023, and I'm just learning that you don't have the LED lights
He's
in your
got
tower.
he's got a flashlight on top
Takes
of the tower.
5 minutes to put them in.
Pagoda,
It's
you know,
embarrassing.
God.
Pagoda, I need to have a discussion with you on the side. I'm just too nice. I offer too much information. I got to keep stuff to myself.
You're not wrong.
I do agree with that.
What am I doing?
How long would it take you to put the lights in?
About 20 minutes.
Less.
And
Yeah,
you haven't
less.
found any time in the last 52 weeks.
That's great. I haven't thought about it. The room that it's in, it's really well lit. I have no issues. Although I looked at your tower when you open that door, beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Bam.
So I got to get to it.
You got to
could
get
be
to
yours,
it.
I got to get to it.
It changes.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say about the lighting. It changes the container that your cigars are in from just a piece of wood or a storage container. It turns it into a piece of furniture.
Well, everything's illuminated in there.
It turns it into something that, for me, Mrs. Gizmo comes in and goes, you know what? That looks really nice. Like
It does.
she's really
It does.
impressed by it.
Yeah.
So it reduces the amount of painful conversation that we have when I buy
Yes.
cigars, because I'm like, look at how good it looks.
Can I get to my point though? I was avoiding I try to avoid going for as many of my cigar inventories as I want now because of the price.
Yeah,
So
same here.
Yeah, I go from more New Worlds recently, and occasionally I'll grab a Cuban.
Is it because you can't find them?
Because it's so dark? No.
We spent a lot of time this year talking about the FDA, lawsuits, and legislation. We all hope Congress will finally act. The FDA, as we know, was granted authority to regulate premium cigar business in 2016. In response, of course, the entire industry, namely the Trade Association, the Cigar Association of America, sued the FDA significantly, and now it's under appeal after, as I said, Judge Mehta ruled in favor of the cigar industry. And what I love is that the proposal for exemption cited the findings of a 2022 study by the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, the acronym is NASEM, pointing out that, quote, premium cigars are used virtually exclusively by adults. Premium cigar use is extremely limited, and premium cigar use poses less physical risk than the use of other tobacco products. So, of course, the FDA is angling that children have access to this, that it has the same effects of tobacco that you inhale or that you put in your lip, you know, that are quite, for the entire experience, sitting inside your body in some way. Obviously, with what we do, that's not the case. What I love is that I want to list this out because I don't think we've done it. So to be classified as premium, in order to qualify for exemption, it has to be wrapped in whole tobacco leaf, contain 100% leaf tobacco binder, contain at least 50% long filler tobacco, which obviously everything that we smoke on this podcast,
That's true.
we smoke, in this lifestyle of ours, is all long filler, premium hand rolled stuff, is handmade or hand rolled, meaning that absolutely no machinery was used apart from very simple tools such as scissors or something, has no filter, non-tobacco tip or non-tobacco mouthpiece. So the Philly blunts that you love, Bam, those are unfortunately not included here.
Can you make sure they're blueberry, please?
They do not have.
Oh wait, the plastic tip has to be white.
It does not have a characterizing flavor other than tobacco. So I want to hold that one for a second. Contains only tobacco water and vegetable gum, obviously vegetable gum using to seal the wrapper and the cap and whatnot, and weighing more than 6 pounds per 1,000 units. So let's go back to one of these, which I think we've discussed on the podcast before. Senator kind of detailed some of the stuff that the Cigar Association of America was talking about with flavored cigars. So one of the characteristics here is it does not have a flavor other than tobacco. So that is where the flavored cigars from Acid, you know, some of the other cigars out there that are very popular. You joked about blueberry,
But those
some
are
of
all
coffee.
they're all machine made cigars. All of those flavored cigars are machine made. The majority of them, especially the lower level sticks.
Is Acid a premium hand rolled product? I believe it is.
It is hand rolled, but the other cigars like the Philly Blunt and all that, those are
Of
machine.
course.
Yeah.
So let's exclude the
clear
gas station
distinction.
stuff. But there are some cigars
Yeah, you're
like
right.
the Acids
You're
that,
right.
that are, long filler. Every other characterization that we just listed here is the case, but there is added flavor into it to give that smoker what they want.
So,
That is still a target
But that's not
outside of this.
That's
bill.
not done so that they're not really going after the kids. right? I mean, that's still for adults who
Yeah.
like a flavored cigar.
Yeah. Now, I will say that I think, doesn't the manufacturer, don't they all have to start towing the line and create a distinction in their product? If they're going to make a flavored cigar, they can't call it a premium cigar. They just can't. And they shouldn't.
I think the way that Drew Estate and Senator can talk about this, let's just focus on
Yeah,
Drew Estate with the
sure.
acid cigars. I think the way that they view that, because I've experienced this with friends of mine, is it's a good entry product into what we do.
Yeah, it's true.
So I have a very specific friend I'm thinking of who now listens to the podcast, purchases cigars that we smoke, enjoy it. He started with acid.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like his journeying into understanding what premium tobacco tasted like with a little added flavor. And then kind of like, a lot of coffee drinkers start with cream and sugar and they
Yeah.
start to
They
work their
graduate.
way down
And they
to just
yeah.
drinking coffee black.
Right.
So I think that's the way Drew Estate has approached it. But unfortunately, the FDA looks at that as a big red mark.
Yeah, I agree. I think everything Gizmo said is 100% accurate. And the reality is, at the end of the day, if the product is designed only for adult consumption, which as much as I don't personally like acid cigars, they are designed for adult consumption. They're not marketing them to children. And I actually really like the coffee analogy in the sense that like it's an entry point. I mean, I've met countless people whose first cigar was an acid cigar. And, I look sometimes when I'm in a cigar lounge and I see women smoking a cigar, and half of them sometimes I see with like an acid blondie or something that's going to be like light and sweet and just like they want the same enjoyment. They want to sit there and have conversation and enjoy a smoke and relax, but they're not used to, the strength of flavor that we enjoy at this point in our journey. And so as much as I don't particularly care about or care for the product itself, who's the government to say that an adult can't make that decision and have that product? And that's, I think, what it comes down to. In my conversation with David Osgob, who's the CEO at CAA, I mean, that's their point. It's just like, if we're to accept that government can tell someone that a grown adult can't choose to smoke a flavored cigar that is only marketed for that adult, then why wouldn't they be able to regulate us and prevent us from smoking these that we do like? And that's the slippery slope argument that becomes really problematic. And that conversation is what made me even come around, because I never cared really about what happened with flavored cigars because I don't smoke them. But if they can do that with flavored cigars, then why can't they do it with anything that we like?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that, another slippery slope too, Rooster, I'm looking at you. Obviously, around the holidays, you love to smoke a pipe. Right. And a lot of pipe tobacco is flavored. And we know a lot of the guys at our lounge at 1086.
And we all love the aroma.
And we love the aroma, and they really enjoy that as a companion piece to their regular cigar. Maybe it's something different, or it requires a little less time. Is that the next step that we're going to ban? We're going to ban tobacco for pipes?
I also, by the way, your coffee analogy, the next time I meet with the CAA folks, I want them to start using this. I mean, the reason I say this, just think about this, apply this to kids.
You got to give him credit.
I just did.
You better give the CAA guys credit. That's Gizmo.
No. It's brilliant. But here's why, right? I want to connect this back. You were just talking about flavored pipe tobacco.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to the coffee analogy. I mean, think of how silly this is. Everybody would say that little children should not be drinking coffee and having a lot of caffeine, right? No one is giving a 10-year-old coffee.
No.
Right? And so coffee is marketed toward adults. But there are kids, of course, who try to have coffee.
Sure.
So are we going to say that we should ban flavored coffee? Now, again, I don't consume much flavored coffee, but there's nothing wrong with grown adults having a French vanilla roast or a hazelnut roast or all these different flavored coffees.
Or
that exist.
forget all that, loading up with sugar.
Right.
Yeah.
My stepson works at Starbucks. He comes home and sometimes will tell us some of the orders that come through. Like people will order like a frappuccino with like 19 pumps of syrup.
That beverage is over 1,000 calories.
And with the
Alone.
it's crazy what these people
It's
add
insane.
to it. So maybe it is a better
Which I would
analogy than I
argue
even
is
thought.
more dangerous than any cigar that
Of
anybody's
course it
consumed.
is.
It's true.
Dude, also some of the energy drinks that kids are
Yes.
into.
Oh,
they
it's
are
awful.
There's a lot of caffeine in them.
And soda,
They're-
the teens love going to Quick Check and 7-Eleven, getting the big gulp.
Yeah.
That's why the operative thing from a regulatory standpoint, we're not sitting here saying nothing should be regulated. Obviously, there is a purpose to some regulation. The point is, it shouldn't be marketed toward children. And as long as it is marketed toward adults, adults should be able to choose whatever they want.
Yeah. And the onus is on the retailer to make sure that they're not selling to minors.
That's right.
Exactly.
Honestly,
Exactly.
that's where the line gets crossed.
And I think, I've been in a lot of cigar shops. I know we all have. Have you guys ever seen a child in there? Have you guys ever seen a 20-year-old in there?
No.
No.
A 25-year-old even. I mean, it's
Well,
just
outside of myself at 20.
well, you're a little different, but I mean,
He was
it's just
smoking
not part of
cigars
our
at
culture.
16.
It's not part of our culture. It's like I just think about, the way your taste buds develop, moving from adolescence into young adulthood into adulthood. I don't even think you can appreciate black coffee or a cigar until your brain is fully developed, your palate is fully developed, where you're not walking into the grocery aisle looking to pick up candy bars on the way out. I mean, you have to be a little older to do that. I just don't think that what we do here falls under that same thing.
Not at all.
Which is unfortunate. So what's nice too, I was just reading that it has bipartisan support. There's 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans who are into this bill. So we'll see if it passes. I doubt it will, like you said, Senator, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. But hopefully, the push keeps happening, that the FDA has overstepped its bounds. And I'll be honest, I think it has better things to do than worry about what adult men and women are smoking in the privacy of their own lounges or homes or garages like we're in tonight, whatever it may be, This podcast is built on our love of premium cigars. And in this next clip, we discuss the powerful moments our time with cigars can create. No, but think about how many other cigars you have in your tower, even if
Yeah.
you bought them today.
Yeah.
Okay?
He doesn't have that many.
And
Nah, I'm still, trying to build.
let's hypothetically say your tower is quite full.
Okay.
Hypothetically.
Oh, we have the full inventory.
I know we do.
We
I
have
know.
photo
I'm
proof.
trying to be kind. No, but seriously, dead serious. Like, think about how many great cigars you have in there that when he is ready,
Mm-hmm.
when he gets to that age that it's time,
Yep.
like how amazing that experience is going to be for you to be able to select what that's going to be
That's right.
and then present that to him and to introduce him to this beautiful
I
lifestyle.
agree. I can't wait for that moment.
Yeah. What you'll have to prepare yourself for, though, are the odds that first cigar he may not enjoy that much.
Of
It's
course.
true. And I want to find something that he'll tolerate, that's smooth and simple and elegant, but very flavorful. And I'll have a conversation with him about how it was made, where it was made, the blend.
And when you bought that ticket for that experience.
The
You
ticket's
know what I mean?
bought and it's in the tower.
Like, when did you buy that box?
That's fantastic.
10 years ago?
Absolutely. Yeah.
12 years ago? 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And why is that the perfect cigar?
Right.
For
But
that moment? All of that.
it goes with this whole notion that you're presenting.
It
It's awesome.
starts this
It's fantastic.
conversation with every person that you pull something out of your tower with,
Totally.
whether
agree.
they smoke or not. Just the moment you sit down, this is a commitment
Yep.
to whatever it's going to be,
Yeah.
and run with it.
I love that you take this passion so seriously that you're equating it to like the other great love in your life, which is like buying tickets to a rock show.
Yeah,
you
music.
know?
Yeah.
You know? And that's so cool.
Yeah. Because I think about, it's funny you say that, because I think about, like, when I think about important moments in my life with people, even with Bam, okay? One of the most memorable moments I have with Bam is when he and I went to the Dead and Company show together.
That was
On
great.
a whim,
That was awesome.
last minute, we
Yep.
bought a ticket
No hesitation.
and we went and we had a great experience together. We had a cigar, we went
Steaks.
to Peter Luger's,
Oh yeah.
and we had a great night. And it's like, this is just another example of that same exact
Right.
opportunity.
It's the catalyst.
And
Yeah.
instead of another person or another group creating it, we're creating it.
Right.
We're issuing the tickets,
Yeah. And it's a great way to kind of, dog your certain chapters in your life and certain moments, underscore that time.
Yeah, it's like my buddy, my friend had a baby today, which
Oh,
I know obviously you and
congrats.
Senator have had kids fairly recently. The other guys, everybody in the room has kids, but it's like, think about those cigars, celebrating the birth of your children or celebrating milestones, birthdays when they first start walking and talking and becoming human beings.
I can see Senator Jr. with an 80th in his hand.
He's
I'll
already
tell you,
asked.
He might beat Bam Jr. to the punch.
He might.
My son, when he was a few weeks old, I've got a great photo of him trying to crawl toward a Padron box.
That's exactly what I was. By the way, I was just about to say
and
that.
in fact, his first proper crawl, and I think I sent you guys video of this, was him trying to crawl toward and grab an issue of Cigar Aficionado.
Oh,
Who was on the cover? Cigar Vixen?
Oh yeah. Now we talking.
baby lizard.
So, a lot of people also try to acquire boxes that correspond with their kids' birthdays.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And they smoke one every year,
Right.
and you get 25 years of that.
Amazing.
That's an amazing experience.
It is.
And then also just pulling it back, taking the nostalgia out of it, to have a box of cigars and smoke one annually, and compare the experience year 1, year 2 versus 5, 10, taking the nostalgia out of it.
The
just saying,
chronological experience
yes,
of that. Yeah.
like here's where this
tremendous.
cigar was a year ago
Oh,
versus
yeah.
5 years ago. That journey's amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
think we summed this up really well when we did one of the Cuba episodes, and we were talking about the time we sat in the Partagas shop and we're signing the guest book, and it's like you're sitting there reflecting on all these experiences in your life that Partagas has been a part of.
Yeah.
And that's what made it emotional. Even when you're signing that book, you're thinking like, wow, some of the greatest moments of my entire life
Yep.
have involved that cigar.
And I know you know what you smoked because I won't ever forget that moment.
Yeah.
You know what you smoked that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very memorable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It is a wonderful mechanism to instill reflection in your life, because I think that's important for any person to have reflection in your life. You're not really a human being, a conscious human being, if you don't reflect. And to have this part of our regular agenda protocol every day, we're spending time to take time out, right? We're extracting this time and say we're gonna make this our own. We're gonna transform it in the way we want to. This experience is gonna be ours. We're gonna share it with others as we see fit, and it's gonna be something special. And I think it's great to have that. Put aside health benefits or lack of benefits,
Detriments.
Wow.
detriments.
The
Yes.
stress relief alone is
Well, that helps,
beneficial.
sure. But to have that mental space that you have set aside every day, it's therapeutic.
And to piggyback on that just slightly. So when we're all together, it's very late at night, we're tired. Someone looks around, making sure.
It says, "Let's order Wendy's."
No, you see a cigar coming out of a case, and you think to yourself, should I go home or should I have another cigar? And I stay because you want to continue that feeling. Regardless of how tired you are, those moments are awesome.
Out of
Shoulda
the
stayed or
other
shoulda go?
guy's box.
That'd be nice.
Rooster playing Pagoda tonight.
I have no shame. None.
Cigars are all about sharing anyway.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
So what's your feeling on the nostalgia piece of this, or the ticketing thing that we threw out?
I don't know. My kids were kind of born in the dark period, so I don't go after this. Leah was born
The cigar
in
boom.
2001.
The cigar boom.
Yeah.
So no, but you're right. I mean, there's certain cigars that kind of I associate like from the year that she was born, and then I do smoke that, every so often, and I kind of reminisce about that moment. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember the cigar you smoked when your first daughter was born?
No.
Or the
not
second
really.
daughter?
Too long ago.
Too long
Too
ago?
long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that for me, that millennium is that timestamp for me.
Yeah.
I think the other thing on all of this is this is building on what Grinder was saying. It just gives you it always gives you perspective. Like you sit there and you have a cigar and you're sitting there saying to yourself, wow, I spent $15 on this cigar, let's say. I'm having a phenomenal experience. I don't need to go somewhere fancy or special. I don't need to spend any significant sum of money to have some of the best experiences that I've had in my life. It's just been with a $15 cigar, sitting with a group of guys like this, and just the conversation and the exchange, the reflection, all of these things, that perspective, I feel like this helps you keep that all the time, which I really love.
That's true.
I mean, some of the best experiences that I have had are like smoking a cigar alone in the garage.
That's true too.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Just it's so peaceful.
Yeah, absolutely.
A few of the guys decided to prank Rooster, and let's just say it didn't go over well.
Speaking of Rooster, so I missed
Oh yeah.
an event.
You
so
didn't miss anything.
So for the listener, this
it was a revelation.
This has been teed up for me.
I'm about to burst.
So for the listener, we all the lizards got together, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there.
And it was a rather sad occasion.
It was a sad occasion,
Yeah.
but the 6 of the lizards were there. I was not, and I've gotten some very loose, confusing, sly reference notes about this lizard meeting, and I'm told there's a story.
Oh, there's a story.
And I need to hear this, and the listeners need to hear this.
Senator, you have the floor.
This is why we're here. So forget the cigar. Let's go.
I'll tell it because this was fun for me in that I kind of just got to watch this whole thing unfold, and thank God I was not part of orchestrating it. So we were at Pagoda's. I do kind of want to just mention the occasion because I think it's just a nice call out. Pagoda's mom unfortunately recently passed. May she rest in peace. And we had a great day.
Yeah. They're
Obviously,
supporting Pagoda. Yeah.
Thank you,
sure.
guys.
Yeah. Of
They're
course,
supporting
of course.
Pagoda and, remembering Pagoda's mother, who clearly is an amazing person. We've obviously been so lucky to get to know Pagoda over these last few years. And it was later into the evening. And, at this point, I think it was kind of, morning in the morning and in the afternoon, and then kind of just trying to celebrate her life and unwind late in the day. And Puba got there first of the lizards?
Yes.
Okay, so Puba was there first with Pagoda. I showed up next, and then Bam was there for his second shift of the day.
That's right. I was there
Rooster,
earlier.
by the
and
way,
I came
Rooster's
back.
already starting to boil.
And so
Look at his face.
I sit down and I go to light a cigar, pour myself a drink, and I just like Puba and
Well, hold
Pagoda
on.
are just cracking up.
Rooster showed up without any cigars.
I texted.
Right?
That's right.
I
right.
said, I don't have any. I'm coming from work. I
That's
don't have
right.
any cigars. Can somebody spot me one?
And of course,
Oh.
everyone said,
Oh, because
sure.
after the morning when I saw you, you were going to work,
Right.
and then after work you were going right to Pagoda's.
That's right.
So you didn't go home to get cigars.
I mean, I didn't expect like we were going
Got
to be
it.
hanging
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
or-
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Puba was the very first to respond when Rooster said, like, can anyone bring me a cigar? And he's like, I've got plenty of cigars, no problem. So I get there and Puba and Pagoda are just clearly something is so funny. They're just laughing. They seem in like this great mood. I'm like, what is going on? They're like, wait till we tell you what we have planned when Rooster gets here.
But here's the thing. Like, I was observing. I didn't know what was going on. Senator, you knew much more than I did. But Puba looked like the cat that swallowed the mouse. Literally.
So true. It's
He,
so true.
he had a smile on his face from
So true.
ear to ear, texting somebody. I don't know who. Maybe this guy to my right.
Pagoda.
It's
Go
so
ahead.
true. I couldn't even look at Puba during it. He was ready to just burst
It
out
was
laughing.
ridiculous.
And so I'm like, what is so funny? And Puma's like, all right, let me tell you what we've done. So he goes, you know how Rooster said he needed cigars? He's like, so I have plenty of cigars, but I was talking with Pagoda and we had this idea. And we went down into his tower and said, what's the worst cigar that's in here? What's the worst cigar that
Oh, I
you
love
have
it.
buried somewhere
By
in
the
the
way,
back of this tower?
I'm just staring at Rooster. My eyes are not moving. I'm right on you, buddy.
I'm looking the other way.
I'm looking right at him.
I'm looking at Pagoda.
That's right. That's the triangle. Senator, continue.
Oh, gosh.
This is excellent.
And so apparently they found, what was the stick, Pagoda?
Zeno.
Oh,
It was a
geez.
Zeno.
It was a Zeno. So they found some
It was a
Zeno
Zeno
cigar.
Davidoff.
It was.
Oh gosh.
But here's
That was
yeah.
a 54 ring gauge.
it was a
It was a
perfect
Toro
replica of that QD that he did.
of the QD54. So Puba had a QD54. He
Swapped
took
the
the
bands.
band off, put it on the
Yeah.
Zeno, and they're holding this cigar in front of me. They're like, look at this thing. And I'm looking at him like, the construction's not the best, but maybe it'll pass. Who
the
knows?
color was perfect.
The
I
color
thought.
was. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah.
I
and
couldn't
so-
tell.
Oh, well, that indictment is coming down the road.
And so Rooster gets there, and Puba opens up his case. Oh, Rooster, I've got a cigar for you. It's a QD54 2018 aged. And Rooster's like, oh, great, good cigar.
Did Puba drop the code? Did he say MSU or anything like that, or was it just 2018?
Yeah, I think he's just said the year.
I think just the
He
year.
said 2018.
And
And
then
I had not smoked a lot of the QD. I mean, I smoked the 50
Yeah.
and the Coronas Claros,
Right,
but not
right.
a lot of the 54s.
Sure.
But
so next thing you know, Rooster's lighting this thing up.
That's
He's-
a good attempt at couching. Go ahead. By the way.
He's lighting this thing up. He's sitting there puffing away, and we're all looking like. I think the expectation was that he'd take a few puffs and be like, "What the hell am I smoking? This is not a QD." And he's puffing away. Next thing you know, he's like halfway through the cigar.
Loving it, by the way.
Puba, like, loving it.
He was loving the cigar.
And Puba's just.
it was better than this,
You know what? You're right.
wasn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it was- how would
probably
you
true.
know?
I don't know. Anything's better than this.
He was
right
in on it.
now. No.
And so I don't know, maybe 3/4 of the way through, 2/3 of the way through, finally everyone's kind of looking around, laughing, like, we got to tell. I mean, this is just bad. So Pagoda, I think, broke the news to him.
Well, right at that point, right when you were going to say that, the cigar started to split.
It did.
And
It
was
started
like
unraveling.
It was on the last
Oh,
third.
man.
It just started to split. I was like, something is not right. I mean, but that it could happen to any cigar.
Sure.
So
Yeah, sure.
I had no idea.
Especially, I mean,
That's
listen,
that's how bad my palate is. I can't tell.
Oh no! Don't break my heart.
So then once Pagoda revealed what had actually happened, Rooster was already plotting his vengeance.
Oh yeah.
oh,
He was not pleased.
You know what it is? Rarely do we have anything on Rooster when it comes to his cigar prowess. Rarely ever.
Forgive but never forget.
That's right.
What? Oh my Lord! I've been nervous since that day.
Just make sure we're around when this happens. Whatever. it
when
is.
Rooster, by the way, when Rooster showed up tonight, Pagoda went to shake his hand, and Rooster squeezed his hand so hard that Pagoda's like, "Dude, you just crushed my hand." Like the payback is ongoing here.
Pagoda's been sleeping with the lights on ever since.
I really have.
So the retaliation is not limited to cigars, by the way.
Oh no!
You know the funny thing, when they broke the news to him, the first thing that you said, well, it's not that bad.
but then he
wasn't
proceeded to throw it down in the ashtray.
Immediately.
But it had already cracked by then. I was putting it down.
Good excuse.
so. It was-
Yeah,
It was a well executed prank. I have to give them that.
I mean, it's
Oh,
hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to get Rooster, but that's a good.
Very
that's,
hard
That's
to
a
get.
good one.
and then the funny thing that you missed was Puba and Pagoda going back and forth about who originated the idea. It wasn't me. No, it was you. No,
they,
it wasn't.
they were both backtracking. I mean, Pagoda's like, no, it was your idea. Puba's like, no, it was your idea.
We don't know whose it was, by the way.
I think it was probably Senator's idea.
It might have
Listen,
been.
it very well could have been.
I actually thought you hatched the scheme.
No,
Senator.
that's right. I was so thrilled that I got there late, which was not expected. I had a childcare issue. And I was thrilled once I did because I was like, oh boy, Rooster's not going to be happy about this. And I'm in the clear on this one this time.
Forget about the hour of atonement for him. He's got to go on a pip.
Yeah,
Lizard pip.
Lizard Pip.
But I'll tell you, the fun part was, going down to the tower and then
Picking the right cigar.
looking for cigars, and we were like, and Zeno happened to be the worst cigar I had over there, and we pull it up, and then we removed the band, but it was so difficult to put the QD 54 band on. It was just what an exercise it was, and we were laughing. We were like two giddy kids just having a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
I mean, I must say the band wasn't loose. It didn't just like slide off. I mean, it was on there.
On
They
the-
worked it on there.
Well done
Yeah,
prank.
good job deceiving.
Yeah.
Their hands were all over that
It
cigar.
wasn't deceiving. Please don't say deceiving. It was just a prank.
Connoisseur corners
It
in
was
question
deceiving.
now.
Yeah.
And
It was-
you can, and
It
you,
was deceitful.
you can only remember you can only do it for to the people you love. So the fun pranks.
I love you so much.
You're going to know how much he
I'm
loves
in
you.
trouble. I'm in trouble.
Senator tried to breach Lizard Protocol in episode 99 by changing his formal liquor rating, and Pagoda was having none of it. It's not my favorite VSOP we've done.
That wasn't your
Um,
commentary throughout the whole night.
Listen, it was really, really good. I would take the Remy 1738 over
My
this.
heart just dropped into my stomach.
There are some other VSOP type, category cognacs that I would have put above this. So this is definitely an 8 for me.
I think it reminded me of the Heinz Rare. Not reminded me,
I don't know.
but in terms of
I don't see that. I agree with you,
To
Senator.
me,
I
this
disagree.
is more like
Remy.
1738.
Yes.
1730
That's
sweeter,
a fuller body
yeah.
cognac.
Yeah, and there's a hint of sweetness in that 1738 that you don't get in the Hein.
in the Heinz you don't get the sweetness.
Yeah.
I almost want to modify my rating. Oh, this is so
Too late.
You want to go up?
No, he's
No,
going
I want to go
Oh,
down.
you
No.
want to go with me?
Too
Go
late.
Because the
It's
funny
not too
thing
late.
is when
We-
you consider
It's always too
when
late.
you consider
Once
no,
you
it's
rate
not.
it, you're done.
No. In fairness,
By the way,
hasn't
he
given
rates
the-
he rates first every time. So
He hasn't
Fuckers.
given the
Bam
composite
is
score.
what?
Because the only thing, like as you're saying it, what's a little hard for me is when I do compare it to the Hein Rare VSOP,
yeah,
and when I compare it to the
1738.
1738. And the 1738 is the direct comparison. The Hein Rare for me is so different by design
It
that I
is.
don't view these as competing. But the Remy 1738, it's similar price. 1738 is like 65 a bottle.
By the
That's
way,
right.
I want to also mention we did the Remy VSOP in addition to the 1738 on the
Yes,
podcast.
right?
That's kind of right there with this one for me in that 8 or 9 category.
You know what we left
Did
out?
it?
We also did the Courvoisier VSOP.
Yes, we did. I
which
have
was
them all.
insanely affordable. It's
I
like
have them all.
They were like 40 bucks.
But wait a
I
minute.
know.
Didn't we
bottle.
like the 1738 over the Remy VSO?
We did.
We did,
We did.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I think.
All right,
I-
so
All right, no, don't do the rate. I have to change it. I have to.
This
I'm
is
no,
sorry.
you cannot.
It's a-
I'm
hold on.
sorry.
I have to do
It's
it.
too late.
It's not.
We're not allowed to
Rooster's
say
shaking
no.
his head.
No.
This is not right.
is this
No.
is this a breach of
It's
protocol?
a breach of
It is.
protocol.
No,
It's
you
not.
can't.
Yes,
You
it
can-
is.
You
Not
can,
allowed,
rescind, you can
Senator.
rescind a score up to the point of tally.
Correct.
That's the
That's the rule.
Is that a new
No.
rule?
This is
That's
the
the
rule.
rule.
It's
This
like
is
playing
the-
chess. You
What
have
the hell?
This is the
You
rule
have
of the
moved.
chamber, and this chamber
I
operates.
agree with Rooster.
Grinder has spoken.
No, Senator. This is like the chess piece.
Thank you,
move.
Pagoda.
No,
You can't
You're
take
not
your
allowed.
hand
By the way,
off
call
the
to
piece. He took his hand off the piece.
I
It's
did
done.
not. I
The
did
chess
not.
move is
I
not
made his
done.
okay.
I did
I
not.
love, by the way, that it took 99 episodes for us to have this argument.
I know. This is great.
You can't
No,
change
no.
it. No,
I
you
have
cannot.
a rule. I can.
No, you cannot.
Guess what? Pagoda.
No,
It's
you
my
cannot.
rating. That's why I can change it.
I-
I
No,
can't
you
change
cannot.
your
No.
rating, but I can change
No.
my rating.
No, no,
No.
Okay, gentlemen.
My rating,
gentlemen.
I'm sorry. Look, again,
So you're moving to an 8.
I'm moving to an 8 solely because I'm still going to pick up Remy 1738 any day over this,
Yes,
but I will enjoy this, and this
So-
will make its way into the rotation sometimes.
All right.
So I'm giving it an 8. It's still a
Okay,
definite
let's
recommend.
vote.
All right, well,
let's
look.
vote. So
Look.
2 things I want to say on this.
I like
number
that.
one, I'd like to take credit for this significant adjustment.
You know what? You've
Senator
affected.
Brady.
No.
You
Let's,
hold
let's
on.
be clear.
no.
I started by.
Giz.
Let's
He
be
was-
clear.
Giz.
Let's be clear.
No.
I
Giz.
started my rating by saying I'm
Giz, you're the
debating between an
moderator?
8 and a 9.
No.
He didn't need much.
Nobody's allowed to change.
He was
the rating.
barely on the edge there. He
Gizmo?
was generously rounding up. You could see it in his face.
Yes.
If I may, Gizmo has directly influenced Senator.
No, fair
On
enough.
record.
No,
On
but Giz,
record.
All right, one more
but
thing.
Giz will also stand up and say you're not allowed to change the rating, right, Giz?
The other thing I'll say,
Giz, stand up and say you're not allowed to change the rating because we've had multiple times when
It's
we're
true.
between 2 ratings
You
and
have-
if we start changing it based on where whatever our mind changes, we cannot do that.
All right,
so
so
let me go with the first
let me
feeling.
say one thing. Let me say one thing. He's not wrong. You have been rather militant on this.
Yes.
and
You
almost
have.
and almost rude. Might I say?
Yeah. Yes.
So second of
how
all,
am I taking heat?
second
on
of
this?
all,
Because you're the moderator. You
Hey,
could have just
hey.
cut him off.
hey, we're here organically. We're growing. We can look at archaic laws and make a motion to dismiss
Archaic
them and
laws.
understand that they do not suit our time.
All right.
I think we should mature.
So here's the other thing I'll say too, is that if we accept this change,
Then everybody will be changing every rating all the way through.
yeah, that's exactly
I'll go.
right.
I was 9. I'm 7 now.
No, I go back on my word.
it does change
Right.
precedent. You know, it does.
I'm sorry, Senator. I apologize, but this is
the
not
disapproving
where I
nod.
agree
The
with you.
disapproving nod.
which is fair.
All right,
There's no justice in this chamber. No justice.
Giz.
You know
This-
what? Put an
I love
asterisk
it.
next to
I'll
his
put an
rating.
asterisk.
Yeah. You know what? This is the first time.
How about this? Giz?
Pagoda's
He's on
coming in
fire.
hot.
No,
He
but-
is on fire.
You know what? Listen, I kind of contributed to the rating system, and this is. I've got to have a say in this.
He's not wrong. He's also
Here's what I'll say though. Here's what I'll say.
In fairness, your contribution I did honor. I gave it a whole number.
That's
not
true.
a decimal.
Here's what I'll say. The other thing that this does too is it does change the precedent
Mm-hmm.
of the rating system.
Yes, it will.
So that's an important thing to consider, Senator. Is do you want Bam Bam changing his 7 to a 9.
No, there's
Because he did.
guys.
You had a question 2 or 3
And I
episodes
wasn't
ago.
allowed. I wasn't
you weren't
allowed.
You weren't allowed.
Thank you.
So
All right, all right.
I'm
I
making
wasn't
a-
allowed to
I'm
make a
sorry.
change.
All right,
Saturday.
listen. I'm all about what's good for the order. What's
Yes.
good for the order is clearly then not changing it.
Not
So,
changing it.
We're
That's
going to
it.
keep my 9,
Okay.
but I am going to very
Yes,
much
we win.
caveat.
Now you
and flag.
win.
You can convince. You can.
know who wins?
No. You can convince Rooster
Hold
to
on.
give it a 7.
Lizard
Okay.
J.
All right.
Yeah, Rooster, take a sip and give it a 7.
Okay, here we go. So the formal liquor rating
$50.
with Senator's 9 is an 8.8.
Fantastic.
great.
Okay,
I can
so
live with
now,
that.
That's
It's
a
a
good
pretty
rating.
high
It's a good
rating, I think.
I
by
can
the
live
way,
with
it would only change the rating to an 8.6 if he
That's-
did rate it an 8, but we'll keep it as a 9.
Okay.
So it's the formal liquor rating. By the way, I'm glad after 99 episodes, I said formal at some point. Now we understand
formal.
why I said it's formal.
Thank you.
This explains the formality of our rating system. For the listener out there, it's very, very serious.
It's a real thing.
Very,
And-
very
It
serious.
is.
And Lizard J, thank you for the recommend.
we are a pod of lizards, but we are also a pod of laws.
Thank you, Grinder.
Thank
Well
you.
said.
Ooh.
All right, so let's
You
go.
can now send us your invoice.
Let's go through some of the other VSOPs we've done on the pod. One cigar stood above the rest this year in value and in flavor, and almost all of the lizards have added it to our daily rotation. Oliva V's Lancero totally blew us away.
To be specific, I'm an inch down from the end, and I'm still retrohaling on every draw. It's still extremely smooth and so freaking flavorful. It's amazing.
So I finished and with all of the comments about the strength and the nicotine and it even now, like I don't have that like, oh, I just got punched in the face. You know, I
Not at
feel
all.
like I could to your comment earlier,
Yeah,
I could I'll take another one. you
Yeah,
know?
Yeah.
I
I
could
would
do-
smoke another one tonight, like
Thank
you said.
Thank you.
Yep.
I agree.
100%.
Yeah.
I would smoke another one after this. If we had 6 more, we could sit here, turn off the mics, have another one, and have another hour and a half of a great experience.
We're all driving to Gizmos tonight.
No.
Grinders.
Grinders.
Grinders, yeah, there we go.
Grinder's the only one that has them. I don't have any more.
Hi,
Actually,
Mrs.
the
Hi, Mrs.
lounge.
Grinder. We're here.
There's more in the lounge.
Yeah, there might be here. Yeah, there might be some here.
I just think that the thing I'm just so impressed that I'm in the last half inch, and the flavor is completely unchanged. It's not muddled, hasn't fallen off. I'm really stunned.
So, it's rare to see Senator get down that close.
Yeah.
I watch everyone's cigar habits. A lot of guys tend to put down 3, maybe inch and a half from the end. You're about where I am.
Yeah.
And this,
With your toothpick.
yeah, I mean, it's worthy of a perfect draw, just sticking it in there and wrapping this thing up right down to the end.
We ventured into new spirits with ridiculous names this year, and my pronunciation suffered, to the delight of the other guys. Here's a clip of our first taste of Armagnac and 2 others I fumbled.
So, Senator, you mentioned our pairing tonight. You were sipping it. I haven't tried it yet. Oh, God. Here we go. It's the...
What's it called, Giz? You've got the bottle right in front of you.
It's called the...
I can't. I'm sorry. I can't help it.
It's called... I don't want to do this.
Senator, you pronounce it.
Can
will
we
you?
just get
Make
some...
an attempt?
Can
will
we get
you?
some American simple stuff, please? It's called the Boss Armagnac? Armagnac?
Armagnac.
Boss Armagnac.
I thought the first letter was a D. Where are you
It
getting
is.
boss?
No, BAS Armagnac. And the people who make it... Oh, God.
You
It's
can do
the Dartigalong.
What?
Dartigalonge?
It sounded like a dog.
Dartigalonge
I'm not going to
family.
make this
All right,
episode.
all
I can't finish this. You're going to have to cart me
It's
out of
a-
here.
No,
Oh, Jesus.
It's since 1838, the Dartigalonge family.
Hold on. Can we
Tell me how you pronounce
Hold on.
that.
Let's see what Google says. Hold on. Hold on. Dartigalong.
I wasn't
Ah.
that far off. I added
Oh,
one
You
syllable.
said longy.
Dartigalong.
Dartigalong.
Okay, they're the family that produces this for going on almost 200 years. So what is this? This is an XO cognac?
No, an Armagnac.
Yeah, it's an Armagnac.
Oh, I don't even know what that is. What is an Armagnac?
He's going to explain
So-
to you. Right?
This has been fun because obviously I was very bullish on us going down the cognac journey that we have, but I don't know anything about Armagnac. So this was fun. Bam had recommended this bottle because he tried it recently.
I did.
And I was just trying to make sure I understood kind of how these all fit in the world of brandies, which is essentially what is common among cognac, Armagnac, and really anything like it. So the umbrella term for all these things, brandy. Brandy is basically any sort of fermented fruit juice is a brandy. And then if it is made in the cognac region in France, it's a cognac. If it's made in the Armagnac region, then it's an Armagnac.
Oh, interesting.
So it's the same stuff. It's just made in a different place.
Yeah.
Not just that. So then there are some other differences too. That's kind of the first tell. Where it's made would define that, but there's also a bunch of different things that influence how it's made that distinguish a cognac versus an Armagnac. So a cognac is usually made from one type of grape, and I mentioned this on one of our cognac episodes. It's this Uni Blanc white grape. An Armagnac is also made with Uni Blanc, but there are 3 other white grapes that they traditionally make it with as well. So it's usually a blend of 4 different grapes, not just one.
That's interesting.
So that's kind of the second key distinction. The third is the aging process. So cognac, to my surprise, is actually generally skews younger. So I think we talked about the VS, VSOP, and XO being, I think, 2, 4, and maybe 6 or 8 years. With an Armagnac, what we're drinking, which is fairly accessible in their line, it kind of starts at 10 years aged.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So that's also a big difference. And then lastly, the taste that you get in each of them, cognac is meant to be, and actually what corresponds as well, what's the alcohol content on there? I want to, before I say this, make sure that this holds true here.
40%.
40.
40.
Interesting.
40.
Okay.
Wow.
So
That was clear as day. I could read that, no problem.
So cognac tends to be more subtle in kind of the flavor notes and especially the delivery. We all talked about how smooth cognac is. We drink 90% of them neat. Armagnac is more complex and more robust. It drinks more whiskey-like most of the time. So just different styles that bring out different things, but they're all part of the same family in that they're brandies and all from fermented fruit.
I find this to be quite tasty.
It's really good.
Yeah, I like it.
You guys want to talk about our Scotch pairing tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Not really.
Yeah. What's it called?
Yeah. What is it called?
Eggnog.
Anknock? Is that what? Onknock?
Try again.
Have we reviewed so much scotch that we're out of scotch?
Yes.
I mean, this is episode 90. Onkonk?
Try again.
We need grinder.
All right, Senator, cut to the chase.
I would be very.
How many of these
very-
fucking letters are silent?
I would be very happy if I was served this in like United first class. Shit.
The spirit's fantastic.
Let's talk about it.
I gotta tell you, it's really going down nicely.
I
With ice.
don't know how to pronounce this.
I call it Bobenheim.
Baba Ganoush.
Baba Ganoush,
it's-
Bobenheim.
It's the Bunahabhain?
Bundesheim.
Bunahabhain? Elay single malt Scotch whiskey?
The Banaki Bear.
I mean, look at the spelling on that. B-U-N-N-A-H-A-B.
Senator's just letting you go off right now.
H-A-I-N.
No
I know, he's
insistence
loving
at
it.
all.
How do you pronounce that? Does anybody have an idea?
I think it's Bunahabane.
Bunahabhain. Okay, that makes
Okay,
more sense.
nice.
Bunahabhain.
Nice.
Buna.
I've never heard of this.
You haven't?
No.
I haven't
And
either.
I like it a lot.
Although actually from another website I'm hearing that the BH sounds like a V in Gaelic. Grinder would be very proud here. And he would know how to pronounce this. Bunahaven is how they're saying it's pronounced. Bunahaven.
I can picture grinders correcting all of us.
Oh,
right
yeah.
now.
Oh, yeah.
As we were discussing 100-year-old cigars that survived at the bottom of the ocean, Bam said two powerful words he will never live down. Oxygen oxidizes.
But no, it's a crazy story. I mean, they're saying these are like some of the oldest cigars that like you can basically see that somehow have been preserved.
Wow.
How these still exists being down the ocean is beyond me.
They must have been in a great like Tupperware or something,
Yeah.
like a Rubbermaid,
A Gizmo approved Tupperware.
Well, they would
an
have to,
1830s.
but technically though, they would have to be in like a zero oxygen environment for them to stay preserved over such a long period of time.
Yeah.
Oxygen oxidizes.
So it was on the SS Central America.
Yeah, the story is actually pretty cool.
Crazy.
Just when you hear about it. So it says in 1857, the SS Central. What is going on?
I have no idea.
What
Go
just
ahead.
happened?
No, it's just a tidbit from Bam. It was very intellectual.
I don't know.
Pagoda looks at me and just goes,
Oxygen oxidizes. That is
boy.
fantastic.
You need to mute their mics right now.
Oh, man, you know. Yeah.
all right, there's the sugar in our cognac.
And the nicotine.
And the nicotine.
You are all high right now.
You know, there's another thing that I was kind of thinking about when I was driving home or driving here from work. A lot of times you light a cigar on the foot, you get some notes that you don't get like later on. You just kind of get them on the foot,
That's
and
common.
they're really sweet or they're really good, and then it kind of diminishes.
Yep.
So I was like, why is that? Why does that happen? So this is just my theory that maybe this is the reason, because the foot is exposed to oxygen, and oxygen oxidizes, as we all know.
Oh boy.
Were you waiting to say that again?
He set this whole thing up just to say that.
Here we go.
Very elaborate plan you
No, I
have
mean,
here.
like, no, hear me
You know,
out.
you're very talented.
So when you open a bottle of wine, you let it air, right? Because of oxygen. So the foot is exposed to air and oxygen. So, and as the cigar ages, more of the cigar will get exposed to the air and oxygen. So it will kind of mellow out, and you'll get those notes throughout. But if the cigar is kind of fresh, you would get those sweet notes or nice notes right in the beginning, and then it kind of wears off.
Yeah.
Who knew how profound Bam's oxygen oxidizes statement was going to be? Look at
It
this.
works.
He's a genius.
I'll see you tomorrow. You touch it up.
Yeah, I did. Touch it up again a little bit.
I'll give you permission.
Thanks, man. Remember, oxygen oxidizes.
Yes, it does.
Oh boy.
Your oxidization is unbalanced right now. Okay.
By the way, the listeners loved
It just-
oxygen oxidizes.
Yes,
just
I
so
saw the
fresh in my
Instagram
mind.
post. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
We got a lot of memes sent our way. We had Bam Bam, the cartoon Bam Bam with the stick, with the bubble. Oxygen oxidizes.
Oh boy,
Merchandise requests.
that's your fault, Pagoda. It's okay. I take it as love.
It's all love.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it all is.
We celebrated our 100th episode in late October with an amazing Padron, 21-year aged scotch, and champagne. And we shared our appreciation for you, our incredible listeners, and Lizard Nation. Not before we argued over which Padron was better, of course.
All right, boys. So the formal Lizard rating on the Padron, 50 years. The Hammer in Maduro is a 9.9.
Spectacular score. Spectacular.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
It's that
It
good.
works
I
out.
mean, it is.
It's perfect.
It's not good. Did you-
All right, so let's.
I said it's that good.
Oh, it's that good.
I said it's that good.
I stand
It's not
corrected,
good.
dude.
All right, so let's just briefly go through the other Padron ratings we've done on the podcast. We'll go bottom up. Padron 2000 got a 7.5. The Padron 1964 Torpedo and Natural, which we did because it was Cigar Aficionado Cigar of the Year, that got a 8.7. Then we had the Family Reserve, number 85 in Maduro, was a 9.2. Padron 1964 Exclusivo Maduro, which we all love, is a 9.6. This tonight, the Padron Hammer, 50 years in Maduro, got a 9.9. And finally, the Padron 80th anniversary in Maduro that we did on episode 53, our 1 year celebration, was a 10.0. Flat 10.
See?
Yes, sir.
Look.
Senator knew
All
what he
the
was
math-
doing.
all the
No, I
math
Senator knew
works
what he
out.
was
I
doing.
just look. I'm going to challenge everybody a little bit in this group. I'm just again. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this cigar. It's a fantastic cigar. I'm just saying I firmly believe that if everybody in this room truly was as obsessed with this cigar, it's the greatest of all time, we would all stock a lot more of these.
I have
I have literally in my humidor right now, after I just pulled this one, 5 of these. If you were to tell me I could never smoke another one of these again, I'd be mildly disappointed. If you told me I could never have another 80th for the rest of my life, I'd be almost on the brink of tears. I can't not have that cigar.
That's fine.
I just don't feel the same
That's
way
a
about
double
this cigar.
negative. That's a double negative.
So here's what I'll say about
Are
it.
we
Can't
doing
not
grammatical
have-
checks?
All right, so,
I'm just breaking his chops.
so here's what I'd say about it. So
What do you work for the school newspaper?
Yeah.
so for me,
Shut up, Adriana.
so for me, so here's what I'll say in rebuttal to what you just said. Both of these cigars for me are 10s. When I had a great week, when something great happened at work, I just want a really perfect cigar. I reach for the Padron 80th. When I'm celebrating a holiday, a birthday, a milestone, I always reach for this.
There's something to be said
So
about
I
that.
think
Yeah.
that they neither are in competition with each other for me. It's just the moment at which I'm reaching for it. Obviously, the Padron 80th is a $30 cigar. This is a $50 cigar, but I'm reaching for them at different moments, but they're equals to me.
Of course,
they're
they're not-
absolutely parallel.
They can't
to
be
me.
competitors because they're so unique. But if you just the standalone cigars of the for me, the 50th, it's a 10.
Yeah, this is a phenomenal
Yeah,
cigar.
yeah,
It's a richer, fuller experience
it is.
to me.
Yeah,
And if that's your flavor profile,
both are
if
complex.
that's
But here's the
if
interesting
that's
thing.
what
but
you
the-
like, you will love.
I think
The
what Rooster
inter-
said there is exactly
Yeah,
right.
that's true.
Yes,
That's true.
The interesting thing, though, for me about this smoke, in closing, I guess, for me is that typically this would be like it's a richer, stronger thing.
Yeah,
Would be too strong for me.
right.
It wasn't, and it was a big cigar, and it was very, very smooth. I think so for me, the experience is different than what an 80th presents. This was actually kind of big and bold, but it didn't overpower me at all. It was good all the way through and smooth all the way through. So it had all that kind of like muscle, but I was still able to get through the whole thing and really enjoy the whole thing and smoke it slowly. And I think that's a merit. Like the fact that it delivered that much power and was that approachable at the same time showed
Very
us
unique.
a very
Very unique.
sophisticated thing, where the 80th is much more approachable and kind of, if I had to pick one cigar, right, like forever, sure, I'd pick the 80th. But boy, oh boy, for a big cigar with some muscle, for me, the fact and the size of it, I think it's a merit in the smoke.
Yeah.
No, it is a merit in the smoke, because if you had the 90th, I think you'd rate it as an 8. Like that's what my thought would be.
Yeah.
That's a good
Because it's
point.
very, very
So strong.
Too strong.
That
Too
cigar,
strong.
that
and
cigar
this is
kicks you
able to
around.
really just
It does.
Yes.
It kicks you around.
It kicks you around.
It was balanced.
Not
and
not
it's-
Rooster.
Not
Just
Rooster.
looking at Rooster shaking his head.
Rooster's like, I'm
No,
going to have
but
that tomorrow morning for breakfast.
Am I crazy though? But it was like big, but
Yeah,
it was big and bold, but it didn't overpower you.
Yeah, you're not crazy. You're
No,
right
I
on.
agree.
crazy.
I agree
Right
with all
on.
the commentary.
Yeah.
That's why, like, we talk about when would this slot in, and I think even where I'm very understanding of what Gizmo's saying, like, there's a very particular occasion that this cigar slots in
It's
for
also
you.
a $50 cigar.
And
Yeah.
no, totally.
know?
But again, that's the 80th. It's also not a cheap cigar.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, for me, there are certain cigars, like the cigars that I've given 10s are cigars. It's like, a great D4 is a 10, a great Exclusivo is a 10, a great 80th is a 10. Those are cigars I just want all the time.
time.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
agree.
And and again, I'm not saying that everybody should rate that way. Just for me, I have to always crave and want that cigar for it to be a 10. And I just sometimes crave and want this cigar, but not all the time.
It's a
And
good
that's the only
perspective.
reason it was a 9.
It's a good perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
also the size of the cigar.
That too.
Yeah, it's a 6.5
you're not-
inch Toro.
You're not going to
commitment.
pick up this cigar all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
But for special occasions, I mean, this is
Right on.
It can't be
it
beat.
just delivers.
All right, boys. So before we close it out, we have to say thank you to a few folks. First off, we have to say thank you to our host, 1086 Cigars here in Hawthorne, New Jersey, where we record each episode now going on, over a year or a year? So we're very grateful to John, the proprietor here, and 1086. We have to thank our social guy, Max, and before him, Nick, have been really, really helpful helping our socials move because
Beautiful
the seven
work.
of us are not great at it.
No, beautiful work.
And we're not a video podcast, so it's a lot of work. And finally, I think all seven of us can really, really celebrate and thank, because I think we do it every day, the incredible lizards out there who listen to this podcast every single week obsessively, who listen to episodes back and forth and who've listened 2 and 3 times through the entire catalog of 100 episodes. It's really an incredible thing.
Yeah. Sending back comments and criticisms. It's amazing.
Yeah. And now, the emails moving into sending us cigars to review
Spirits.
and spirits to review. I mean, it's really an incredible thing. And I feel very lucky.
And please keep sending us emails, keep sending us feedback.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, these listeners are why we do this. And I think why we stay so excited to continue to
That's
do
exactly right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And because, we keep talking about the community, and this is the extended community, right? We're trying to reach out, and we love to hear from you guys.
Oh, yeah.
And finally, I think the most important thing that I think we've touched on a few times, we've kind of waxed on it a little bit, but this friendship in the room. It's, the podcast is amazing, but the friendship is just really what fuels, we see each other so much outside the podcast, and we have for 2 years now. And to have this podcast is great, but also have this friendship. I mean, you guys are my closest friends in the world now. And it's like, this has just been a beautiful thing. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for joining us. You can find our merch store and ratings archive at our brand new website, loungelizardspod.com. That's loungelizardspod.com. Don't forget to leave us a rating and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. If you have any comments, questions, if you want to reach out, say hello, tell us what you're smoking, email us, hello@loungelizardspod.com. You can also find us on Instagram @loungelizardspod. We really appreciate your time, and we'll see you next week.